Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All
This
right.
might go 2 hours.
Oh, easily. All right. So what I'm gonna do is pour some. Go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
I have T-Rex arms, otherwise I'd help.
T-Rex.
I feel like T-Rexes get a lot done because they couldn't jerk off.
That's funny.
That's a whelp.
That's
a
funny.
good point. No,
I never thought of it that
that
way at
is
all.
a
Never.
good
It never
point.
crossed my
Never.
mind that T-Rex is getting a lot done because they can't jerk off.
And now we can't get that out of my mind.
Now we know why they're so angry.
Yep.
That's even more funny.
It's just pure frustration.
He wasn't chasing that Jeep because he wanted to eat him. He just wanted to jerk him off.
Yeah.
He thought the tires
Like-
would be interesting.
Like if you want to live through Jurassic Park, just reach up and give it a few pulls.
Give it a tug.
Oh my god.
Welcome to what it's like. All right. Warning. What you're about to hear was intended to make you laugh. A lot. If you listen to the show and feel inspired, then that's awesome. But if you're easily offended or just can't take a joke, you should turn this off right now. Otherwise, turn this shit up and hang on. Welcome to the Get Up. All right, that's enough of that.
Yeah, that's a,
I'm JP. Welcome to the Get Up. Today I'm joined by Justin,
in the club, it sounds like.
Kelly,
Hello.
and Delano.
Hey.
And for Justin and Delano, you have the most appearances on the show. This is his third time.
Really?
So
Superstar.
much love, appreciate it. Justin,
time's
this is
the
your
charm.
second time.
Yeah.
We're working
third.
on it.
We're working, right?
I'll catch
Last
up.
time, again, we talked about it at the beginning. I had to take off. Had a family emergency. Kid was in the ER. So we're going to
Yeah.
stick this one out this time.
Yup. Hopefully, right? No
No,
problem.
not even hopefully. We're
No
going to stick it
issues.
out. It's not even
No
hopefully.
issues.
Yeah, everything is situated. We finally got that figured out. You know, surgeries and things like that later. We're here.
And this is Kelly's first time.
Yay.
Kelly, I love Kelly's perspective on stuff. It's hilarious. And
I
I wanted
love
to,
her
and I wanted to
enthusiasm.
get a woman's perspective on some of these topics, right? So this
Yeah.
this episode's going to be the decade in review. So 2019 just ended. We're in the 2020s, and a lot of shit happened in the
Right.
last 10 years. A lot of really crazy stuff.
Before we start, I know it's like the whole decade review, but we absolutely have to stop doing everything and have an 8-second moment of silence for Kobe. All right, cool.
Or 6 seconds.
It was
I
pretty
wasn't
much it was
counting.
close. To
It was
It
close.
was close. I was
Close
counting
enough.
on the fingers.
It's
I mean, there might have been a
the
little
moment
rush,
that
but
counts.
Yeah.
The thought that counts.
so how you guys doing today? Doing good?
Good.
Feeling good?
Not too bad for a Sunday.
For a
And it's
Sunday?
not snowing.
It's not-
It's actually beautiful out there.
Yesterday it was funny. We were grocery shopping, and we were at Meijer, and they have the sleds like in the discount section now. You know. Mm-hmm. I was like, "Oh, you were talking about getting sleds. Let's go get one." She was like, "Yeah, like we're gonna go sledding in this weather." When we walked out, it was like just a downpour of snow, like a
Did you
blizzard.
go back in and buy sleds?
No, I was like, "Oh, so you know." No, because it's gonna be melted all today.
Right.
You know, that's the bad thing with this crazy weather.
I'm
bad.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I don't even talk about the weather because I'm not trying to jinx it.
See, I enjoy
Exactly.
the snow.
No.
I
No.
I love
hate
the
it.
snow.
Nope.
I hate it.
I like the cold. I'll admit. I like the cold so I can layer. I can do what I want to do.
Yeah, I enjoy the cold.
I really don't feel like trudging through slush.
Because
Screw that.
nothing drives me crazier than being hot. Just because, like,
Yep.
when it's really hot, I can take everything off and I'm still miserably hot.
Right.
At least when it's cold, I can just put some more stuff on and be warm and be comfortable.
See, I'm
Yeah.
the complete opposite. I hate being cold because I feel like I can't layer up enough. You know what I mean? Like, and if I layer up too much, then I'll
Really?
be too
Then you're
hot.
too hot?
You know what I mean?
You
I
can't
can't
find that
find
perfect
middle
balance?
ground. And I hate coats. So like,
All
Yeah.
about coats.
yeah, I hate coats. Like, I like
you always
jackets.
get like the stylish coats
Yeah,
too.
I like jackets. Like fall, like this weather right here is my jam.
Yeah.
Like fall weather, all of that. 40 to 60 degrees, I'm here for that. You know, I
Yep.
can do my fall stuff. You get better colors in regards to fashion for the fall. So I'm super excited
These
about
two
fall.
will go on about fashion. We
Yeah,
we
no,
discovered
yeah.
that connection last time.
So I hate it, but
Give me the cold weather. There's nothing more unattractive than a woman walking around with a mustache made of sweat. Let's be honest.
yeah, I can't argue that.
That warm weather brings out a lot of things I don't want to see.
Yep.
Right.
But it brings
Yep.
out a lot
True,
of things
true.
you do want to see too.
True. True.
There's
So-
It
nothing
doesn't
better.
seem to equal out.
There's nothing better than people watching mid-July at Cedar Point.
Oh my God.
It's weird. It's super weird.
People watching. Period.
People
is
watching.
Weird.
I actually had to do
all about the
when I
people
was.
watching.
Oh, me too.
I
It's
am too. Like,
fascinating.
and I had to do that for like a study or something I was doing in college, and you had to give an analysis of all the people you watch and what did you notice about their interpretations and conversations and their body language. It was about studying body language. That's really what it was about. So I just sat in the mall one day and just watched for like 2 hours, and I was just like, people are weird.
Definitely.
People are weird. Me
Very.
included. Everybody has their own idiosyncrasies. So like, funny story, like just going back to how deep I am with music. I used to have to catch the bus a lot when I was in school, like in college. So I would walk to bus stop or walk miles and miles to school, just financially, the reason why. So I would have my headphones on and like I'll be rapping to myself and things of that nature. And a friend of mine's like years later, like ran into me. He's like, "Yo, you good?" He's like really, really concerned. I'm just like, "I'm okay." Like, why are you asking? He's like, "My uncle said he saw you a couple days ago walking down the street. He thought you was talking to yourself." And just, you know what I mean? Like, but because you're people watching, you don't have the full analysis
Right.
of the story. So again, we're all weird.
Well, especially now with headphones, how
Yeah.
small they are.
yeah,
Like,
you
the
don't
earpieces.
even know.
You don't even know they. Look.
You get on the elevator, somebody says "I love you," and
Well,
you
what even
awkwardly have to
throws
say
you
it back. They're on the phone.
Right. What throws it off is like I got in the elevator the other day and this lady didn't have one in her right ear. I'm assuming it must have been
Yeah.
in the ear that I couldn't see because she was having that conversation. I'm like, I don't see headphones. She doesn't have her phone out. Don't see headphones. Like
It is
what
hard to
the
tell
fuck
who
is
the
going
crazy
on?
people are now.
Yes.
It is. It has made it harder.
It is
You
very
used to be
hard
able to just
interpret.
cross the street and be like, I'm going to go over here. Well, on both sides, they're talking to themselves now.
Yeah.
Now
You gotta worry about
now the
that.
crazy people are all online making money.
Yeah.
That is true too, and we can blame that on technology and social media. Way to segue into the deck and recap there.
Yeah.
See what we did?
Hey,
So we were talking about that
Technology.
bringing
earlier,
it
but
home.
like
Exit ramp.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much that the increase in technology has affected. I mean, like social media. One, and we were talking about that before you showed up, but like social media and how like Facebook, Instagram, all these things. How we know they're like selling our data, and people just still don't care. They're just still going along. I mean, me personally, because it's the way that I have to get this stuff out, this content out to the world is through those channels.
But
I
you got to
just
think
don't put
about
personal
it.
shit up.
You got to think about it like this. Do people even recognize how valuable their data is? It doesn't matter to you until it matters to you.
Right.
I think that's the reality of the situation.
Yep.
I think a lot of people have just given up. Like, I
Fuck
don't
it.
even worry about it anymore. I've just
Right.
given it up.
That's
Like,
true.
if it happens, it happens.
Right.
But, after all these breaches, like Facebook breach, Equifax breach, Target breaches, like every single breach, everywhere I go.
Yeah.
I've got notices probably in the last 5-6 years, probably 3 times that my stuff's been compromised, and
I had
we're
my
gonna put it
card,
on there.
my bank card, 3 times in 1 year.
Yep.
The information stolen, and then
Yep.
and even technology's made that easier. The fact that like you can't even trust paying at the pump and stuff anymore because they can just steal your information. It's
Because
That happened to me.
swipers have taken over. Swipers are officially the come up of the decade because that wasn't even a thing. Like check
Right.
fraud was a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like credit card fraud was a thing. But now this whole swiping epidemic is crazy.
and not even just swiping. Like some of the stuff they can just use the whatever readers and just be able to get some of your
Yeah.
information.
The
Yeah.
RFID out
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah.
Cards now.
When I was a bank teller, we always had those real paranoid old people, and they'd open up their wallets and they'd have tinfoil lining the entire thing, thinking that would be a deterrent
Right.
for those readers.
Yeah.
Old people are my favorite because they sit and they watch the news all the time and
The
they're
news.
just living
Oh,
in a sheer
gosh.
panic.
Talk
Oh,
about
my Lord.
brainwash.
And
Yeah.
I remember talking, like being in communications at work, and you'd ask somebody for like the last 4 digits of their social security number, and they start screaming at you at the top of their lungs. It's like, what? Like, I can't give that to you over the phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Have you angered the Russians? Like, it's a digitally encoded cell phone. It's not like the old phones. I don't know if anybody else remembers back in the 90s when you drive with your car, and you could flick through the channels on the radio and pick
Yeah.
up people's cell phones.
Oh no.
They had the
You
phones
used to be able to do that with cordless phones too.
like the cordless phones in people's houses you could listen to as you were driving around because it'd just be on a radio frequency.
My mom, her stereo in the living room used to pick up the truckers going by on the main road. You'd be sitting there, and all of a sudden, like, they would just come through the speakers. You'd be like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, I don't have those kind of stories growing up in the hood. You know, we don't have those kind of problems.
But it's allowed the rise of, and we've touched on this stuff before, but especially when we talked about music and everything, but it's just in general, the barrier to entry for a lot of things now is the bar has been lowered. It makes it easier for people to showcase their talents, but then also it allows for a lot more garbage to get through and become popular too, and it's
because it's direct to consumer almost.
Right.
Because the thing is, it's like we're trying to make the world more convenient for the average person, which is the base of technology. If I
Right.
can make things simpler and more effective for you, even to the point of selling the data. Granted, I don't agree with it, but it's like if I can cater the advertisement to exactly what you want, you don't need to see all of these other things that you see, like what Facebook does with the algorithms and the
Right.
things that you like. Let's put the things you like in front of you. Now, is that the heart of the matter? Probably not. You know, that's what they're selling us. But the heart of what they're selling us is that I'm trying to make it more convenient for you to put things in front of you that you actually are interested
Right.
in to make your social media experience pleasurable. Likewise with technology, to try to make things more convenient for you. So with that said, there's always going to be, you know, the ebb and flow of people taking advantage of the system and things falling below the cracks and things of that nature. And I think that's kind of where we are. And like I said previously, the world is going to end up like Wall-E. I'm convinced of that. Like if Jesus doesn't come back, you know what I mean? Like
Did you
we're
see
just going
the
to end up like
Segway?
Wall-E.
Did you see the Segway, the wheelchair?
I didn't.
It's fucking Wall-E.
Yeah,
It's like
it is.
like the Wall-E wheelchair.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I didn't see it.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
gosh.
crazy. I didn't bring my monitor down here. I probably should have, but yeah, it's nuts. It looks like the wheelchair from Wall-E, basically.
Well,
And pollution and
folks.
stuff like that.
running around.
I think that's where we're going to end up. And not necessarily exactly like that, but it's just they made the world so convenient for people that I can do everything from a chair. I don't have to move. And when you think about, even again, another thing for the decade, how streaming has becoming super popular. I don't have to go to the movies anymore. I can do everything from my living room.
Yeah.
It's like we're trying to make the world so digitally convenient that I never have to leave the house.
Right.
People are online shopping more. I'm doing everything online. I don't
Well,
have to
the
do
end
anything.
game of that is you won't be able to leave your house. You know,
Right.
because the more people do that, like you can see it with the internet shopping and with movies and things. Like those businesses are going to evaporate.
Right.
So if you want to go there, you can't even go. And it's
doesn't
not like
exist.
it's going to happen tomorrow, but
Right.
it's definitely something in the long run that you can.
So
you
it
can turn.
definitely impacts the economy, right? Like there was an article, and that's what it looks like, by the way. I mean, it's straight out of Wall-E, pretty much. It doesn't hover, but I mean, that's
Right. But it's still the same.
it's pretty
thing. That's
damn
wild,
close.
man.
Is like I read about Best Buy like years ago, how they were talking about Amazon was killing them because Best Buy always, like, their sell was that we're the experts on this stuff, so this is where you come when you want to get the expert, like, information. And what they were seeing was people were coming there for the expert information and then turning around and going to Amazon to actually buy it now that they had the information.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I don't know, like, I mean, that puts Circuit City out of business. I don't know how Best Buy has managed to remain relevant.
I think
'cause
Best Buy, like they've moved more into like the installation.
Yeah,
kind
I
of
was gonna- I
stuff
was
and
just
that
gonna say
too,
that.
but I mean, every time I go to a Best Buy, it seems decently busy. Like,
But you got to think about, like, granted, nobody's buying physical music anymore. Nobody's buying physical DVDs, but people still buy televisions. You know what I mean? Even though you can
I
do that
fucking
online.
buy
I
physical
am
Stereo
that
DVDs.
guy.
equipment,
Yeah.
I buy Blu-rays
appliances.
all the time
You know.
still.
No, I'm the one who buys CDs still.
Yeah.
You know, because I just feel like I don't know why it's not that big of a deal, but
It is.
I like having the physical thing.
I'm that way
too.
too. So, and
Yeah.
especially if you've been collecting records, or if you know, depending on
Yeah.
how deep you go into music, if you've
Yeah.
been collecting records for a long period of time, that does not stop just because
ingrained.
you know. It's just that's
Right.
just what you do. So I understand that, but at that to that point of Best Buy staying in business,
It's
it's all
hard.
about installation.
Yeah.
They're installing, you know, sound systems still in cars. Like people, the information is available. You can YouTube it. You know, another segue. YouTube,
Well, I think-
you know, like stuff like that. So I think that's how
I think
they
another
they
part
alter.
of it too could probably be the rise in package theft. You know, you get a TV delivered, a 55-inch TV delivered. it's pretty unfucking mistakable what that is, right?
Exactly.
Like, you don't want a 55-inch TV sitting on your porch waiting for
People
you to come
taking
home.
advantage of that package stuff. Like, I think that's going to be a big one coming into the next
It
next
is.
10 years.
Did
like,
you hear
people are
about
starting
they
to-
changed the they moved it from a misdemeanor to a felony now.
which
Oh,
it should
really?
be.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, sure.
they're going to be really expensive stuff. Like,
Right.
if you're only going to get a slap on the hand for doing that, like the people that do it,
I think the
tons of trouble.
the doorbell cameras have really helped
Yeah,
with
those
that,
Nest
like bring that
systems,
to
definitely.
light. Just because,
I think
like,
you can publicly shame somebody, but even when you have the film and everything, like the police aren't going to make it a giant priority.
right? No, never. But I mean, but I think
they
it
are
helps.
now going forward
Yeah.
since they moved it from again. It's a, like you said, it's a slap on the wrist. It's not the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It's not worth the
Yeah.
work of the
Right.
police. But now that it's a felony, you have a higher consequence of it. You know what I mean? Like, so it's worth
Yeah.
me going to do the work and doing what I need to do because you're going to for sure get more time than the misdemeanor. And again, not to make this a justice system bashing, but it totally is going to be for a second. If I can put you on papers, the higher of you reconvicting is higher, and I can keep
Yeah.
you.
Definitely.
You know.
Have you watched the guy? He's just got this personal vendetta against package theft on YouTube, and he invented the one that has all the
fart
iPhones.
spray.
The fart spray.
Yes,
And
and
the
the
sparkles
glitter.
and the
I've
glitter.
seen
Yes.
him.
It's
Yeah,
the-
I've
I
seen
was
him.
just
I've seen
thinking
him.
of that.
It's got
Perfect.
iPhones, glitter bombs, and now he's got it to where it does like police radio traffic and
really?
all these other things. And
Nice.
See, I seen when he first
Yep.
made the news making those. I never saw like that he evolved.
oh,
it
it,
beyond
Yeah,
that.
I didn't see
it's
it.
continuously evolving, and now
And
like
people are
That's
still stealing from
awesome.
him.
and people are still taking it, but
That's
some people
crazy.
recognize it.
They have they.
And then he had one guy who, because they'll send it out to different people
Right.
around the country to do it so he can get the films.
because
Yeah.
One
at
of the
first it
people
was
he
like his
sent it to
friends.
stole it because he just wanted it for like the collector value. And he's just like, oh, and so then he like publicly shamed.
I mean,
him.
it was crazy to watch. The best was just watching them like get in their cars and then open it up and just
Oh,
glitter
gosh,
bomb their
yeah.
car and it
Yeah.
smelled bad.
I love that because it really doesn't hurt anybody, but it's just
No, but it's like
Right.
it
So
fucking
awesome.
serves you
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
That's bullshit. But I mean, like that whole thing there, and you were talking about never leaving your house. Eventually, I think there is definitely an issue with the ease of like the convenience of everything. Like, I go to the grocery store, people are there like shipped, buying people's groceries for them and stuff. But I think that the larger impact is the lack of people knowing how to talk to each other anymore. Like
That's huge.
You see
Yeah.
that like.
in younger generations, it's almost
For
damn
sure.
near impossible.
For sure.
Yes, it's getting worse and worse.
people not knowing how to handle rejection, people not knowing how to talk to people and go and approach people. I would guess, and this is in a study that I made up right now, that
study that I made up.
the social awkwardness and anxiety is probably on the rise. I mean,
No, that's a fact. That's not even a made up. That's a real.
You know what I
thing.
mean?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because
That's a real
like
thing.
so many people
Yeah,
now because
anxiety
they don't
about
know how to
groups,
have
people.
that interaction.
Yeah.
And I think that's a larger part of all this ease of stuff in the social media, everything. Like what you're seeing on social media most of the time isn't real.
Well,
That's
things like the,
filters, that's production values, that's not real.
Tinder, electronic
Yeah.
dating, things like that. They've made it so, like, men have traditionally been, and I'm not trying to insult you or anything, but they've traditionally been like
No offense taken.
the people who come up and do that, and you learn to handle rejection very early in life. Like,
For sure.
because for a lot of men, especially ones that grew up, like, you can go to the bar and 10, 12 people before somebody pays attention to you.
Right.
You get shut down, especially when you're young. So now no one would go up to somebody. It just seems crazy for someone to go up to a human being. Like, it's a bar full of people doing this.
Well,
That's-
because what people are doing now for that younger generation is still this. It's the same rejection. It's just digital.
Right.
Because
But
now
you don't feel it. It's not.
But you
direct
still
on
do
you.
because it's still rejection to an extent. Like nobody sees it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you still are. Because the thing is, it's not giving my phone number. Is follow my Instagram page, right? And you follow the page. And what I learned is that to show I'm attracted, I go and like a bunch of stuff on your page,
Right.
not like the recent stuff, like weeks ago stuff, like months ago,
Yeah.
Stalker
to kind of
stuff.
to let you know, like, hey, I'm watching you.
And then you're still being classified as weird and stocky.
Well, no,
Yeah.
because again, I learned that this is the thing. They're
Right.
not looking at it like that. Like
Yeah.
they observe it, and it's like that's the way they communicate. It's the way that they court per se. So now it's like, okay, I know this person is interested. So now I'm waiting for the direct message.
Right.
So when the direct message comes, it's like I then know how to handle it, and then from there, I've already shown that I'm attracted to you. And it's the same thing. It's almost like at the bar. I'm buying you a drink, or whatever, and then I'm gonna go talk to you. You see what I'm saying? So
I think,
it's weird, but it's like
buying a drink is like that weird kind of like drunk frat boy way to do it. Like it's just one of those things. Like I will honestly say that if anyone that I wasn't dating or seriously with, I've never bought a drink for a stranger in my life.
I've never had a stranger buy me a drink ever.
Like
really?
I don't
never
hang out bars
once.
though, but I've never had anyone.
Like, I've
I've never been that guy that was like, yeah, get that lady at the end of the bar a drink.
Yeah.
One, because I could barely
sure
I
afford
don't
my
put
drinks.
myself out there.
But
like
I've
that, though.
never done it. Okay, we're gonna
Like
deep.
across-
I've never done it with the intention of trying to like get somebody's attention. I'm just like I'm at the bar, so I'm like I'm up. You know what I mean? I'm on a 30, so I'm like, yo, drinks for everybody. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those kind of one of those kind of
That's a
deals.
different
That's a little
scenario.
different.
Yeah, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying, like,
that's a different
I
thing.
want to be clear. Like, I
But
can't
you
say I
got-
never bought anybody a drink before, but I never bought anybody a drink
But
with
you
the
have
intention of.
those people that are just, and, honestly, the reason not is I worked for years at a bar. Like, people get played hard on that.
Yeah, they do.
Like, a girl will go in and just drink all night for free and bail out.
And I mean,
man.
I've
not
had
gonna
those friends
spend
where that was their,
$70 like that.
their MO, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to go
But it's
drink for free tonight.
It's the nature of the beast. It's like it's the cost to play. Like, and as regardless if you want to say it or not, as a dude that's buying drinks, you know that. That's your fault. I have no sympathy for people like that. Like,
But
know
see,
what it is.
And it's funny because I hear it sometimes, but I think there is definitely depending on the guy, there is definitely that mentality of like, oh, she like looked at me. I think
This will be different.
Shit.
Yeah.
I think she likes me. She looked at me. I'm gonna send her a drink. Like
Because that's the
But if
easy
you
way
know
to
the
get the
old
invitation.
skills, like if you have the way to do that, you can tell the difference between a look and a look. Like,
Yeah.
that sounds
But I
stupid.
think
No, it
that's part of
doesn't.
what's like
But if you
being
know,
lost.
you know.
look.
You know,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So.
You learn when you're young. Like, you look across, girl might smile at you, then you automatically turn around and ignore the shit out of her. And then, like, you go back and then you turn around and look again, and if she's looking again,
That's the confirmation.
now
That's
you're
the
like,
confirmation?
you're like, all right, like, she's looking still.
The double take.
Even after I did that, like,
I had a completely different approach when I was
And little
out
do you
there.
know, and
You
little
do
do you
not
know,
do
it's
that.
actually the guy behind you.
But the trick is like, man, you ignore it. Like, I remember though, you ignore again at that point.
You're
and
doing
then,
the night
then
at the
you go to the
Roxbury.
bathroom, and as you pass by, like maybe from the back from the bathroom, you say something, like just something like that. Like, oh, yeah.
Man, I never.
Like, there's-
never did that. Like, I know we're completely off topic, but like that long game. But when I was going out, I
Long
was
game
going out
works
with the
good, though.
intention of enjoying myself and having fun. I never
Right.
went out with that intention. When we did go out with that was intention, it was like a
No, that intention.
completely different ball game.
right.
You don't go out with that
Totally different.
intention. You start that intention at about 12:30.
Yeah.
See, but, again, but that's still the intention. That's still the intention. I don't want to deep dive right now because it's gonna sound super like crazy right now. Again, segue the whole Me Too movement and all that stuff like that. So like, it'll sound crazy for today's thing, but like when you're out with the guys or whatever like that, y'all having that conversation. Like me and my friends, when I was like fresh out of high school, early college, like yo. Whoever gets the least amount of phone numbers has to buy breakfast for everybody.
Right.
Like we had a thing. Like when you going out with that intention, it's a completely different ballgame. It's all
Right.
business. But then if we're going out to have fun, that's the last thing on my mind. So it's like I'm just enjoying myself.
Enjoy it.
So when you see those looks, I'm not even paying attention to that. And then so that's what I said the long game. I'm not even paying attention. So if you look, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But I'm like, I don't want to say I'm ignorant, but I'm like, I have a very good sense of humor, I would say. So I'm cracking jokes. I'm laughing
Right.
all the time. And I feel like that's the outlet. You know what I'm saying? Because you see the look and it's like, yo. I'll make it awkward for him if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, if there's a way for me to make a situation
Yeah.
awkward, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jason can attest to this at work.
Yes. Kelly likes to make shit awkward, which is why I appreciate your sense of humor.
It can take some quick turns.
Speaking of sense of humor, another thing for the decade. Nobody has one anymore.
No
Wow.
one does.
So that's one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Kelly knows this, but I'm flirting with trying my hand at stand up just to fuck around with it and see.
I think you would be great at it, and I've been waiting for you to do that. I've been
So-
slowly
He's
watching.
got the timing.
I've been
Yeah.
slowly watching for like the last year and a half. I'm like, he's definitely gonna do that just because you know your character.
Well, so I've had a couple of comedians come on.
Yeah, I've seen those episodes. Great episodes
right?
too.
And so like I went Monday night and I try to support the people that are supporting me and helping out and being
Which you
guests.
do and I know I keep cutting you off. You do a great job at that. Like I will say,
Thank
like
you,
as
sir.
far as like having guests on, you go the extra mile and make sure you go out to these people's shows, support their businesses. Like when I had that event going on last year, every time I posted something, you reposted
for
something,
sure.
and it wasn't just like reposting it. You went in an extra step and
Yeah,
commented
I'll
and said,
throw a
hey,
comment
this,
in,
this, and this to get people there liking the page and all that. I just want to commend you on doing that
Thank
for
you.
the people that.
But
you
I mean,
show.
and that's like part of the whole purpose of trying to put this together and do that is to help, like, give people a way to get up, to get their name out. And it doesn't help if it goes just this far as the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so I went out on Monday night and I supporting one of the comedians that had come on my show, and I'm watching it, and there was a couple people. It was their first time. Like this is my first time getting on stage and actually trying to do this. And I was like, fuck, like, that's got to take guts. But I was like, shit, I talk in front of people all the time. I got so much talking in front of people.
Just telling stories about
Right, and just
family life at work.
For sure.
My gosh.
I think it was. I've always thought about that too. Like, it just seems really fun.
Yeah,
in today's
exactly.
society, I feel like having somebody come up and get super pissed off at me about something that I said because it personally affected them. Like, there's
Pretty
250 people in this room. I don't give a flying fuck about what you feel.
And
Like,
that
I'm
seems,
sorry.
and
Like,
that's
I
like
just
the
don't care.
sentiment that it seems goes forward. Like
Everybody's
I've
so
posed that
important.
question to the comedians that I've had on. Like, how do you handle that? Right? Like, is there stuff that you feel is off? Like, just you can't touch that yet, or and the common sentiment just seems like, fuck it, we're just gonna plow ahead. We've got this weird thing that's in us that's fucked up. That's like we just got to keep doing it.
I don't think it's that. I think it's just this is the outlet for that.
Right.
I think for me, there's racist comedians, there's
sure.
sexist comedians. You got to understand that there's a separation between a joke and truth.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what the comedian's job is to take the truth and make it funny, even if
Right.
it's something you don't
If it's
subscribe
something
to.
you're
Well,
uncomfortable with.
You don't
90% of
watch
it
it.
is made up. It's not really a true life story. That's like one of the things that even any seasoned comedian will tell you. Like they're like, you realize I'm doing a character. Like I'm
Right.
doing. This is a joke.
It's embellished, right?
Like I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm not. This wasn't what I did yesterday. Like I didn't punch my kid in the face yesterday. Like this is a joke, and to actually have that, I had a talk with, Matt up on our floor. Just a friend of ours. I can't think of his last name, so I apologize to him. But he is a stand-up, and he has a joke. And we had the same discussion the other day when when we had some time to walk together. He told me that he's got a favorite joke of his. And, of course, it's a difficult subject. He goes, it's about a rape fantasy. Boom. Like, all right, we got a problem here. And he goes, but the turnaround on the joke is, by the time I'm all done doing it, it's about me getting raped. And he's like, so I'm not like throwing it on somebody else. But he's had people attack him afterwards about it. He had a promoter tell him, you can't do that joke on stage anymore. I can't allow it. And he's like, it's completely,
people are
utterly
so afraid of the
self-deprecating. Like, it's on
backlash.
me.
Yeah.
But it's just the subject. The subject's not okay,
Right.
man.
And that sucks, man. But going to the rape thing, Dave Chappelle has the greatest rape joke of all time. And it's just
That's a weird phrase to just say, right?
Yes,
The
it's-
greatest rape joke
because
ever.
it's
Out of my
the,
top 10 favorite rape jokes.
because there's
This
rape
one
jokes
takes
out there, right?
definitely- yeah,
right,
definitely
and
the
don't
upper
listen.
echelon of rape
Don't
jokes.
cancel us. Don't cancel the show.
Right.
It's just a joke. It was hilarious. Whatever. But again, going back to that setup, like I would love to hear that joke. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because it's like, even if it wasn't about him,
Because it is a total spin.
like
and it's like,
the
yeah, that's
setup,
brilliant.
the punchline,
Right.
the timing of it, it's
Yep.
like you're leading me there. Because like that Dave Chappelle joke, I would have never in a million years, and studying film and stuff like that, you can kind of see the setups. I never saw that coming, and that's what made it
and-
that
and
much
you know
more
what's
funny.
funny is like, so I've been looking up because I want to make sure that everything I'm interested in, I research the shit out of. So I've been looking up like, common like ways of writing jokes, stuff like that, and that's like the biggest one is the surprise. Like lead them this way, and then yank that carpet right out from underneath their feet because this is what it really was. Like that's like, and that's what they say,
That's the key.
Yeah.
that's like the huge thing. And like one guy,
That's
I
the
was
key
reading
to
his
good
article, and
comedy.
he was like, I don't care what anyone tells you, that's what's going to deliver every single time is that switch, that surprise that they're not expecting.
Right. which again, why Dave Chappelle in this last decade has put himself in a different stratosphere for comedians. I think with the timing of the thing, even
I'm just
the
happy
genius.
to see him back. Like,
I'm happy to
for
see him
sure.
back too, but just
Definitely.
the way
really
he's going about
been
doing
here
it.
the whole decade. You know what I mean?
And that's the
Yeah.
point. Even to that, his fall from grace per se, his fall from grace this this last
Was
decade,
self-done. Like, he
self-done.
did it on
Yeah,
his
he
own.
did it. But then the way he came back, the timing of how he came back, the climate he came back in, the jokes he's telling, the way he's telling them. It's
have been
ingenious.
better.
It just even that last one, that last stand up.
Oh.
I feel like that last
Awesome.
stand up is going to be something that's studied at Harvard at some point in time. Because and I'm being
Definitely.
serious because
That was a
not
good
only the
one.
content, just the time,
When
the
this panic
rhythm.
is over, that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing that'll be like this. Hopefully, signified where it calmed down. Like,
Yeah.
yes, you can listen to somebody and think, but things don't have to be 100% serious.
Yeah,
At all times.
But he again taking the truth
Pisses
and
me
making it
off.
funny.
Yeah.
Like he is in that last stand up. I mean, back to back. There's not a dry moment in it. It's back to back to back to back to back. Setup jokes, setup jokes,
Right.
setup jokes. It's back to back, and then even the callback response of it's just amazingly
Yeah, when
done.
he calls back like 20 minutes later.
Yeah,
That-
yeah.
I'm
It's
gonna have
just
to go home and watch it later.
you've never seen it.
No, I've seen
Oh,
it. I'm
okay.
gonna have to watch
Yeah.
it again.
No,
Like,
it's
phenomenal.
really good.
Like
Phenomenal.
one of the ones he had that was personally, I was like, oh my god, that's so true because my kids have gone through it. Is like the active shooter shit now, right? Like they do
Yeah.
the active shooter.
Yes,
stuff.
Yeah,
but
which
see,
is
you're sitting in the
weird.
back of the class.
And-
You're
and
teaching
you-
them how to
That
do
is
it.
right.
Yep.
He's like, you're teaching the shooters what you guys are gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and it sucks to laugh at, right? Especially like having kids
Right.
kids
Nah,
in
but
school.
it's 100%
But
true.
it's
is.
right.
It is.
It
It
is.
is. And then he goes on to further say, and guess what? One of us is raising the shooter.
Right.
And that's
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yes.
Yo.
You never think it's you, but it's like, hey,
You know,
somebody's raising the shooter.
So you know
Yeah.
what's funny is I had this conversation with my son a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about social media and like why. First of all, him having a phone because we got into this conversation the other day.
Oh boy, yeah.
Him having a phone. The only reason he has a phone is for emergency purposes, right?
Right.
Because he's done a lot to abuse phone privileges. And every time I thought about like turning it off, I'm like, but he does stay home alone. He is getting to the age where he may be going to friends' houses or driving with people, whatever. He needs to have a phone to be able to do that stuff. To be able to call and get a hold of someone, I don't want him being home alone and someone's trying to break in and he can't call 911 or
Right.
you know what I mean, something like that. So I told him, I was like, you have a phone for this express purpose only. Anything else above that is a privilege. And I don't want you on social media. You don't need to have an Instagram or a Facebook or any of this other stuff. Because I guess Snapchat's the real big one. He got mad at me the other day for. He said I'm ruining his childhood because I won't let him have Snapchat. Because that's the way,
15-year-old
that's the
kid
way
does
all the high
not
school
need
kids.
Snapchat.
That's the way all the high school kids talk to each other. He
That is how
literally-
they talk to each other, though.
Yeah.
But I was like,
All right, I'm going to really feel rough on this one, but what's the difference between Snapchat and the other one?
Snapchat, everything
the one
you
that
post,
disappears?
it disappears. It
okay.
disappears
Well-
for you. The feds and the police can still access it.
No, there is a YouTube video online. You can go back and access all the stuff everybody
Really?
sent you through your
I've
own
That's the one
phone.
that
never-
everybody
that's
sends
possible.
So,
the nudes to.
exactly. Yeah. So all you kids out there
Does it let you
listening to
know
this
if you-
show,
does it let you know
stop
if it
using the
has a-
Snapchat.
So-
it tells you if they screenshotted
Okay,
it,
that's
but
what I was
that's
gonna
about
ask, yeah.
it.
So
but they
to
can still
Chappelle's
go
point-
back in and access.
to Chappelle's point about raising the shooter. So I told him, I was like, and I've watched a lot of documentaries on like white supremacy and religions and stuff like that. Like I'm really infatuated with just like learning how people think and like how they can get sucked into these weird things like flat earth. Like it fucking drives me bonkers that people believe that shit, but it's like there's
Flatters?
some
Flat Earth.
earthers.
Flat
The
Earth.
flat Earth,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you can go on the
Cats
last 10
would've
years with that one
dumped
right there.
everything
That's
off
right.
the side by
So-
now.
So anyway, so
That's
we
the
were having
greatest
this
way
talk.
to look like the biggest fucking idiot immediately.
Yes.
and
Like,
I
there's
told him,
no way
I
to
know,
lose
right?
all credit for everything in the matter of a tenth of a second.
So
Yes.
bad. But so I told him, I go,
Yes.
look, I go, people target you, right? You're in the demographic and the age of what people will target. Specifically, there was one documentary, I think it's on Netflix, about white supremacists. And like one of the guys that leads one of the national white supremacist movements, he moved to Detroit specifically for recruiting people. He was like, this area is ripe for recruiting people to follow our movement. And you see some of these school shooters, the kid that shot up the church, like those are all people that are probably feel lost, right? Like and that's what they go to.
It's
So I
taking
told them,
advantage of people, yeah.
right, it plays on people that feel disenfranchised, they feel alone, they're looking for something to belong to, and maybe they're angry and they got these emotions, they don't know where to put them. And I told him, I was like, so that's, they go for people like that. And he goes, Dad, you really think I would do that? I said, no, but do you think of any of the kids that have shot up their schools, their parents thought that they were the ones that were going to do that? No. And it's the same thing to what Chappelle said. Like, someone's raising the next school shooter.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. Like, that's why I'm keeping, because I mean, I'm not saying that you're that person, but I never know if you turn into that person.
Yeah. Do all you can, yeah.
So you don't need all that shit. Like, me personally, I got this conversation last night. The only reason I'm on any of this stuff is because I do this show, and it's to promote the show.
Yep.
Like, I barely ever post anything personal. Like, yesterday I was like, oh yeah, I was driving with my son at the racetrack, but I was doing that because I was making fun of two people that I called out in my post because they used to be all about RC shit and stuff and spent all this money on crap and then never used it. So I was just kind of making fun of them with that post, and like, hey, come hang out because this shit's pretty fun.
Well, yeah, and it's not like your kids are sheltered. They're watching Jackass 3 right now. 2, I'm sorry, not 3, 2.
A jackass somewhere.
The part where they were jerking off the sea cucumbers.
Oh
Megan was
God.
like, Chastity, let me cover your eyes.
I forgot
you know what's
about
funny?
that.
Look, my daughter's
seen
10.
that in
We
so
let my
long.
daughter watch those before we let my son because we're scared of him doing those things.
Oh, wow.
That's true. I can see
Where
that.
are
can
they
see
finding
that.
sea cucumbers? Is this like the world's most
They
embarrassing
were scuba
petting
diving
zoo?
somewhere.
No, they were gonna go. First, they were going to do. They were diving with whale sharks with shrimp in their, like, they had these like pants on with shrimp.
Oh, that's right. And
You
they were
know?
trying to get him to eat it.
Yeah, they're trying to get them to eat the shrimp and like mouth on their dick and balls, right? So before we go swimming with sharks, we need to go rub one out. And then it's them underwater with sea cucumbers, and when sea cucumbers feel threatened, they like emit like this white stringy stuff.
Yeah.
So they're literally like underwater. You can hear them underwater laughing, like, and they're just going to town on these sea cucumbers. It's so stupid.
Ridiculous.
But it is fucking
I
hilarious.
want to see that PETA complaint.
Right? Yeah. Where's that?
Right? Yes.
We don't like how you masturbated with the sea cucumbers.
Oh my
We all need to stop that right now.
Well, I mean,
They don't like the free massages.
does anyone in PETA eat meat?
Oh.
I don't.
I mean, you
think
can't
so.
complain about
I mean, you
animal
can
cruelty
donate
if
to
you're
whatever
eating
the hell
them.
you want, but I don't
And
think anybody in
Isn't that-
leadership probably.
I don't think they do.
But see,
They don't wear fur, so...
But I don't think they do anything with animal cruelty as an entirety. And
I
I'm
think
sure that's something we
they're
can
like
Google.
vegan, not even
Yeah.
vegetarian.
No, I'm
like no
absolutely-
cheese, no eggs
This
situation.
is the
Yeah,
silly
I
thing. is
really
I
think
get-
that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite because I get offended by people who don't wear animal skin.
I love...
Elaborate. What do you mean?
Because now you're
Yeah.
wearing a plastic jacket that's going to be there for 87,000 years. When you throw it into
I
the
follow.
thing, like
Yeah.
you're fucking
ready,
up the world.
ready
man.
for this one?
Or it
Just so
doesn't
you
even
can
last
be,
as long as
just
the
so you can
leather.
be annoying. Like just so you
ready
can
for
be a
this
dick.
one?
Plastic jacket.
So this is on this is newscientist.com. It's just funny because we were talking about like the animals
Everybody
and
wears
PETA
some
and stuff.
vinyl leather jackets.
And I remember hearing
to
about
cotton,
this. So this
gosh.
fits in the last decade, but recordings have revealed that plants make sounds that we can't hear.
Yeah.
They're just on a level that we can't hear when they're cut, when they're dehydrated.
Mm-hmm.
Plants actually make noise. So it's like
I read
they're
that too, yeah.
expressing
Yeah.
feelings.
All the more reason to eat a steak.
Right. Fuck it. Everything's screaming when we kill it, so
That is, I feel like another thing in this last 10 years with the power of information, I feel like you can now Google and find anybody to agree with anything
Yes.
that you think, no matter
Oh,
what.
for sure.
And that's
100%.
completely
And-
ridiculous.
Anything.
And I think that's the
Anything.
reason for the rise of all the conspiracy theories and
Yeah.
all the rejection of scientists. We were talking about the flat Earth movement, the vaccinations, the anti-vaxxers.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
politics,
like,
everything.
No,
like,
Yeah.
I think I'm
Even
on board
politics.
with the vaccination thing, just because
That's,
as far as science is concerned, like I know specifically the flu shot, and there's another shot that is causing autism in African American children. You know what I mean? At a younger
that's
age.
been unproven. That's been totally disproven.
Nah,
You gotta
But see,
dig
but
into
see,
that one.
but see,
Nah,
this
that's
is where
the thing.
but see, this is where it gets muddy, right? And this
Yeah.
is because of that access to information and people
what
being
you're
able to put
looking
stuff
for.
out there.
It's not
is
even-
it's hard to wade through that stuff because,
agree.
like the whole
But the
anti-vaxxer movement starting with the one doctor that posted the stuff saying that vaccinations
Which
cause
was-
autism period in
absolutely
kids.
shit on.
Right, but then it
Yeah.
gets destroyed by the whole scientific community, but it doesn't matter because that's out there now.
Yeah.
And
But
the
now
proof,
it's
I completely agree. But when you look at the proof, like what I mean by this is you see, I have a relative. I'll use a relative. I'm not going to give names or whatever like that. That had a kid that was perfectly fine. And again, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know how autism develops and things
Right.
of that nature. But to my
lot of
knowledge,
times you can't really
autism
see it.
develops at a younger age. You see what I'm saying? Like I have. Separate people, another person who thinks their kid is autistic that is showing signs of that, and then I have a friend that has an autistic kid and talks about these stories. Well, in my cousin's case or whatnot, kid was completely fine, no issues, no problem, got this flu shot completely 180, and I'm not even exaggerating. And obviously there's always exceptions to the rules, but that
Right.
for me gives credence to this, because when I first seen it, I'm just like, oh, they're just trying to get likes because we're in this whole all Black Lives Matter,
Right.
or Black Lives Matter thing. So in my mind, when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, that's complete BS.
Yeah.
But then I'm starting to talk to people who have kids that are autistic, who are African American, say, hey, after this happened,
Right.
this happened. So it's like, I don't know, which is what I'm saying. I'm not saying I disagree, but I'm not gonna just completely wear that off
right.
with that specific vaccination.
And I'm pretty sure, and again, allegedly, I'm not a scientist either, but I'm pretty sure that some of the stuff that I've heard and read is that there is always a risk with some vaccinations of someone having an adverse reaction,
Right.
whether or not that's autism or some other kind of weird shit happening. But again, like you weigh that risk against like, okay, it may have this thing,
The return of the
or
measles.
the return of
Yeah.
these
Yeah,
diseases that
that's-
we've gotten rid of for forever that
Yeah.
have killed so many people, and then allowing
And
those
now
to
we
come
have
back,
that.
and they're back
When
again.
it comes to like the standard vaccinations that babies get, right? But I mean, when it comes to like your MMR
Conspiracy theories.
vaccine, like we need to keep
9/11.
measles at bay. But when it comes to the flu shot only, I mean, any flu shot, it only prevents so much. And I've read studies where if mainly in women, if you get a flu shot now, you are more likely to get flu in the next year.
That's a
So
fact.
what's
That's
the
a fact,
point?
too.
Well, so
what's the
in-
point?
in-
I've never gotten a flu shot. And I
think
don't remember the last time
think
I
it
got the
depends
flu.
on
Right.
your system. Like you can, that's
Yeah.
one that you can give or take on, like depending on
Yeah.
what you feel like, because it's not something that uses. So you take something like a measles vaccination. A measles vaccination only works on maybe about 70% of people that get it.
Yeah.
It's based on mass.
Yeah.
Right,
So
the herd
chances are that the herd mentality, it won't pass through. But if
Yeah.
you have only now 20% of people there,
Yeah.
and the rest of the people are completely undone, then that's when it races through.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't have any stoppers in the line.
Well, like, and with the flu one too, like that is the flu vaccination that comes out every year
Is
is what
based
they
on a
think
hope,
is going
yeah.
to be the
Yeah.
predominant flu strain.
Right, because
And
I was
it's-
gonna say that it's a
Yep.
different
Yeah,
strands.
so,
and stuff
like,
like that,
I
but
get
There's
mine
difference-
every year because I have a weakened immune system, like
Yeah.
like elderly people who should be getting it too.
Yeah. My mom has multiple
'cause I've been-
sclerosis, so she has to get it every year.
I've been
and you
hospitalized
often get
for the
sick
flu,
from
like,
getting
4
those
times.
because I mean most vaccinations have some form of what's supposed to be being fought
Yeah.
in it. So like people are always like, "Oh man, I got the flu shot and I got sick." Like, yeah, sometimes they
There's
tell
a-
you
there is
you
a
may
live
feel
portion
like
of the
you're
virus
sick, right?
in,
Because there's
in,
something
in
in
the
there.
vaccine.
I'm straight. I'm not ever
Yep.
getting the flu shot.
Yeah.
ever
I'm
in
good
my
on
life.
that.
I've never had
If I
Oh,
get the
good.
flu,
I'm
fine.
But I have seen
But-
people that had problems with
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
I've witnessed it too. And for me, like when I was younger, I went to the doctor. Like I used to be at a doctor a lot because my stomach stuff or whatever. So, I'm straight. Let's just leave it at that. I'm straight.
Yeah.
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 I'm straight.
No,
But,
it's okay. But it's
It's to each his own. I just
Yeah,
think,
it's just to
and,
everybody.
and that goes back to
But it's
everything we've been
mixing
talking
things
about.
up, yeah.
There's always going to be exceptions to the rules, and I think in this last decade we've seen fear become such an epidemic in a lot of regards, along with everybody jumping to conclusions because everybody is so fearful, and it's causing people to live in almost a hysteria,
Right.
in a way.
everybody.
I heard a
takes it
comedian-
to level 10.
Yeah,
I
for no
heard a
reason.
comedian because now that I have a new truck, I have Sirius again. So now I just listen to nothing but stand up when I'm driving, and that's like every time I get a new car that has that's all I listen to. And what's funny, one guy did a thing on it. He was like, the only thing that's changed is the spread of information. He was like, before you'd have that one stupid person that had the conspiracy theory and no one
that
would
was
listen
it.
to him.
Right.
Now they're all able to get together online.
Because they
Right.
have blogs.
Spread that shit.
Yeah, because you could find
that's the
anybody
thing,
to
like-
agree
Right.
with you with anything.
You'd have that one weirdo that whatever weirdo, but that person that believed in that stuff, whatever conspiracy theory, and he had really no one else to talk to, or she really had no one else to talk to. It was kind of contained. That was the neighborhood conspiracy guy. Now that you can just hook up with people around the world that believe it,
And
then
that's do you listen to Bill Barr, I'm sure, don't you?
Bill Barr's
So-
hilarious.
So Bill Barr, when he first started out about a decade ago, was a huge conspiracy nut. Like, he was into every conspiracy that there was and 100% into it. And, he'll talk now and just be like, I was the biggest idiot that ever was, because that's exactly what he said. He goes, I realized that the only things that I was researching and the only things that I would look for
Were the things that
were things
support
that
you.
supported my thought pattern.
And like what kills me,
And it
right?
wasn't until I started looking critically at it and going through there that I was just like, fuck.
Like this is
I'm
what
an
kills me
idiot.
though. So, and this was all over the news probably about a year ago. There was a little boy that never had a tetanus shot. And the scary thing about tetanus is it's in the dirt, like, period.
It can
it's
kill
in the
you
dirt. And
quick.
Yes. So this kid gets tetanus because his mom's never had him get a tetanus shot. He's playing outside. He gets a little scratch. He gets, it infects him. He spends, God, how long was it? It was like 6 months in the hospital, $8 million.
Gosh. And
Right?
all it could have been was a vaccine.
So it could have just been a vaccine, right? So all this money gets spent, all this time to help heal this kid. He gets better. She still won't get him the shots.
That's crazy.
And so, like, to me, what's crazy about that is how can people... No, I'm not going to trust science to tell me, like, what vaccinations or even big pharmaceutical, right? It's just a money scheme. But when something happens, that's exactly who you're going to. It's the big pharmaceutical companies and the doctors and the medicals and the scientists that are helping fix the problem that got caused. But then you want to turn around and continue to reject that stuff. Like, that's one of the things that I've noticed now is the rejection of science and in science, like the flat earth thing. Like, give me a fucking break.
So do you think it's a matter of trust? And not to try to give people a way out or an excuse, but...
No, I don't think it's always a matter of trust. I think one of the biggest things that leads to the conspiracy mindset is being in on the know that no one else knows. You know the truth that not everyone knows. And again, I think a lot of things that people do, because we are social animals, is we try to we want to belong to something. Whether it's a religion, a conspiracy theory, a skateboard group, a gang, you're looking for that belonging, right? A lot of people want that belonging. Right. It's because we're social animals.
Well, if you think back, even historically, to any civilization, any and all, right now we're in the Christianity aspect of it for most in this area, but you go back to Greek, Rome, anything you want. The Aztecs, everybody had some reason to explain what they didn't understand.
Right.
And so that was the advent of any gods anyway, because people felt like it would be complete and utter anarchy if someone didn't fucking understand something.
Yeah.
So, like, we need a god of the sea, we need this, we need that, because we can't deal with not understanding
What was lightning?
something.
It wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was a god throwing lightning bolts.
Yeah, everything has to have an explanation, and it's a continuance of that. Like, what's this explanation? Well, they don't have something that I feel is suitable, so I'll just make up what makes me happy. Whatever makes this go, this is what I 100% believe in. And I'll find some other people that do this too. Like, I'm going to do this because it's an innate need of human beings to want to understand anything and everything around them. And if science is behind that, we're still discovering stuff constantly, they're going to eliminate that science 100% and just go, nope, it's God. It's this, it's that. Like, this is the explanation for that, and there is no other explanation. The government is a conspiracy to do this. This is a conspiracy. We've got, people taking over all of the money in the entire world, and they're meeting in secret meetings, and they're doing this, and they're taking that apart.
Illuminati and all that.
Chemtrails and blah, 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 and it just goes this whole down spiral.
That made me laugh. I said that the other day about the chemtrails, because the weather was so fucked up, and I was like... one of the conspiracy theories, because I was talking to Megan and the kids in the car, I was like, is chemtrails and that they're being used to control the fucking weather? Who the fuck wants this weather? Like, if we're controlling the weather with fucking chemtrails, we're influencing it, who the fuck is deciding this is the weather that we get? Where it snows today, it's sunny tomorrow, it's a flood the next day. Like, what the fuck is going on?
And the poor people in Australia who just
India.
dealt with those fires, they had huge hail the other day.
Yep.
Come on.
Well, that's because if you think about it scientifically, like, you're dusting the clouds with all the ash. Right. It's just like when people dusted for rain when we have droughts.
Yep.
it's going to form around those pieces of dust.
But I think that's
and
a
then
huge
drop.
reason
Yep.
for that, though, is just a need to feel like you know something. You're in on the secret, right? You have that knowledge.
Except
and
the
not
secret
a-
is bullshit.
Yeah.
Right?
Insert
Like,
Nas lyric right here. People fear what they can't understand
Right.
and hate what they can't conquer. I guess that's just a theory of man. Nas the God.
but I mean, but it's real, like, and it's unfortunate because, you know, like you were bringing up, right? Like the ancient stuff. Like, you know, there was a god for every little thing, you know, and there was people used to murder people to try to bring rain to you know, have a good crop and stuff
Human
like
sacrifice, no big deal.
that. You know, and
Dogs, cats living together.
And we and we look back on that like, man, that was kind of primitive times. Like, that was primitive thinking. How are people going to look back on this right now?
same.
All the conspiracy, right? Like,
There is no
how the
difference.
fuck did
I was gonna say it's no difference.
There is
it's
no
just,
difference.
It's just different manifestation.
Yeah.
It's still gonna be looked at
It's a
because
different belief structure.
Right. We grow as people. Like, even going back I was going to ask this, but I'll segue here right now. This is the thing about it. Think about where you were 10 years ago and where you are right now, and how your life has transformed and changed, and the growth and elevation in you. And you look back at some of the things you did 10 years ago and say, yo, that was stupid, or that was immature, or whatever the case may be. I think it's going to be the same thing with society. We're going to look back at this time and say, yeah, we were really hysterical. I use the Me Too movement specifically because it kind of works and coincides to me with cancel culture, because I feel like that's kind of the birth of it.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to look back on some of the things we tried to cancel and some of the things that we did cancel and say we were completely hysterical over that. It's right. Let me be clear. The thought process behind sexism and all those things in the workplace is wrong. Rape is wrong, and all those things like that. But the way we're going about it is absolutely the best way. And that goes back to our conversation we had last time about how the 80s ruined America, in my opinion. But it's like we have this thing to where we always are super left or we're super right. We can never meet in the middle. It's always one extreme outweighs another. And I think that's kind of what we're doing. So we're going to see that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we're going to look back and say, yo, that was stupid.
What do you think leads to the combative nature? So, like, you just brought it, the left versus the right. Conspiracy theorists versus people that don't believe in the conspiracy theories. It always seems to be like a us versus them mentality. How do you think we overcome that? Because, I mean, like, that's...
I got a good one.
Because, so if you think racism, right, us versus them. Religion, us versus them. I mean, there's so many things that us as a species have been combative about. How do we move past that? How do we make this decade not be the same things over and over again? I mean, we're still seeing...
One of the things that's scary, though, is sometimes the us versus them ends up us versus us. If you really look at it
because in the
critically.
real world it is. That's what it really is.
Like, you have like Sharps or something like that, where you have like super racist, anti-racist group. You know, like, it's just like really crazy where you are exactly what you're saying. But you're okay
example.
because this is what I believe.
And you watch this too, because I know we talked about it before, but there's this documentary. It was on Netflix, I think. It was called Accidental Courtesy.
Yeah.
And it's about this black musician.
Great
doc. What he does, he was just on Joe Rogan.
Really?
So
Check it out.
so he was just on Joe Rogan. But what this guy does is, back in, I think it was like the 70s or 80s, he befriended a KKK member, and he has made it like his life's journey. Besides playing music,
You watched it too?
he's
Great
made
doc.
his life's journey to talk to these people, because he's like, I never knew of racism as a kid until he was in a parade with the Boy Scouts, and only he was getting like rocks and stuff thrown at him, and then his parents like explained to him what was really going on, because he spent a lot of his life on military bases in other countries because his dad was in the military, so he was always in school with all these multicultural kids,
Where
so
race
he
wasn't
never
an
really
issue.
exactly.
Western
then they
civilization.
would come back here. So he always says, like, how can you hate me if you don't know me? So he takes the approach, instead of going out and protesting and getting violent against the people getting violent, he makes a point of just talking to them and getting to know them. And it is the long game, like a real long game.
A very
right?
long game. Very long.
So he had a conversation that was really interesting, one of them, two conversations I'll bring up real quick. One, he had a conversation with this Grand Master, or Grand Wizard, or whatever. They were laughing at the names of them on Joe Rogan.
Grand
too.
Wizard.
The dragons and
Oh,
Nighthawks
Grand
and all
Dragon,
this
that's
shit.
what it is.
So he had a meeting with one of them,
exactly,
and he was like, "Why don't you like me?" And he was like, the guy gave him all. He was like, "I just listened to him, let him say his thing," and the guy was naming off all these reasons. One of them, he said, is that black people have a gene to commit crime. Like they have an innate gene that makes them commit crimes. And he goes, but I've never committed a crime. And he goes, well, it's just dormant. It still it hasn't manifested itself yet. And he goes, okay, did you know? Because they say is what everyone uses to back them up. Well, they say. And he goes, they say that all white people have a gene that makes them serial killers. And he's like, well, that's ridiculous. And he goes, name me one black serial killer, and he couldn't. And the black guy named off like a 20, named off a bunch. And he goes, but I've never killed anyone. But it's just a dormant gene that hasn't, expressed itself yet. And he's like, that's just preposterous. And that's exactly what you said to me. And he goes, it didn't change him then, but like 6 months later, he closed down the whole state chapter that he was in and gave it up. And he was the first person to he was going to get rid of his robe. And the black guy was, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry. Look it up. It's Daryl something, I believe.
He's an older gentleman too.
Yeah, and he collected the robes, and now that's what he's doing, is he's collecting these robes from all of these KKK members and white supremacists that have given it up after just getting to know him.
I don't even think, I think that's and I'll, call my pastor here, the pill and the hot dog conversation. And what the pill and the hot dog is, like, when you go to the hospital, you give it to your dog, you put the pill in the hot dog. So I think what he's actually doing is not so much getting to know, it's just communication. And I think if you ever seen the doc, the issue that both parties have, and I don't want to say parties, people have, like you said, us versus us, is communication is the rise and fall of our society, where every disagreement is birthed from. It's the lack thereof. And I feel like what he's doing is just opening the door to that conversation. And some people can't do that because they're so angry because of their experience, what their belief system is, whether that is an actual belief system, which means experience.
They can't set it aside and look forward. Right. So to your point, Justin, about you often become the thing that you're like fighting against, right? Absolutely. So in that documentary, he talks to some members from Black Lives Matter, and they're talking about how we need to have more money in the black community, more black-owned shops, more black-owned businesses, which is fine, but essentially sounded exactly like the white supremacists that are saying that we need to have white towns where no black people, and the black people are saying the same thing. We need to have just black areas with no white people, and it's like you sound exactly like what you're rebelling against, instead of looking for the common ground where we can come together, because in the end of the day, we're all people, we're all the same exact species, we have the same organs, everything, you know what I mean? So like, it's ridiculous, but it's hard to get people to look beyond that stuff. Right. And it was really interesting, and I think that's a common thing that we see, like the people that with cancel culture and stuff, like people are so quick to judge someone.
No, you hate somebody who thinks differently than you.
Yeah. Right.
And you don't need to hear anything more.
Flip that role, and how do you take that if that's you? If I tell a girl, hey, you look pretty today, and now I'm looking at losing my job, but then that same person gets caught like saying like, oh yeah, that guy looks good in those pants, whatever, it's situation, like, is it going to be the same? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
It won't be the same. And again, just it's my own perspective about things. To answer your question, I think it gets worse. I think it gets
worse before it gets better.
Worse than what we're seeing right now. I think we're going to get to a high extreme of more, because respectfully, nobody has killed it or put the fire out yet. They're getting the response. So everybody essentially that they have wanted to cancel has been canceled. Why would we stop now? You see what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of where we go. And to answer your point, in a bigger scheme of things, I don't think we ever come together and unify.
Let me ask you this, because of how you opened the show.
Tis the end of society.
What do you think would have happened to Kobe if the rape thing would have happened now in the last decade? Like,
it would have been over.
His career would have been over.
His career would have been over. No Oscar. They would have shut down his academy, pulled his jerseys down. They would have took his championships off the books. I think all of that would have taken place because we're reactive a lot right now. And again, we don't seek to understand or seek to get information. We just react and cancel. And let me say this since we're talking about that, because for me, like you started the podcast off this about how everybody's been feeling. For me, I'm just now getting better, and I mean that in the most literal sense. After church last week, and church was great, I woke up feeling just kind of down for no reason. So went to church, had a great experience there, and I'm at my mother-in-law's house, and that comes through for me.
Right.
And that was huge for me. You know what I'm saying? It ruined my whole day. I'm like, I just want to go home. I don't want to do nothing. So for the last couple of days, it was just been rough for me. So just now getting back in the swing of things and getting better. And something that I'm seeing with the whole rape situation is they're bringing it up now.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's bringing it, like, it's either one extreme to another. People are celebrating him, or people are bashing him because, he got away with rape, despite the evidence of what happened to that case.
I think there needs to be like there needs to be a clear picture, but it needs to be presented in the right way.
Right.
Like, which is hard. It's really hard to say. I mean, because a person's life experiences are everything. Mm-hmm. And for me, like, I'll admit, I wasn't the biggest Kobe fan, not because of that.
Yeah.
It was because I feel like he's the genesis of the ball hog generation. Like,
We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
That's a whole other
but I'm just saying, like,
soon.
it is too soon. But my son,
It's not because that's a part of his thing.
yeah,
It's part of
that's
his
a different thing. Like, 81 points and 2 assists.
I seen someone
Who
post
else
a
scored
meme.
in that game?
I seen someone post a meme, and it was like Harden, and he was like, yeah, I had like 60 this, it was a triple double. I had 60 this, whatever, and 11 assists, and he was like, 11 assists, shit, that could have been 82 points,
Yeah, but then, like,
But when you're playing with Smush Parker and Kwame Brown, who are you passing the ball to? There's nobody to pass to.
but it's just one of those things. Like,
You are the whole team.
You are the team.
well,
He took Smush Parker to the playoffs, people.
But
Where's Smush Parker at right now?
so one of the things that kills
probably
me
selling cars.
Probably something.
right?
With
One of the
Kwame
things that
Brown.
kills me with cancel culture, and it's one of the things that I've told my son, another reason why I don't want him on social media, is you could say something now that is going to come back
10 years.
to haunt you
10
20
years from now,
years.
yeah.
I mean, you're talking about the rest of your life. What you said could come back and ruin your career.
Look at what happened with Kevin Hart.
I mean,
and the
it's
Oscar thing.
crazy.
Which
And now
made
when
no
he-
sense whatsoever.
No sense.
None.
It was ridiculous.
And that's what kills me is like,
And I love the way he handled it, by the way.
Yeah.
Initially.
I didn't like
Yes.
it. I didn't like the turnaround.
I didn't like the turnaround. But initially, I loved the way he handled it.
Yeah.
The turnaround was like, okay,
The
let's save
turnaround
face.
really let me
did you
down.
watch the documentary?
I didn't get
on
through.
Netflix?
I didn't get through all of it just because of
Or docu-series,
time.
whatever
But
you
it
wanna
was,
call it.
from what I seen, was really good. I think I've been wanting to see that from him for a long time, just because I feel like, again, like you talk about social media, people see the accolades, they don't
Right.
see the work that goes behind
Behind
it.
it.
They don't see how much that this guy sacrifices a lot in order to produce the success that he has. People think success. How's that quote that's going around now? Success is not owned, it's rented, and rent is due every day. That's the reality. Like,
true.
People don't realize the work it takes to be successful, and that's why I enjoy what I've saw so far.
I think I liked it, and I liked it for a number of reasons. I think one of the reactions that I saw that was horrible was, people tearing him down for how he treated some people, like, in that series.
Right.
And yes, that was not great behavior, but also the fact that he had the balls to put that on display, right? Like, those things, like him flipping out on his buddy about how he's spending his money on the plane, and it almost leading to, like, a complete physical altercation, and Kevin being a dick. Like, he could have just cut all that stuff out, and you never saw that. So
And
I
he
think it was
apologized since,
right,
you
and
know?
I think it was really strong for him to show that,
Because
but
we're
then
flawed.
also
We're
show
human
right,
beings.
and,
We're flawed.
and that's like one of the things with cancel culture and even Me Too that was really frustrating, is that you're hanging people on stuff that they did years and years and years ago, that you could be a
They've learned
totally
from.
different
They've
person.
grown
Maybe
from.
you haven't. Some people never grow. I
Right.
know people that are
Some
stuck.
people don't, but you have to give people the opportunity.
opportunity.
Much like
Yeah.
he said
Right.
earlier.
Definitely.
Right.
You know, what I was like 10 years ago is so much different than what I am now. What I was like 20 years ago is so much different
I was
than what
just
I
as
am
cool.
now. Like,
That's debatable.
I'll admit, like, I had a lot of really stupid ideas and stupid beliefs and stupid thoughts in the
Yeah.
past that I've since changed. Because I got older, wiser, and changed what I was
And you have
thinking.
more life
and
experiences.
Right.
Your
to-
life
to-
experience changes it. You're
grow
like,
as a
Change
person.
cultures. That's a
like, I
huge thing,
can't
too.
do that. But the way that we come back now, and you've been seeing a lot of this with, like, rookies and different athletic areas, baseball, football, whatever, they go back and they look at their Twitters from 17
From high school.
years old.
Yeah.
16, 17
Dude,
years old. If you looked at what I had to say when I was 16, 17 years old, fuck. I'd be completely and utterly screwed right now.
Right?
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like,
we
it
said
would
some
be
different, definitely some
terrible.
terrible things back when we were
It would
teenagers.
be terrible, and I'll admit that now. But that's not how I think now, fucking 30 years later. There's not even a chance I even have the realm of that thought.
So Kelly, as a woman,
You can change it.
the woman
can
at the
change.
table, the whole Me Too cancel culture and stuff. Like, what's I mean, obviously, I'm not asking you to speak for all women here, but
Yeah.
like, what?
Tell me
can't,
what the
so-
jive
Right.
is with every lady on this planet.
Because I've known some pretty dirty females that talk just as bad as guys do. I mean,
Yes.
personally, I've been in a bar and I've had a girl walk up and stick her hand right down my pants and grab my shit. So, like,
I've had that happen
out
numerous
of
times.
nowhere, not asked
Wow.
for
I
nothing,
was a
just out
bouncer,
of nowhere.
though. Like, I was a bouncer for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
so-
Oh, so you were taking bribes, got it.
Yeah. That's a good
Oh!
joke. That's
You're
a
not
good
on the
joke.
list yet.
Like,
Don't cancel us. These are jokes, people. These are
Got some
jokes.
options here.
it's like Roadhouse when he finds the people in the back room.
Roadhouse.
Oh my god. I mean, as a
Except they
woman,
weren't
I
underage.
think
No underage.
if you've seen Whitney Cummings' latest
Oh my
stand
god, I
up
love her.
on
I
Netflix,
didn't get around to it.
The one with the doll?
She
She made a sex doll of her, the exact
Of
copy.
herself.
her husband.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't get around to finishing it.
But one of the things that she really makes a good point of is that no matter what women do, we are always looked at as objects. Not all men are like that, obviously, but it's a big difference if I were to go to the grocery store on my own or if I had a dude next to
Right.
me. So and it's and they go on and on about how you shouldn't dress that way and whatnot. Well, guess what? Women were getting raped back when we were wearing corsets, and
Just took longer to
there
get
were
it off.
layers and layers. exactly.
Don't
Exactly.
cancel us. These are jokes.
I had to
Look
throw
how
that
Delano-
in.
Delano's
but
the
it-
It was
anti-cancel.
way-
exactly the point
was
though.
way
Like
too easy.
you can
That was funny, though.
still express yourself and be a woman and wear tight clothes if you want to, if that's your thing, and not be an object. But unfortunately, that's not how society views things. So
I think that
it's
there's a big difference too, and it causes animosity between the two because there's a lot of having your cake and eating it too when it comes to female attitudes on that.
Yeah,
when men are looking
definitely.
at it. I don't know if anybody saw like a couple months back, like they had the BuzzFeed thing where, their first article was, if you're on the internet looking for nudes of Jennifer Lawrence, then you should be arrested. It's like you're a terrible person and blah, blah, blah. And it was a whole article about that. Well, then the next one was, Merry Christmas, like, DaBaby's nudes are on fucking Facebook, or on the internet, and you can go look it up. So when it was a female situation, like, it was criminal. When it was a male situation, it's like,
oh boy, let's go
everybody
check
look
out the
this
sausage
up.
fest.
Yeah, everybody look this up so we can go look at this cock. Like,
Exact-
it was completely
Yeah,
and utterly different.
exactly. Yeah, we're
Right.
looked at as it's a negative thing if we want to put ourselves out there. Yet if a man does it, you're praised. You guys are kings.
And then the
So-
opposite thing, you've got this, like, we need to be all inclusive of all things.
Yep.
And, men are so lucky because they can just wear sweats and a hoodie all day long and feel comfortable. Well, women don't think that that's fucking sexy. Like,
Right.
depending on the
like
woman.
I can go,
That's like all Megan wears.
but you can go on a women's fashion site now and you've got models from 0 to 22.
Yeah,
It's all in there.
yeah.
Now,
I love it.
I don't know about you fellas and where you've been, but I go on J.Crew, Banana Republic, any of those sites, there's nobody without a six-pack. The pressure is real
Yeah.
for that. Like, my son is 20 years old. Like, half of his friends, he's talked to me openly, like, they have eating disorders because that's the expectation.
Yeah.
Like, teenage boys
There's
are,
a lot of
are
pressure.
completely and utterly on pressure because the only thing that they're supposed to be, because you're 19, 20 years old, is six-pack and thin, man.
Thin and
Well,
fit.
it's funny.
Yep.
My son, he was just telling me this earlier this morning. He's like, "Dad, I need to start eating more protein and lifted weights."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Cool, eat some more meat and do some push-ups." Like,
But it's one of those things, like,
Done and done.
you don't see yourself anywhere, do you? Like, I'm not picking on you. I'm just being honest.
no,
Like, do
I
you
mean
see yourself
there
in
was
anything?
there was over the last decade there was about a year of dad bod. love. And that was about it.
Dad bod.
Where they were saying the
love.
dad bod,
It was.
the dad bod was like
was
the
a
new
thing.
thing.
That was
Oh
a
yeah,
thing.
it was like 1
It was
year.
a
That
thing
was-
for a
it
minute.
was like 1
2013,
year.
2014,
Yeah.
That's
It was
my
like
life.
The dad bod
I
is the new
want-
hot thing.
And that's where dad hats came back into play and
Yep.
back into
I
style.
And
want
dad
a
jokes.
dad
came into
bod.
fashion and stuff like that.
That's
Yeah.
me though. The dad bod, the better.
Yeah.
That's
But
me.
just,
I'm a
talking
minority.
overall. Like we're not bitching about it, so we don't really see. Like we're like, oh, that's the way life is. You know, it's just that's it. Like I decided to do this, whereas that when you're listening to somebody complain about it, it's hard to give them credit.
So let me ask this though. So, and this is what it's funny because being on Instagram, you see it, especially like influencers, right? And we can talk about that too, the rise of influencers and the gig economy and stuff you were bringing up. So I used to skateboard, right? And skateboard, you can fall and get hurt.
Oh,
Road rash,
really?
right? You can get messed up. And there is so many girls that post clips on Instagram of themselves skateboarding in bikinis. Like, come on.
Poor choice.
That is a very poor
So,
choice.
so
My
to
knees
that
already
point,
feel
like
feel the road
that
burn.
point is like, what in that situation? That's not a realistic kind of clothing you would be wearing. So, is that specifically for the sex appeal? You're
Yes.
trying to get those follows, and that's where I think
that's
like
not a
it
question,
leads
Mm-hmm.
right. But what I'm saying is like I think it leads to some of the gray area in the issue of it's fine if a woman wants to dress sexy, that's fine, but know that there are some times where you're doing it for the attention you're trying to get, and that's one of the parts that can be frustrating
Yeah.
as a man is when it is that the dress is for that reaction, and when they get that reaction, then it gets turned around, and like you were saying with the sausage thing or the nudes or whatever, like
I said sausage.
we see that way less as guys,
Sausage.
and I don't know if that's because of the social conditioning for so long, right? Like the social conditioning of when it's the guy that asks the girl, it's the guy that proposes, it's the guy that pays for the dates, it's the guy that buys the drinks for the sexy lady down the bar to make that first move.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of those old social norms that are still there, and even in this age where we're trying to change that, or there is an effort to, we're still kind of fitting stuff into those same things, and it's really weird to see because again, like there's no reason anyone is posting 20 clips of themselves skateboarding in almost no clothes. Like that's not a realistic. Why are you?
I'm
You know
gonna
what I mean?
disagree just a little bit on that.
Did you do that in your bikini?
Not in my bikini. I think I had a banana hammock on.
I was gonna say there had to be a leopard man thong involved.
But no, I'm just gonna say that not necessarily because somebody dresses sexy would it be to impress people of the other sex. Like I would think
No,
that
not always. No,
You can just be in pride of yourself and you feel really good when
Oh,
you
for
leave the
sure,
house.
for sure.
So that's a little different for me. Now, I think some of the stuff is silly, but on that end, like I
But
would
even
definitely
that,
let people do whatever they
even
want
that
to
to
do.
go deeper though. So if someone were to dress up in some clothes and be like, "Damn, I look good," why are they having that feeling?
Self-pride, like
self-pride.
yeah.
But how is that self-pride evaluated? Is that self-pride being that, oh, I think I look good, or damn, I look good because I know other people are going to think I look good?
Exactly.
Where does that
Well, I think
evaluation come from?
I think
Yeah.
that's there, but you don't need the affirmation from everybody.
Some people
What
do,
you
though.
think?
That's the thing.
Right.
I'm sitting here listening, and it's so much that's being said and not being said at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm listening with the thought of this stuff isn't fixable. It's not fixable because social norms, like you said, I really started thinking about like, dang, where did this all originate?
Right.
Even going back, like
Back and back. You can go
it's
back
kinda
as
always
long as you want.
Women being looked at as a minority for
Always.
a period of time. African Americans being a minority for a period of time,
Yep.
and even still to this day, I feel like we're still trying to break through those things, and we're finding that everybody wants a sense of self in a sense. I even thought about what you said about when's the last time you went online and looked at yourself, and I was like, I never done that. But to my point, like, and I'm thinking subconsciously, you never see black people model like that on these sites. Like, you don't go to Banana Republic like that. back then when you stopped saying, now you do.
Now
but
you
before,
do. Like, I was gonna say J. Crew models are almost
Little
all black.
suburban white dudes.
but again, it's now, and that's a play in response to what's going on now. Something within the last decade.
Right.
You didn't necessarily see that 10 years ago, and I don't even pay attention to the guys. Like I really don't. Like when I'm shopping online, I'm more so. Does this match this?
I think
but I'm just
you're
saying
slimmer like I am too, though.
But
like if
to
I
my
was
point-
bigger, I'd want to see how the clothes fall on somebody my size.
but
See,
what I'm saying
I don't
is
go
that
on
I don't
any of
even
those
think
sites
of that.
because none of them make my size. So.
Exactly.
But I don't even think about. I'm
Right.
just saying, like my train of thought over here as you
Yeah.
guys talking. I don't even think about stuff like that, and it's just, it's tough. Life is tough. Period. And it's muddled. It's muddy. It's the melting pot of everything coming together, and I think we just haven't figured out a way to make it work. And that goes back to the whole unity thing, which is why I don't think it'll ever be that. It'll never be that because we're never going to get on the same page because everybody's going to have their idiosyncrasies, their thoughts about things, and they think they're right because it's my belief instead of just having a to each his own kind of mindset.
Yep.
And it's hard. And that's all I was sitting there thinking about. It's like, it's tough. I don't really have much to say about it. I'm just listening like it's really tough because I couldn't imagine, like I'm not a woman. I would never know what it's like to be objectified or be looked at as an object, to an extent. But being a minority, I know exactly what it's like to feel like an object, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but it's two different objects.
Yeah.
And it's
two
just
different
tough.
situations.
Yeah, it's just tough. It's just tough.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, like I think everybody has their own frustrations. I'll admit because of my age, like there's a lot of times where I go into job interviews now.
Which sucks.
And I'm automatically
Right.
I'm automatically shut down like the minute I come into a job interview. It doesn't matter what I know or what I say or anything, because they're like, all he's got is old ideas and we want those fresh new ideas. Like it's just one of those things. Like fresh new ideas is keyword for somebody younger and really
Faster.
And somebody younger, faster. Like that's what we want. Like because you're old, we don't really give a fuck.
Right.
And that becomes very frustrating.
Yeah.
And you have to be 3 times better than the next person who walks in.
Right.
It still probably won't help you.
Yep.
Like I'm consistently
We all have problems.
there, and I think it's just everyone, and that's why everyone has their own life situation. Like everybody has their own backpack full of rocks
Right.
that they drag around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And but we get caught in our selfish views.
Right. I have it harder
Like
than you.
100%.
Everybody
like,
has it hard.
Everybody's got
Life
it
is hard. And like you said, it's situational. And this is not a religious podcast or a spiritual podcast, but I'm going to make a Bible reference here. It's a scripture in Ecclesiastes 9 and 11 where it talks about life and chance happening to us all. God is here, Jesus is here, and all these things like that, but life and chance still happens to us. And I think that's the thing we have to accept. It happens to us. We all have our problems. Right. People, even down to socioeconomic status, people think, if I had more money, I'd be able to. But money comes with its own problems too. Everything has its own rocks or weight.
Yep.
And I think the moment we start to accept that, we'll be able to kind of coexist better and say, hey, my problems are not greater than yours, but yours are not greater than mine. So let's just both admit we have problems and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
That's like one of the things that I've always said, like, I'll have conversations with people, or even like, if maybe like me and my girlfriend are, down, like, oh man, like things are a little tight right now, like, oh, life sucks. And to me, it's like, man, it could always be worse. There's people that are homeless. There's people that have no food.
Right.
And however they got to that situation, whether self-inflicted or by some crazy circumstances, but like, I always try to live that, like, I'm appreciative. Even if I'm struggling, I'm appreciative for what I have, because shit could be so much way worse. I have a house. I have 2 kids that are healthy. I'm able to make sure that they have the bare necessities that they need, and more sometimes. And to me, like, it is that, like, my problems, as bad as they could be, are not the worst of how things are.
It's the 80-20 rule, essentially. You're looking at that 20% of things you don't have, and you are putting the magnifying glass on it and magnifying to the
that becomes the only important.
That becomes the only importance. And something that me and my wife started doing is, like, when we find ourselves down like that, we start listing the things that we're grateful for. And every time we list the things we're grateful for, we can't say the things we were grateful for before, because there's so many things in life to be grateful for. If you just focus on the same things, it's like, yeah, my kids are helping to have a house, but I don't have that. You're like, if you focus on the negative, that's what you're going to get. You have to be intentional about your positivity. You have to be intentional about your peace of mind and your mindset about whatever it is you're striving for. And I think once you focus on those things that you do have going for you, it's easy to kind of enjoy life a little bit more and kind of, you know,
some of those
carry those
things.
rocks. I
'Cause
really
I'm-
like the way you said that because it's really weight.
And
It's weight.
I've talked about that before lots of times with different people. And, you know, I have quite a backstory that I don't need to really get in. Jason knows a whole lot about it.
Well, you
but,
kind of shared it last time, you know what I mean?
yeah,
To an extent.
you know, I've been on the edge of dying a couple times already. Probably more times than I need to be.
Right.
I've been through severe depression. I've been through wanting to die.
Absolutely.
I've been through
Likewise.
Yep.
a lot of
Definitely.
different things. You know, I've successfully gotten through cancer before and a few
Wow.
different stuff.
Which I know you don't like talking about it, but I think you should talk about it more.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
It's just we can do a different situation. with it. Like,
And I feel like I said that to you last time, but I'm big on that.
but it's a lot of people ask me that they're just like, you know, how can you not feel like things are against you, or how do you get real positive again?
Right.
And I think a lot of that, and I tell them, you know, like life is waves, and
Ebbs and flows. Yeah.
and it you ride the top of that wave, but that wave will eventually crash.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to get to the top of the wave again is to believe that you will. Because if you believe that you won't, if you're just going to live in the crash, then you'll be there and you'll drown.
Right.
Like you have to swim to the top of the crest again.
You gotta swim.
And it will.
I'm still in
it
all of
will
his
come to
analogies,
you.
by the way. I'm gonna like say them in other places and be like so profound, like it's rock. You gotta swim, like because
Delano's gonna be like, let me drop this on you.
I promise you. I'm gonna give you your credit.
It's kind of it's a consistent
Right.
like joke with all the people that work for me and everything else. Like I love analogies. Like I do it constantly.
Yeah, I do too.
But
Because it helps.
But it's
you
fun.
digest.
It helps the listener understand it 100 times
Helps
better.
make it relative to
But
everyone.
even to like the reason again I'm big on people sharing those stories, even going back to what I want to know about you guys in the last 10 years, is again this is not a religious podcast or a spiritual podcast, but I'm going to make spiritual references.
Go for it.
Like the Bible talks about when you don't tell your testimony, God takes it back. You see what I'm saying? Because you don't know who needs that. Like even last time we were here, like my kid has cerebral palsy, right? And he has all, at the time all kind of allergies. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what he could eat. He wasn't gaining weight and all of these things and all these problems. I've never seen so many doctors in my life. Like I went to a doctor as a kid, and my wife went even more than I because she's allergic to everything in the most literal sense, even air, dust, grass, all of that. So we both had our stints with doctors to an extent, but I've never seen these kind of specialists. And so the day I was here, my wife gave him something that I gave him before, and he just had a reaction. Throat was closed, and we had to rush to the
Right.
hospital and things of that nature.
Yeah, like literally, Delano
Yeah.
was here for a moment, and then he was gone, and just he was gone.
like I just had to
That's
take
that's an
But
EpiPen
Justin and I were
type
like, I
of-
guess we're finishing this one out.
So in the midst of that, though, like I'm saying this to say that he had to have a surgery a couple weeks after that the doctors had made it seem like the surgery was very, very small, like it's going to be in and out
Right,
outpatient.
right.
He ended up being in the hospital for 2 days. The surgery was meant for a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old because he had 2 different surgeries at the same time because it was that severe. His adenoids was swollen, and he had laryngomalacia and a stridor. And his air passage was blocked
Right.
75% of the way just from the adenoids alone, and then the laryngomalacia on top of that. So he wasn't even supposed to be alive. He wasn't even supposed to be breathing.
Wow.
And it's
So
crazy
the
that you
fact
say all this because, like, seeing him, like,
You don't
the last
know
time I
that.
was at your house, like, seeing
But that's
him,
post surgery.
Right.
He would struggle with, like, he would sleep through the night, but he was snoring and stuff like that. And we just always felt like that was weird. You know what I mean? And after the surgery, like, recovery was hard. It took a long time to get him back eating, but he's eating now. Like, his physical therapy appointments have gone down to once a month. They told me my son wouldn't walk, he wouldn't do all of these things, and he's doing everything
Yeah, he
just
was
fine.
walking around when I saw
So
him.
I say all of that to say that that's the reason I'm big on people sharing their stories, because somebody's going to hear this, and while they're at that low, it's going to be like, I can swim through
Yep.
because somebody else got through it.
Definitely.
And people with kids, like, it changes things. Like, man, I know you were sharing with, stuff that's happening with your child and everything like that. Like, that's why I share those stories with him, because, like, yo, I know what you're feeling right now. Like you said, swim through it, you'll get through it. Like,
Right.
It's a blessing. Like, my wife didn't even delete we have a family calendar. We didn't even delete the doctor's appointments he normally would have, because it's just a reminder that no matter
don't
what
even
you're
have
going
to do
through,
those now.
I don't have to do it. I know where I've come from. I know where my low was, and everything in life is not
Right.
as I want it to be, but it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It can
I just want to
always
share
get
that.
better.
Yeah, it can always get better, and
Yeah.
it will. You just have to swim through it.
So with that, I mean, it's a crazy kind of segue, but like looking into the, we talk about like the influencers, right? there's a lot of influencers that do that, right?
Yeah.
What's the one
Motivation.
guy's name? He's Mike V or what's
Gary
his name?
V?
Gary V.
I love Gary V.
Right,
in
like
Shrek.
there are some people that are out there that's like they're awesome at that part, but then also the rise of social influences or influencers is kind of frustrating because it feels like it gives people a false sense of career path, maybe, right? Like
I can understand that.
what they're thinking of now. Like my son's like, oh dude, I could just let me play video games, Dad. I could just be a pro gamer. Let me play video games, which maybe you could.
I think there's
maybe
But
you
you
won't.
have to be really.
But, like, I
it's a
think that's-
possibility,
good
but
at
it's
games.
probably less realistic than saying you want to be a professional athlete because there's more of those.
And see,
Yeah.
and I think like that's what's weird with now in the last decade is the rise of podcasts, social influencers, streaming like Twitch and video game streaming.
Well,
and,
the 8-year-old that made $26 million on
Get the
YouTube.
fuck
Oh
outta
my
here.
God, those stinking YouTube kids with the
opening
toy,
toys, opening
I love it all.
toys,
the toy reviews.
love it.
opening toys.
I
All
mean-
of those things, I love it because it gives people another outlet and avenue
does.
to be
It
creative. And I
does.
do agree that it gives people a
I just hope that the
sense
parents
of,
are doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's
obviously.
That's the only-
yeah.
We for
See,
sure.
I
It's,
like
it's like
that. I
kid
like that.
actors. You're going to see
Yeah.
parents do the wrong thing. You
You
know,
know-
that that's happening. Not all of them, but it's happening. But I
Better
like
than those
it.
dance moms.
I like it because
Boy, you better get downstairs and open those gifts.
it
we
goes
recorded
back
5
to-
minutes.
it goes back to what I said at the beginning about success is not owned, it's rented, and it's due every day. Even though people are doing that, it still takes work. You can't be an influencer
that's hard, man.
without compelling content. You have to have a story.
Right.
I have to. It's likewise what we talk about with the movies. I have to be able to believe you and buy into you to follow you.
Yeah.
Period. On any level. Yes, you can be a gamer, but are you good at games? Can you
Right.
give me the tips
And
and,
that's- and
tricks
that's
I
what-
need to win at the game?
Yeah.
Or can I watch you play and it's entertaining? If I'm just watching you play and you're just playing, but there's no
You're not
compelling
saying
conversation, you're not
anything,
saying
yeah.
anything, that's not entertaining. I'm not gonna watch it. So it's still
Yeah.
a skill in that. I like it because again, it's direct to consumer. It's cutting out the middleman in
Middleman.
a sense. I'm going directly to you. I have it's terrible analogy.
I mean, it's
the
legit.
mixtape era all over again.
Right.
I'm out the trunk with the mixtapes on the street.
The street is just
This
digital.
is that. The streets is just digital. I love that on so many different references. The streets is just digital. I'm definitely posting that as my Facebook status today. The streets are digital. Now hear me. On so many levels, being from my demographic, the streets are digital because
Like,
now
how many bad mixtapes have you bought?
How many have you sold?
I've never sold a mixtape, and I actually used to make music. I never
Well,
sold one ever.
a mixed CD. I've never bought a mixtape.
Even mixed CD. I've never bought a bad one
With the
because
radio
the kind
intro
of
at the
person that I
beginning.
am, if you again, because I used to make music, and when you're selling me your mixtape, rap right now. Sell me
Right.
right now. And if you can't, I'm not gonna buy it. And then if it's like, I remember I was in LA a couple years ago, and a dude like ran up on me. He's like, I'm the hottest rapper in LA. I just did a show with Chris Brown. And I'm like, rap right now. And he rapped, and I'm like, you're trash. And he's like combating me, so we start battling. And I'm just like, this is why you're trash. You're trash. It's to the point where I'm battling him.
Delano.
And his man's is like, yo, he's killing you. And that's what it is. Like, so no, I never bought a bad mixtape ever in my
So
life.
I had a mixtape experience once when I lived
With the
in
dude
Chicago.
outside? Oh.
With the dude outside, right?
No, the
this
dude- I
one's
thought
great.
you was
I didn't buy
talking
the
about the dude on
tape.
Woodward.
No. So,
Oh God!
wait,
wait,
I know that
the
guy
one with
too.
the sunglasses and the bike.
I know that guy too.
Oh
I'll
God!
tell you
Listen.
what. I bought his CD.
You and Kirk Trainer is the reason that guy is still out there. Kirk Trainer bought his. I'm saying it on record.
No,
Kirk Trainer bought
it's-
his first CD.
I
and
did it
started
just so I
all.
wouldn't have
It's the
to ever.
tourists. They're the ones that fall for it.
That's crazy.
But it got me. It got me out of him bothering me for the next 3 years. It was still worth $5.
he never bothers me because I told him no.
Yeah.
Because I was just
I just
like,
ignore him.
I'm like,
He
I already
told
got it,
me that-
man. I already got it.
He
I already
told
got
me
it.
that once. I'm like, rap right now, and he started rapping. I'm like, you're trash, and I walked off. Like it's not. It's not
I
even.
was walking past him with my dog, and he goes, "Your doggy like hip hop? Like what? Is he gonna
Yeah,
buy a
the dog-
CD from
So
you?"
look,
The dog likes it.
So at least that guy, when he
I
approached
totally
me,
did. I'll admit it 1,000%. Just because I was just like, I'm so sick and tired of getting asked for this fucking thing.
So now I've had.
Oh,
Was it any
you're
good?
responsible.
I forgot about that guy. So I
I
actually
don't
have two
remember.
mixtape experiences. I forgot
I
about
lost
that guy.
it in a car wash situation. I think I have no idea.
Lost it.
So when I
think
lived
it
in
got-
Chicago,
I think it's gone.
this one area of Chicago is like a big college district, like hangout area, Belmont, and I can't remember what the other street is, but it's like a main crossroad, and the L stops right there and stuff. And there was a DJ store there, like turntables, mixers, all this stuff, and music production equipment. And we were in there for some reason. I was looking around and stuff, and we come out, and this guy is like, "Yo, dude," he's like. He's like, I woke up in the alley this morning. And right then I knew it was going to be great, right? You start off like, I woke up in the alley this morning. Oh, okay, what is going on? He's like, I woke up in the alley this morning, man. I got drunk last night, and I went straight to the booth, and I recorded this, and it's straight fire. And he's got a cassette tape that's wrapped in paper. And he's like, yo, you got to listen to it. And he was like, here. And I was like, sweet, I'll give it a listen. And he's like, that's like $10. You can take this blank tape back. Yeah. There's no way you woke up in the alley and then you go into a studio and recording.
Anybody that can afford studio time does not live in the alley.
Right.
No.
Right. No. And I was like, yeah, you can take your blank cassette tape back.
That is funny.
But it was funny just be like the story, and I appreciated the honesty of whether or not he really woke up in the alley. The story was great.
Could you imagine that record though?
Who knows what
it's
It'd be like Afro Man, but not good.
It's definitely like a false DMX record, like alley, struggle, I was drunk, it'd be terrible. Like that's horrible.
But I mean, it was hilarious. So I've not had a lot of experience with actually buying.
Is a segue to the SoundCloud movement of the last 10 years. Yeah. And I feel like SoundCloud has been such a big format, or a platform rather, for artists to get their music more across to the general public. Like Russ, for example, I feel like is the greatest SoundCloud artist of all time, because what he did, going back to Success Being Rented, is he had 11 albums on SoundCloud before he even had a big break. And all of the stuff that we hear, well, not so much in recent years, but the stuff we heard, like #1 singles and stuff like that, were things he already did on SoundCloud. And that goes back to the work ethic. It was already there. He's recording albums and doing everything every day. Like, I'm in that studio every day, recording in my basement. And what he notices that, going to research and studying, is people only click the first song. So he went from putting out albums to just putting out songs. Because people will click them. Yeah. And all it takes is one break with going viral. It went viral. And then all he did was start putting out old songs that he already had.
Right.
Because they were already good.
Let me ask you this. Do you think SoundCloud versus YouTube versus the ease of getting onto iTunes? So I know people that are on iTunes, right? And like you would think with iTunes that it might be a bigger barrier to entry, like harder to get onto that platform, but it doesn't seem like it. And so like SoundCloud, I know if I search an artist, I'm directed to a YouTube or to them on iTunes before I'm directed to them on SoundCloud. And
how big is the artist?
I guess that's part of it, right? What's the other one now? Bandcamp is another one.
Bandcamp's been around for a really long time.
But it's just now you're going to
but again, it's that whole shift, right? And
I think Bandcamp was first.
And I think this goes towards
Bandcamp. I don't know. I'm not.
SoundCloud. We were fucking with SoundCloud back in 2000, I think.
Bandcamp was. Like, they were doing pop punk stuff in the late 90s.
Wow.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean...
I didn't even know SoundCloud was that old. I got on the SoundCloud like mid-2000s.
Yeah. So my buddy would make beats, and then he would post them on the SoundCloud so that we could download them instead of having to go to his house and get them on a CD or something. We could just download them from the SoundCloud.
Totally ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Another reason why I'm hard on artists is because, again, going back to making music, without having the money to actually have a producer go in and try to find YouTube beats and things of that nature, that work ethic that it takes to beat select and find and stuff like that is another reason why I don't respect like artists that are not good, because you're not willing to put in the work.
Have you watched the interview with Benny the Butcher? It's a total. Now we're going back.
Yeah.
But they gave him studio time and he just showed up. And then so the studio's like, okay, where are your beats? And he goes, I don't know. I didn't know I have to bring beats. And he's like, he goes, well, what are we going to do? And he's just like, well, no one told me.
Yeah.
Like, I just came in here.
But that shows you when you come off the street.
But those guys were just like, they had no clue. And he was talking about that. And he goes, well, luckily, like, he goes, well, you already bought studio time, so I got some that I was working on in the back. Let me go get
it. You can't help what you're doing, and that's another reason why I enjoyed the authenticity of the story. Ignorance is bliss.
I thought that was hilarious. Like, he had no idea he had to bring his own music.
And that's another reason why I love the influencer. I know we're kind of off track a little bit, but I can do everything from my laptop, man. I don't even need a studio anymore. I can do this here. Yep. And I'm super hard on artists. Like, and you've heard me talk to Mike in a lot of regards. I'm hard on them because I used to be in that pocket. I never wanted to be an artist. I was just doing that to pass my time at that moment, because in my mind I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna turn to the streets, so let me do something to occupy my time to kind of keep myself,
to keep you out of that,
to keep me out of that. So I was making music in that regard. My cousin was just like, yeah, just make music and write, you know, you do all this other writing and stuff like that, just make it. So I'm like, okay, and I got into the swing of that. So that's why I'm hard on them, because I didn't want to do it and I know I could have. So I know that you can do it. I'm super hard on artists. So rap. Do what you can do. Yeah. And if you're not talented, I'll tell you why.
And I think
there's a lot of people that just think, again, it's like that focus on yourself. Like, I hear it. I think it's
fire
good.
to me.
It doesn't matter to anything else, man.
If you made it for you, listen to it in your basement. Don't put it out.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't be in an industry where no matter what it is, if you're in the arts, and somebody just told me this, my cousin just told me this.
You have to be able to take criticism.
You have to be able to take criticism.
Yeah.
Because I'm the consumer. I like what I like. That doesn't mean I'm the standard. This is what I like. My cousin's like, yo, you're the hardest critic. And then my uncle was like, even if Jesus put out something, you'll have something to say about it. And I just thought that was so funny, just going back to jokes. But I'm highly critical.
I'm going to say that Jesus' rap album probably does suck.
It definitely does not. It definitely does. No, you know what's so crazy? Like, to just run into the ground. Jesus' rap album would be so hilarious because it would be so direct. It would be so offensive that people wouldn't even listen to it because it would be so direct. And just going back to stuff Jesus did in the Bible.
Yeah.
Nothing, we don't gotta get
eat your heart
like,
out, Marcus Yahoo.
It'd be so funny. But, like, that's why I'm hard on artists because, like, or the arts in general. Like, I say, I didn't like the new Bad Boys movie. And people.
I know, I saw you post that.
I'm not going to say anything about it. But people just.
Wait for that one on HBO or
they
something.
flame me for it and stuff like that. And I'm
I saw you post that.
I'm a lot in my opinion, but again, my intake of it is so much. I go to the movies a lot. Like we talk movies and music a lot. Music, movies, arts, all that. I'm into that kind of stuff. That's what I'm passionate about. So my intake is on a completely different level than most people. Yeah. So if I
get frustrated, like I'm gonna go from a different angle, like that I have to do. Like, do you get frustrated that maybe culturally you're required to like shit that you don't like?
I'm not frustrated with that because I enjoy the conversation. Yeah. But I like to debate and stuff like that.
I
enjoy the conversation.
Look, there is never a person I've ever known that likes to debate more than Delano.
Well, I just mean
the debates that he has had, like,
but I'm
openly
going back
on the floor.
The Bad Boys review and things, and I think some people probably gave it like a glaring good review because they feel like they're obligated to like it. You know
I don't think it's that. I think a twofold thing. Threefold. I think people ride waves. I think once somebody says something is good, going back to cancel culture, whatever we say, I'm on that wave. And it's not so much I'm required to like it, but it's the sense of belonging. Everybody else like it. I don't want to stand out and say that it's not good because it's unpopular opinion. And then two, I think the bar is low. We don't see good content like that anymore. Like just to make it relevant about the last decade, Hollywood has remade every single movie over and over and over and over and over again.
There's a complete dearth of imagination.
That's one of the industries I think that is way slower to change compared to music, right? Because music now, you can distribute, like you said, SoundCloud, iTunes. It's very easy to get that stuff distributed much more on your own. And the I'm going to start my own label to get like-minded people together, and we're going to do this independent. There is the independent movement in film. There always has been, but still, like, acquiring that wide release, you can do it on YouTube, but like there's like a discount to YouTube, right? There's a discount to putting your film out online versus it being in a theater,
right?
Getting that wide release. I mean, there's people that still bank on we're going to these film festivals hoping to get picked up by a distributor that's going to push it everywhere.
I think that's a change with Netflix and things like that.
Yeah.
Netflix is changing.
You can
for
bring
sure.
in something a little bit different, and I think. Like, my personal opinion about the lack of creativity is the fear of a failure.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
The amount of money that goes into those movies is so tremendous to get somebody to back
versus
you. Versus
what could go into an album or...
like, the amount of money you're putting into YouTube or a music album is minuscule in comparison to a $500 million movie.
Yeah.
I think
they need to bring that down.
I agree. I think they do need to bring it down, but again, I'm just gonna stick on this, and guess what I do in business, and even I'm hard on myself when it comes to, I'm like, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not doing whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of the work. My brother-in-law films movies and videos and things of that nature. Last night we went to see his movie premiere for a movie he directed called Chocolate Kisses. And, you know, whether you like it or not, whatever, like, it was great to just see him in his finest and work and trying to do something different. What the production company that he worked for in this instance, what they did is have their own production company, local here in Detroit. They film all of their movies here. All of their actors are from here. Everything that they do is here. What they do is they rent out a whole movie theater or half a side of a movie theater, show the movie, sold the tickets for $25 a piece, sold out every movie theater. They had put everything on digital platforms, and that's what they do with their content. So I think people can do it. You don't have to go the Sundance route. I think people who go that route, which is nothing wrong with it, people want the accolade. I want the Oscar. I want the recognition.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of putting out compelling content.
It's definitely a scheme for the award seasons, and for sure.
And that's what it is. So like for me,
how many people do you personally take the award season seriously?
I mean, no one does.
No, but
I think there is a group of people, but I am completely and utterly against like Oscars and Golden Globes and Emmys, and because I feel like it's a lot of shit that nobody's gonna buy.
Yeah.
Like nobody went to go see it in the movie theater. Nobody's gonna buy it on DVD because it's outlandishly boring at certain times.
A lot of times, yeah.
It's things. All it is the Hollywood elite glad-handing each other, going, "This is me."
It is
to an
There's
extent.
a society
being
that it
awesome.
works.
To an extent, and I'll agree with Delano on that, because we've had conversations and made it a point to watch like the ones that were nominated and the ones that won, right? And I will. Some of them
are good.
I think
Yeah.
it depends
a lot
on
of
your
it's just like how
what
boring
you
this
like
can
and your
be.
appreciation for the craft.
Yeah. And I think that's the separation, the appreciation for the craft. However, I agree with what you're saying is that it's archaic, going back to you,
Right.
because certain movies are made specifically to get
For
that
us,
audience.
right.
And that's why they
Because
become
they're like,
boring.
I'm
and
going to
things
lose money on this because this is just me trying to be artsy.
Yeah.
Whereas things like, I don't know if anybody else saw 1917.
I haven't
That
seen
movie
it yet.
I haven't
was
watched it yet.
amazing.
And that's what I've heard. It's
Like,
amazing.
And it's getting a lot of Oscar nods.
And
a lot
make
of
sure,
reviews.
like, if you're planning on seeing it, make sure you see it in a movie theater just so you can see it on the proper screen. Because that's necessary.
See, and that's the thing that sucks.
But it's
like,
awesome.
Depending on people's situations, it becomes harder. It's harder for me to just, unless I want to go sit in the movies by myself, to go see these films in that scenario, which is why I just have a giant TV with surround sound so I can try to recreate a theater. But, like, it is hard, and there's so many movies that I had to watch at home that I wish I would have had the chance to see in a theater.
Yeah.
There's certain things that you kind of have to, because then you get only like
I
half the
agree.
experience.
I love the experience of being in the theater and the social setting, the group laughter, the group gasp. Like that is
That
part
part I
of
hate.
what I love
You hate
about the
that part?
movies.
I don't like an uncontrollable aspect. And it's because I have PTSD. Like that's why. Like,
So to me,
Yeah, okay.
that's part
like
of
I
the
don't
theater
like
experience.
things that are uncontrollable in my life.
Right.
And a large crowd of people is uncontrollable.
I happen to
understand.
be
I
a
deal
very
with it.
loud laugher. So
Yes, I know.
And
she snorts.
I snort when I laugh.
And
really.
I threaten people.
Yeah.
'Cause I get
So
very short.
I'm not the one you want to be sitting next to in the theater
I think I
with.
talked about that before. Like I have a tendency to threaten people in the movie theater.
No.
Oh, do tell.
What?
Like anybody who gets out a phone is up for
Oh
it.
yeah, he did talk
Well,
about that.
yeah.
He did talk about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
literally a flashlight.
Yeah,
Like,
that's disrespectful.
Like
Yeah.
they're
See,
immediately become my target.
I will just try to ignore it.
No.
But Megan
not.
will
Nope.
be saying
I spend
shit
money,
under her
like,
breath, and I'm
you're-
like, "You're gonna get me in a fight, and I really don't want
Yeah,
to
but
ruin
your
this movie."
selfishness is ruining my experience, and now I'm wasting money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing.
Those
you can't live
situations
without.
can definitely bring down the experience, but overall, I love.
I've had pleasant, for the most part, experience.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a
I've-
few.
once
Especially
in a
with those
while-
That's what I love
chairs
to
they
change
have
in the
now.
movies, because I stopped going to movies for years and years. Like I'll admit, like I stopped going because I didn't like. It just drove me crazy not being able to pick where I wanted to sit and blah blah blah. And like the changes they made in the last 10 years, like
Yeah,
going
assigned
back on the last
seating,
decade,
better seats.
Yep.
with better seats,
Assigned seating.
Assigned seating, yeah.
more controlled atmosphere, like being more critical about making sure that they control that. Less people in the theater.
More
Yeah,
more
yeah.
cleanliness.
because of the
Yeah.
size, the size
Yes,
of
more
the
cleanliness.
seats.
Oh my God,
It's
that's got to be
cleaner,
the
like-
big
Yeah.
one.
No more
Everything
sticky
to
floors.
compete with to compete with the home experience. You had to
Yeah.
step it up, and they did. And so it made me return to the movie theater. So that's one of my happy things in the last decade.
One of the
Mine
things
too.
Fantastic.
One of the things that kills me, and because I had this experience in a theater, is society's overall society's just general disregard for property. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. So, the reason I say this is, so there is a theater on John Arts in Madison Heights or Clawson-ish area.
The Star.
The Star, right? They put in the nice recliners. They
You mean the AMC on by 14?
Yeah, they were the first ones with the nice seats.
Yeah, they were.
They basically went Imagine, but like a major chain.
Yeah, they were
right?
the first
Nice.
one with a
And-
bar too. They had a bar.
It was nice when it first opened.
What do you imagine was the first one with the bar, I think.
No, they had a bar.
When I
at
lived
Star.
down there,
For the first?
Yeah, in like 2000 they had that thing.
Okay.
so when I lived down in Warren, that was the theater we would go to once they put in those nice seats and stuff, because it was awesome. You can recline, you know. It wasn't as expensive as Imagine, and I didn't have to drive as far. So like the nearest Imagine at that time was either the one in Rochester or Royal Oak. And we would always go to that theater. We stopped going to that theater because, like, the last time I went there, I sat in the end seat and the whole arm was falling off the chair, and like the
Yeah,
leather
me-
was ripped,
Wow.
and it was just like the blatant disregard that people have for property, like, because that ruins the experience now too, right? Like, and to
OPP.
me, is someone that enjoys that movie going experience, like, that was just like fuck, because I'm sitting there and the whole time my arm's wiggling on this, you know, on the arm of the chair and
That's
stuff.
kind
It's
of
like,
on them a little bit too.
no,
is.
it's definitely on the theater too for
Yeah.
not fixing that shit. But at the same time, like, if you think of a business owner, and I know I get Star is a bigger business, but if you think of a business owner, like, that's a toll that comes out on them, right? Like, if you were a small business owner and someone's messing up your booths constantly, you
Plus,
can
they
only
own that
afford to
chain, yeah.
replace that so many times before it becomes a, well, fuck, I'm just gonna have to duct tape that for now. And that part is like a social thing that drives me nuts, is the like blatant lack of respect that people seem to have. That one, it's where people seem to be way more entitled. They expect that everything should be a certain way just specifically for them.
people like spit
but
on
then
the
but then
floor and do
the lack of respect. I've walked through buildings and stores where they're just spitting on the floor. I've seen that.
come
And like
on.
just disgusting stuff. Look,
I hate it when they do it on the
put
sidewalk,
this
let
this
alone
this is what's real
indoors.
crazy. This drives me really fucking nuts because it just happened the other day. I was in a stall and taking a shit. Okay, because we'll just put that out. That's the only reason I'm in the stall. I'm in the stall, and when you're in a stall, there's toilet paper right there, right on the wall opposite the
that's-
toilet
yep,
paper.
you told me about
There is, yes, I told you about this. It's just fucking bloody boogers all over the wall. You are
that's pretty
sitting next to the
commonplace,
fucking
yeah.
toilet paper, and you can't have the common decency to just put that on toilet paper.
nasty.
You have to rub your bloody boogers all over the
That's
wall.
not
I
even
gotta
half
take a
of what
chance.
women see.
Sure, but like, but
Oh,
like
buddy.
that, like the
Yeah, the tampon. thing
how
they used to
people
do.
feel like they can just do that, or like that,
People
just
are
bewilders me.
disgusting.
You have to wonder
The
what
thing
their
is
houses
that
look
you
like.
need to make sure. Because I brought it before. I used to run the maintenance for the Meyer stores in like Detroit. And
Oh,
shit
boy.
Like that. So, and it
You've
used
seen
to
some
be kinda-
things.
Yeah, I've seen some terrible things. People living in there. But one of the things I found out though, like with the mental condition of people,
Yeah.
is that you have to stay on top of it like crazy, because the minute one person writes a piece of graffiti in the bathroom, if you go in there and clean it up, you won't see another one for like
But
4
if you leave it,
like 3-4 months. But if you leave it, the entire thing will be covered in like a week. And it's just because somebody now has desecrated it, so everybody else feels like it's time to do
It's
it.
Monkey see,
okay.
monkey do.
So when you like that's like part of the human condition on that, is that, so if I break something, like if I walk into a classroom and there's a broken chair, now I'm gonna break 3 or 4 desks just because I would think that it doesn't fucking matter.
wasn't that the Disney thing?
So they have
right?
to do that.
They talked about the Disney, the Disney parks, that like if you let one piece of trash be on the ground, then people are just gonna think
Yeah,
it's okay.
people just
so
say
like,
fuck it, and that's
Why?
why it really.
why?
It's
why is
it's.
that?
I think it's like just this intrinsic thing as humans that we do. Like you look at your environment and adapt to it.
It's fucking annoying.
And America is the laziest country in the world.
That's
Let's
a
be
fact.
honest.
We're not
I don't know.
about
We haven't been
America.
everywhere else, but
I've been to a lot of places, and it's
just think
it's
we're
the
just
same for the
different.
most part. I
Yeah.
think it's like
I think
you said, it's a
everybody is
mindset.
that way.
Yeah, for the most part. Okay, I got a just a couple quick hits, right quick.
Go-
Just
go for it.
Keeping it decade central.
Go for it.
Movie of the decade.
Fuck, man, come on,
Ah.
come on. Jesus Christ, movie of the decade.
I'll go first because I've had something to think about.
I know my personal favorite movie. Of the
And I'm
decade.
going to be objective. I'm not going to be subjective. I'm going to keep my personal favorites. I'm just looking at what had the biggest impact. I'm going to give it to Avengers for Infinity War.
Yes. If you want to say cultural impact,
I have no opinion.
yes.
And that's what I'm saying. Like that, the way that they build for 10 years.
Everyone's trying to copy it.
Everybody's trying to copy that model.
Everybody's trying to do the superhero movie now.
And they're
Not
following
even
that same format.
Not even the superhero movies. Everyone's trying to have a universe.
Yeah.
The
I
fact
hate
that they tried to do the Universal Classic Monsters universe that
Terrible.
failed, right? But that's what they were trying to
Yeah,
do.
that movie was god awful.
So-
Both of them, all three of them. Wasn't there three of them?
Well, so Dracula Untold
the
wasn't
Mummy one?
officially part of it. It was the Mummy.
It was.
The
though.
Mummy was supposed to be the kickoff.
And then they had the werewolf one. What was that?
But
one?
that one was still outside of it too. Like
Okay.
the Mummy one with Tom Cruise came
I
after
can't even
both of
watch
those other
that. I
ones.
got 10 minutes into it. I had to turn it
Terrible.
off.
So that was the one
I had
that
to.
came after Dracula and after the Wolfman, and that was the one that was supposed to kick it off proper. They wanted to kick it off with the Dracula one, but it didn't do good enough that they thought they could start it off with that. So then they did the Tom Cruise one because Tom Cruise has the star power, and they were trying to do
Not that time.
do that off
Yeah,
of
that
him.
movie was awful.
And it was
bad. But
I didn't even watch the whole thing. But
I did just because I'm one of these kind of people where if I haven't seen a bad movie in a while, I'll just sit through it because like okay, it's time.
look, we had this talk last time. I told you about the Greasy Strangler. Like
I'm never watching that
The
one.
Good.
Greasy,
The Greasy Strangler.
Oh wait,
do yourself a favor, watch.
I got one.
I
for
showed you the preview.
I got one for you. And we're totally derailed, but whatever. Midsommar. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Terrible.
Wow. No.
That
I liked it.
It was just.
What?
It was
Oh.
weird.
It wasn't
liked
even
it.
weird to me.
It
I
was
can't
not good.
say
It
that
was
I
not
didn't
good,
like
Jake.
it.
It was the
But
worst movie I've ever saw.
Why?
It was just. Oh,
Where did
God.
it go? The
did
character
it go?
arcs was terrible. The plot was terrible. Like, I sat there for 2 hours waiting for something because it's like, okay, it's clearly a cult movie. Where are we going?
Yep.
And I'm looking at it like the way the trailer went. It gave me the Hereditary vibes. Like the way. So
Same-
I'm like, oh, this is
same
gonna be
director,
great.
right.
It's gonna be great. I didn't know it was the same director. I'm even more pissed now. Like
I
I thought it
actually
was
like
gonna be
Midsummer
great.
better than Hereditary.
What?
Really?
Hereditary was amazing.
Yeah, I loved
I don't
Hereditary.
know.
Hereditary was amazing to me. So I'm thinking, I'm going into it like this is gonna be good. It looks like a cult movie. I'm watching. I'm just like, okay, when are they gonna get into some cult things? Like when is somebody gonna die? Like I'm waiting for these things because it's a cult movie and it never happens. And then when
What?
it does happen, it's like that
When
makes
the
no
people,
sense.
I don't want to spoil it.
No,
but it's
spoil
like,
it. The
When
movie
they jumped-
sucks.
When they jumped.
When they jumped and they literally show the people's faces smashed
and you know what's
in,
crazy?
and then they hit him with a hammer because the
Yeah,
guy
see,
didn't die.
Yeah.
So
I
I
actually
on.
enjoyed that part. But that like
So
it was
I
just
went
terrible.
I went back and looked and like that's actually a real tradition. Like that jump, that's a real thing. So like that was what was
I can
cool for
imagine
me
that
was like
whole
going
thing
and
being
looking.
Yeah,
a real
real thing.
thing, like
Well,
being
and it was
some
funny.
village
So like I watched
somewhere.
it with Megan, right? And we watched it in bed because I'd been holding off watching it because there's a lot of movies that I want to watch like
Finally
that,
watched it.
like
It's-
that where she's like, I don't want to watch your fucked up movies. That's what she literally tells me. So I'm like,
It's well,
so usually I'm like, I have to plan watching some of these movies, and I knew that it was going to be a longer movie, and I usually go to bed, like I might go into bed at about 11, but I don't usually go to bed till like 1, 2 o'clock, and I really didn't feel like starting a movie at 11 that I knew was going to be longer and I might start dozing off. I wanted to pay attention. So this one night we went to bed at around like 8 o'clock, and because I was fucking exhausted from the day before and that morning and afternoon stuff. So I was like, I want to watch this movie. And she hates when I put on these things, but so she watched the whole thing too, and except for a couple of spots where she was like, "Oh my god, tell me when it's over," And at the
I know
end,
which spots
at the
those
end,
are.
she was like, "What the fuck was that about?" And part of it, and I will do stuff where like I'll look up afterwards, like what was the director's meaning behind that, and see if it lines up with what I got off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did get from it in was that like especially. And this is spoilers. If you haven't seen
Spoil
Midsommar,
it.
turn
It
this
sucks.
shit off.
no,
It sucks.
It
Anyway.
doesn't. It just
sucks.
it's different.
So,
If you don't
It
have
sucks.
Netflix,
It's
so
just
at
different.
the end,
I'm riding. It
at
sucks.
the end when her boyfriend is dying and being burned alive in that bear suit, like besides the bear somehow being significant of like, and those people dying are like basically absolving the sins of the community.
yeah.
That was her letting go. Right, she had just gone through
Yeah,
her
I got
parents and her
that. I
sister,
got that.
and so like, and one of the other things that I didn't notice as much, like I got that the other people that died, and every character was despicable. Like every character was fucking annoying. I will agree with that. If that's your point of view, I'll agree with that. They were all fucking horrible people, but what it ended up looking like. So I got from the end of it that it was her like kind of letting go and being able to restart and finding a community that cared for her, because she was with these people that didn't care about her.
And I got
right.
that.
So I got that part too. What I didn't see right away was that each of the men that she was with in that group represented a different layer of like toxic masculinity, if you will.
I caught that too.
So I
that's
wasn't
what
paying attention to that part as much.
My wife actually pointed it out to me. Like,
But I enjoy that slow burn kind of. This shit's getting kind of creepy.
That's why I'm like,
what's going on?
I sit there. I promise you, I hyped it up. So I'm like, yo, this is gonna be the one. Like, me and my wife were so anxious to see it. Like, yo, we saw it. I'm like, this is gonna be. We both were like excited. Like, we missed it in the theater because of having the kid in the hospital and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay. It came on like Amazon Prime.
Yep.
Or something like that. I'm
It's
like,
on Prime,
boom.
yeah.
I mean, it's been on my list since day one that it was on Prime. It just didn't watch it for like 2 months.
We was talking about it, like, have you seen it? Have you seen
I
it? Have
didn't
you
even
seen
know it was in theaters.
It went to theaters over the
That's-
summer,
wow.
and because it was a small,
first
like
stage.
smaller,
Yeah.
sometimes Sundance film. So we watched it, and we said that movie was like almost 3 hours, and I'm just like, yo, it has
was
to go.
3 hours?
Almost. It was
How
like
did I
2
not
hours and
notice
49
that?
minutes or something like that. Because it sucked. Like,
No, it didn't. But I don't know. I guess for me, it didn't suck. Like I was just hooked the whole time. Like there were certain times where I was like looking at my phone and I'm like, wait, what did just happen? I had to rewind.
I did the
it.
same thing too,
Yeah.
because I'm giving the director time to build something. He's building this world. He's building
See-
this message, and I'm watching it, and I'm just like, and then just
To Delano's point, if I find myself doing something else while I'm watching a movie, then there's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
To me, like when I go into watching a movie, I go into a movie with the intention of I'm going to watch and pay attention because I love movies. So like for you to be like, oh, I was on my phone and I had to rewind, to me right there, like that would, if I have that reaction where I'm on my phone, then this movie is not good enough to hold my attention. Then I do have a problem with that movie.
I guess I was on. I say it sucked. Okay, but back to
I didn't have that with this movie. I watched it all the way through.
I did too,
and I enjoyed watching my girlfriend squirm. Like,
my wife was pissed. She was more mad than I was about it being bad. You know what I mean?
Oh,
But
wow.
okay, artist of the decade.
artist of the decade. Well, we didn't say all movies.
Okay, well I said
So
Avengers.
God, I gotta look up. Did Inception come out in this last decade?
No.
No,
Or
that
was it before?
that
That was like
2000.
2004, man.
No, Inception wasn't 2004. Inception was like 2009, 10 or something like that. I mean, we can
feel like
Google
that
it.
was a long time
No,
ago.
it wasn't, because like at that time I was in high school. That movie came out way after I was in
Yeah.
high school. I was in college when Inception came out. I think it was 2008, if I'm not mistaken.
Walter Mitty.
2010.
2010. Okay, well that
Yeah,
that's counts.
that
It counts.
It counts.
Okay,
Counts.
so
Counts.
I'm gonna be tied between that, and I'm pretty sure.
I have not seen Inception yet.
What the fuck?
I have not had.
What? All right,
Your
turn your
agenda
mic
today.
off. Turn your mic off. Just go home.
It's on Netflix. You're going home and watching Inception. You
Is
have
it
to
on-
watch it.
Oh yeah, it is on Netflix. I'm gonna add
Oh,
it to my
it's
list right
definitely
now.
on
Then.
It's on Netflix.
That movie's amazing.
My other one, I'm just looking to make sure it came up in this year. 2013 did. My other movie that I love, and I posted this one on New Year's Eve because I was watching it with Dylan, my son, and I just love the overall message of the movie. Is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
I have not seen that yet either.
Get the fuck out of
Sorry.
here!
Okay.
Holy shit!
Yes, me and Jason are movie like snobs. Okay.
Like
I have seen a lot of movies,
and
but
people,
there are certain
I mean,
ones
look,
that, yeah,
it's not
they've
the
just...
best movie, but the fact that like I can relate to it as a daydreamer, as someone has aspirations that, you know, I don't want to live that life of regret. And it's funny, like when I told my son that and Megan that I was thinking about doing stand up, the first thing my son was like, "Dad, you're not funny. You can't do that." And I was like, my response was literally like, I quote, "At least I have the balls to do things that I want to do."
Yeah.
Like there's so many people that go through life without having the guts to get past those things, and that's one of the things that I try to celebrate with this podcast is those people that are doing those things.
Right.
And that movie can be so inspirational. And I mean I don't normally get all sappy and write these inspirational like little fucking things,
But it
but
had
on
that
New Year's
impact,
Eve,
yeah.
man, like New Year's Eve I'm watching it as like right when the ball was dropping, I was watching The Secret Life of Walter Mitty with my son, and I've told him and my daughter on multiple occasions, like, if there's anything that you learn from me, it's that, like, you can do these things if you really want to. If you really are passionate about it, you can find a way to do it. It doesn't matter. Like right now, I'm recording on 3 fucking different cameras. The video looks shitty. Like one camera looks amazing, that camera looks a little better, and that one's a cell phone. Like, when you see these videos,
I'm on the good one.
right? Yeah, you're on the good one. Okay, but I always put myself worse.
Hey,
right?
camera.
But but that's the thing though, right? Is like I started off with just one cell phone. The first video of this season of the show, the first one, it cuts out after an hour and a half, and it's a 2-hour podcast. Like the hour and a half mark, it ran out of memory, but I'm still trying to make do with what I can. Yeah, it may not be perfect right away, but you can still
better
do
than
these.
not following
and
your
it's,
dreams.
and it's better than not. Yeah, than not, and
you're
always
showing your
dreaming about
process.
it. In exactly, and one of the things like I've always done with the episodes is I just kind of post which one I feel like I want to post at the time. And with the videos, I've been specifically posting them in order I've recorded because there's changes. The first one, I have like all the basement lights on, so the lighting's decent, but there's a lot of shadows and shit. Second one, I was like, let me try to just do the main light before these were here. The main light. It looks horrible. It looks like it's a romantic candlelit dinner, kind of, but the quality is so grainy. Plus, I was using a different camera. Then, like, I think the next one, I turned all the lights back on again. Then I got these lights, so now the video looks a little better. Now I'm adding in the 3 camera angles. So now I can show when you're talking, then when I'm talking. When you're talking, then when you're talking.
Right.
And I can show both of us talking at the same time. And it creates a lot more work for me, but it's like the process, and I want to show that in the videos as I'm releasing them, like, this is where it was and how it started, and now this is where it's going, and eventually I'm going to get a better second camera. I'm going to get away from the cell phone when I can afford it. But like the point being is that you don't have to wait. I think too many people wait for when it's perfect instead of just
It's never going to be
just
perfect.
fucking
It's never going to
do
be
that.
perfect. It's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You'll be waiting forever.
You have to just take the
like that's what they say
Life
about people that are
always
like waiting, oh, I'm going to wait till I have kids when I'm 30 and I'm more stable and I've got, you'll always be waiting.
Yeah. You'll never be stable
And
enough.
that's one of the things I
Something
love
always
about
happens
that
and
movie.
it's
Gonna be here.
Again, Bible reference, you have to step off the boat. Like, again, Bible. Peter, walking on water, you have to take the leap of faith to step off the boat and do what you have to do. And I think sometimes the fear of that is failure, and at the same time, the security. Just imagine with, again, influencers and entrepreneurs and things of that nature that is on the rise right now, which I love, the courage it takes to walk away from the security of an every week paycheck or every 2-week paycheck. It takes a lot of faith in order to do that kind of thing.
You've said
I'm
something
always
that
really impressed when people do that.
You said something over and over again that I've told other people and really resonated, and I love that perspective. That was 9-to-5s will always be here.
They will.
Why are you waiting?
They will. Take the risk.
You can take the risk, and if it doesn't work,
You can always go
a
back.
9-to-5 is always going to be there.
No matter what, you can still you can go back to the company that you left if you leave right.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
If
Like,
you
Definitely.
if you leave right,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think there's some people that
There are
definitely don't
there's
leave right.
some tact
people
that
don't.
needs to be involved.
A lot of people who pull the pin on a grenade and then throw it over
Yeah.
their shoulder. And
because
then,
they're confident. I think like just protect yourself, And another thing that we have to kill that has, in my opinion, rose in this last decade is quitting or launching without properly inspecting, strategizing, and planning for it.
Yes.
You have to use what you have to use
Just
your
assuming.
job. Yeah, you have to use what you have to make it work. Like people just think about this. Just for example, internet. The internet alone, most jobs have free Wi-Fi or have internet that you can tap into and do your thing. Like, do your research, do what you need to do while you're there. That's a bill that you don't have to have at your home right at that moment to start your business or whatever you can. You got to utilize every resource that you have to make your business work. I know, like, even and we haven't talked a while, like, something that I thought about, like, I'm spending all of this time focusing on everybody else's businesses, and I haven't spent enough time focusing on my wife's business.
Right.
Just from what I do. And I'm a shitty person. Like, I really said that because I'm like, and it wasn't even a thought in my mind to not do that. It's just a matter of I'm giving her the same information.
I see
I'm
what
giving
you put
everybody
out.
else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like I need to do a better job of doing that. So what I did was, or what I'm doing is restructuring the way I do my business.
tag team.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yep.
Make it a tag team. We're going to do this, and at the same time, I'm only dealing with 8 clients a month.
Right.
Scale all the way back, and I'm only going to deal with them on a certain kind of basis. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm going to do moving forward because I need to make sure her business flourishes and works. Because I feel like how can I sit down with somebody else and say, hey, I'm adequately skilled to do these things when I haven't done it with this?
Right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm going to do moving forward. That's my she doesn't even know that, but that's going to be my primary focus right now, to make this what I think it should be. Because something like, I think people, and I feel like what I have the ability to do is it's like therapy to me. Like, it's like therapists don't give you new information, they just cut on a flashlight for information that's already there. I feel like some people don't know how to hone in on the skills that they have, or hone in on the gifts that they have to make their business work. And I think sometimes just talking the ideas out and making the idea make sense to you is the courage that you need to make it go forward. And that's really all that I do. So I'm going to spend enough time with her doing that, and because I feel like she's gifted with sight to me. The way that she puts her events together when she's planning the thing, the thought process, the creativity that she brings, I think that's the thing that separates her from other event planners. Like, do you want something that looks like everybody else? Yes, you can have something that looks nice, but would you rather have something that's never been seen before?
Yeah.
See, that's the power of Walter Mitty. What was your movie? So for me, for me, I would say Inception, and the reason why, like, that one just fucking resonated. And if you haven't seen it, like, the idea that you can plant a seed, and it can, to see that it can come to fruition. Now, if you watch the movie, it's a lot of shit to plant a seed, but the fact that, like, you could plant that seed and see it sprout the way that you had planned it, was one of the things that I took away from that movie. Besides, like, visually, and then just Christopher Nolan, just the movies that he makes are always more cerebral.
Have I told you my theory about Christopher Nolan movies?
No.
We'll talk about it one day.
Anyway, so you started talking about yours, and then you went to Midsummer, and that talk.
Yeah, for me personally, subjectively, not objectively, mine is going to be The Witch. And that was a movie.
I didn't see that.
I'm going to tell you why.
Is that on? It's on Netflix.
That's on Netflix too.
Okay.
The thing is, and again, this
just
is
get ready for some old English.
A religious or spiritual podcast, but just because of the nature of my life being so close to God and going to church so much, that movie resonated with me.
I can see it. Yeah.
But it resonated with me for different reasons, to be honest. And again, if I offend anybody, forgive me. I started watching the movie because you told me to watch it, and I'm watching it, and within the first 15 seconds, I just knew, and that's just God speaking to you, like, they're using real witch dialect here. And that for me, for a twofold thing. One, the spirituality you have to endure that kind of thing, because you don't know what these witches are really saying, whether you subscribe to whatever you subscribe to, whatever one. And then two, the fact that the director took enough initiative to actually put that real content in there from an art standpoint, for me, means something. And then the performances, the pace of the movie was amazing. Like, the character arc of that character, and the way, and it shows how the enemy infiltrates systems or your household, and just the pride the father, spoiler alerts, pride the father had, because when you think about it, his faith is what took him out there. Right. But at what point do you start reevaluating your faith and saying, am I addicted to what God said, or am I addicted to what God is saying? Sometimes we get so focused on what God said that we're missing what he's saying in the moment, because what he said may be holistic and may not be for the moment. Right. And I think that's what I really resonated for the movie, that this guy's pride and his faith at the time destroyed his entire family, instead of having the humility enough to go back, you know what I'm saying, and reevaluate what he's doing in the moment, destroyed his whole family. And that's the thing, because as a family man, as a leader of the household, you're responsible for these people. You're responsible for what happens in the house. And it shows that duality. And then just the little boy's performance when he is possessed by that, man, that performance alone. I'm always enamored with children performance, because I feel like it takes that much more for them to do it.
For sure.
And that performance with that kid,
especially because they don't have, like, the life experience
they don't
to draw
have
on.
So what he for him to draw on that, I'm watching this scene like, yo, where is he getting this from? It was like, I would put that dialogue up there with The Great Dictator. Okay. I would, if you haven't seen that great movie, I would put that dialogue on there, because he's captivating the moment. Like, if you're he's pulling you into the oxygen tank and cutting off the oxygen, to me. And that's why, just again, I can keep going, but that's my movie.
Kelly.
Go to him first.
Are you still researching over there?
I am. No, I am actually. No, and the thing is because I love movies, so I watch movies from, like, all over. So it's like, well, crap. Was that one from, like, 2003? Does that count?
Sometimes I know.
So I'm looking at the list, and I've got some ideas here. But yeah, if you could go to him first, that would.
Justin.
No, I definitely like some of your choices for sure. You know, but for me, it's a little different impact. It's the one that I watched, like that. The one that impacted myself the most in the last 10 years, I was only able to watch once.
Wow.
and I was so devastated by it that I could not watch it again. And other people probably wouldn't feel the same way because they don't have the same attachment to it.
Yeah.
But I will say that the research done for that movie was so well done that it perfectly imitated my life.
Wow.
And made the fact of having to relive those feelings by watching the movie crushed me. But it impacted, and that was 50-50.
I think you said that before. We talked about that before.
I cannot watch it again. And that movie...
You know what's funny? Is I couldn't remember if you said it before, but like
I thought the same
that's what
thing.
was popping into my head.
It was too. Because you said it before. But
it
great
covered
movie.
my the downfall of my marriage during that time, like, you know, with his girlfriend and how people treated him and how it all fell apart, and then the rebirth. And for me, like, I get like goose pimples thinking about watching that movie right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm having a hard time coming back to it, and other people might not have that same impact because it didn't.
No, I definitely understand that because you didn't live through it.
But the research done by Ed Norton on that movie was incredible.
Yeah,
and,
great movie.
And
I love
it
that
just
movie.
absolutely blew my socks off, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to watch it again, but it completely and utterly impacted me and made me relive that whole situation.
Right. Wow.
The other one is a little bit more like loose. But I love going into a movie with zero expectations and getting blown away. Yeah. And John Wick was that way for me.
Oh,
I have not seen any of them yet.
Come on.
I
Yo, she's violating right now.
I'm not against it. I love Keanu. Like, I'm with him since
You
Speed,
can't
man.
say that
I
you
saw
love
that in
Keanu
the
'cause
theater.
There's so many misses.
I know.
Like,
These are
that
three
movie-
I am willing to
movies
watch
that
them.
you like have to see.
Kelly.
Only the third one is streamable right now, though. So
What?
it's like,
The
I
first
looked it
one-
up.
oh,
I know. I've
man.
got
But
to
the
watch
first
them. I've
one,
got to
like,
watch them. They are on my list.
absolutely zero
Your movie
expectations.
card is in question right now.
They are on my list.
I never said she was.
Okay, so the last 10 years, I was with my ex who didn't. He was kind of a deadpan. So I
Okay.
mean, to put it in, in a nutshell,
Yeah.
I guess you could say. So I missed a lot.
Okay.
I've got some catching
I've
up.
told her to watch some
John
movies.
Wick is on my list.
What movie did I tell you?
I was rewatching The Green Inferno the other day. Now that is a fucked up movie.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
What movie did I tell you to watch that was funny? I was like, oh, this movie's funnier than you remember, and you actually made it all the way through this time. What was that?
Get into the Greek.
Yeah, Get Into the Greek.
That
Just-
movie's hilarious.
It's
P.
It was
Diddy. P. Diddy's
ridiculous.
my favorite part of that fucking
Yes,
movie.
that movie's hilarious.
When he's chasing him down the hallway, and then he gets hit by that car, and he's like, what the fuck are you still doing here? And he's chasing him down the street. That shit was great.
Yeah,
It's
that was
fucking,
good.
you
That
know,
was good.
rub the furry walls.
For me, I mean, the last 10 years, I mean, looking back and now, like, thinking about it, two come to mind, and Lady Bird is one of them.
Oh, that's
Because, like,
good.
that's, my brother, my little brother, was always the golden child to my mother. So that really hit home for me, being a teenager, trying to, impress and always be doing things wrong and things like that. So when I saw that,
See, that's one that's on my list.
Yeah, it was
'cause
good.
I think
Yeah,
it
you
came
seen
out
it?
on Hulu, and
I
it
think
was
it's
one
on
that I
Prime
haven't
now.
watched yet. Yeah,
I think it's on Prime.
It's on the
but
list to watch because I know that was
yeah.
one of the big, the big
And
ones from
seriously,
last
Ronan
year.
is she is just fantastic in that movie. Yeah. And the other one, which, it started, it's based off of prior to 10 years ago, but would have to be hands down The Big Short.
The Big Short
By
was a good
far,
movie.
I mean, I got to tears at several points
Really?
in that movie. Well, working in the mortgage industry for the last, just after the crash until now, it's just the ups and the downs and just seeing people lose their houses.
Yeah.
My parents were part of that.
Wow.
So, it's rough.
You know what's, and that's the to kind of call back.
Go ahead.
To unifying us a little bit. Music, movies, and food. I think those are the three things that collectively can bring people together. Because even the emotion each of us just exuded in explaining the last decade of the movie that had the biggest impact on us, and really that wasn't even the question, but it just kind of went there. I feel like those are the thing that, because like you're learning so much about people without even learning about them per se. Because that's why I always ask
through
people,
what they digest.
I
Like,
always ask people, like when I'm like just socially out and stuff like that, I ask people, if you can describe yourself with one song, what would it be? Like, what's the song that describes you? I feel like that, it tells me everything I need to know, good or bad, about people. Because I'm just that's the way, like analogy, that's the way I kind of interpret the world in some regards with art. So when people tell me like, this is my favorite movie or this is my favorite song, it lets me know the capacity of that person in a lot of regards. So I just learning that, like I understand that in a lot of ways, you know. So artist of the decade.
So real quick, let me interject, just so everyone knows where we're at. We've passed 2 hours. We're at 2 hours. And 11 minutes.
The decade podcast.
Okay, yeah.
So as long as no one's got any other prior engagements, we can just keep going.
I signed up to work 4 hours
ahead. It's just gonna be a
overtime,
bitch
but
Yeah.
it's mail processing, so I can do that till late.
Yeah.
So artist of the decade.
Lady Gaga, probably. Such a big influencer. I mean, prior to 10 years, but just in the last 10 years, you know, she really does have a positive as far as what she stands for now. Not so much back when she was singing about drinking too much and not knowing what was going on and just dance.
Little monsters.
Yes.
I've enjoyed to watch. I don't even want to say her elevation. It's almost again like movies, her development. Like, I think that's the one thing I enjoy about artistry is that you can see somebody develop over time. Like, even when you go back to Picasso's and how each one of his ex-wives influenced his art at the time. I think I enjoy that the most because you can see somebody grow as an artist. So I've enjoyed her growth in the last 10 years. And I feel like she's transitioned into a more relatable artist. And I think that's what makes her culturally relevant over this last decade. She's more relatable because when she first came out, it was super weird. People couldn't digest it. And I'm like, if you look past the
meat suits,
all that stuff like that, and get to what she's talented. She can sing
she's
the
super
word.
Talented.
Like if you look past that, you can actually hear the talent. And I think that's the thing that people had a hard time dealing with. So when she kind of shedded those things, and it's like, yo, she can really sing. I'm like,
she's a classically trained singer.
Like I've only been telling you that for 5-6 years.
What she did with what was it, Tony Bennett or
yes, Tony Bennett. She did the tour with him.
Yeah,
that was goosebumps, just goosebumps the whole
time.
And
it's funny because I think like each decade has like
she
that.
embraced her talent instead of like just using it.
I can agree. I think like each decade has like that group of people that come out, and then there's like that one that stands out above them all. Like, and you could say like in the 2000s with you know NSYNC and like Justin Timberlake and Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears and all of them. Like I would have given it hands down more to Christina Aguilera just because like the skill that she had at singing. Like out of all the people that made it big in the early 2000s,
that she portrayed too.
And was consistent with it. She was consistent
now,
with it.
For me, and I'm trying. Like I haven't put much thought into like my artist of the decade, right? But the person that I would say like that I think beat the odds more because she doesn't fit the stereotypical like rock star or pop star or just what the image that goes out. Like even with Lady Gaga, besides her theatrics, like she still almost fits a mold of the attractive, you know, whatever. I would have to say the one that surprised me the most, especially after seeing her first music video, was Adele. Just because
I got a beef with Adele, but I like where you're going.
But because like she was, you know, weight wise wasn't the skinny, like, you know, attractive person. Right. She's lost some weight, but still like she in the first video I ever saw was with the Chasing Pavement or Chasing Sidewalks. It was a cool, actually the video is a really cool concept, but her going beyond those things and achieving the level of success that she has almost purely off of just her gift of being able to sing. Like there's some people that can sing okay, but they make it because of the look, because of the production values behind them, rather than just the raw talent, which is why I would say Christina Aguilera out of the other group in the previous decade was probably the most talented out of that pool of similar musicians. The same thing with Adele. Like, I mean, for her songs were everywhere for a while, and for her to be able to accomplish that, not fitting that social norm of what a popular musician looks like I give credit to anybody that's able to do that. Because a lot of times to make it's not just skill, it's skill and the looks, and I give her credit for that because she was everywhere for a while. And I'm not saying that she won't be again, but for that decade, like that was, I thought
Yeah,
was
she's got a kid now, I think.
was I thought that she was able to pull that off really well, and that was probably why I would say, like, not to me personally, but just like if anything to inspire people that, like, you don't have to fit that bill,
Right.
and that was why I commend her for that.
Oh, my turn?
Yeah, sure.
All right, then. I've got two. I've got, like, who I think is the real one and who is the one for me.
Yeah.
The real one, I got no idea.
Yeah, right.
So the real one, and I don't, I think with cultural influence and what she put out and everything else is, like, just logically got to be Beyonce.
Big facts.
Yeah, like, I mean, over the last 10 years, it'd be crazy to argue with that. Like,
No, yeah,
for my,
I could definitely see that.
for myself, a little more obscure, and if people haven't listened to them, then go for it. But yeah, like, somebody who helped me through, like, troubled times and listening to it, and both, like, sometimes makes me more depressed and sometimes makes me more happy, is Lucero. And I don't know if anybody's sat and listened to Lucero, but
Well, we're gonna right now.
But
Yeah.
like,
Let's add that to
Lucero
my
is kind of
Spotify.
like
Hopefully, I don't get taken down on YouTube. They got some really weird copyright
yeah,
shit.
it's
So
like
But no, just don't play it. Just don't play it.
yeah, I mean, it's all right. You don't need to play it, but
No,
people
okay.
can look it
I'll
up
listen.
later. But it's
sorry, my
it's
chair
kind
is
of like
squeaking.
some southern kind of, and this is totally not
got a
up
lot
my
of
alley.
hits.
Yeah, they've got tons of albums,
Yeah.
but it's totally not up my usual alley. But something that I picked up, and it's almost like a little bit country western rock, sort of like that. But it's real slow moving, and goes calm, and it's a lot of love songs and things like that. It's completely out of my wheelhouse, but I just absolutely love it, and it makes my days go by a little bit better sometimes.
No?
Like when I'm feeling spun out, I can get back on track.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just something
That
for
like
me,
that
that I
like
discovered.
re-leveling music, right?
Yeah.
Like you get the stuff that's like gets you amped up, right?
That's
And,
why you love
and
music.
like look, I went through most of my teenage years with a playlist that was depressed music. Like literally, that's what it said, like
Yeah.
depression, right? Like when I was bummed out, this is just the
It's
shit
like,
that I wanted
I'm
to
gonna
hear.
listen to The Cure for
But
the
like-
next 6 hours.
Yes.
But I think that there's definitely value in having that, like, that music that just evens you out to, like, get you back
It's
to
that even
baseline.
out.
Okay,
You know, sometimes it makes me feel a bit, but it's also that thing where, like, sometimes you might be listening to it in your headphones and you kind of just go over and dance your wife across the living room because you feel good about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so for me, it's been a great discovery because it helped me get through some tough stuff in the last 10 years.
That's dope.
But the other one is just unarguable.
I would
You know what?
argue it just a little bit.
A
I would-
smidge?
Ooh.
just a smidge. I had to as well. Beyonce was my second, because what she has been able to do culturally, the impact, I feel like, is unquestioned. The performance is unquestioned. The work ethic is unquestioned. I would even argue she has one of, if not the greatest album of the last decade, with the self-titled album, the surprise album that she dropped, shutting down most digital platforms. You know what I mean? Like, when she dropped it, nobody expected that. That kind of started the rhythm of bigger artists dropping surprise albums
stuff.
Right.
because she was one of the first to do it, and it made
shit,
that
that's the
big
only
of
way
an impact.
Eminem releases it.
Well, it's
Yeah.
the only way to avoid
Right?
it's the only way to avoid leaks too.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Right.
And that, again,
Which are inevitable
is,
these
is,
days.
is phenomenal. And again, just her, what she's been able to do with business across that, with her and Jay-Z, I think is awesome. However, that would be my personal, because even though, like, I'm not a woman, but I love Beyonce. Like, I'm in the Beehive, I just don't go to the meetings. You see what I'm saying? But like,
You're an honorary member.
yeah, no, I'm not an honorary member. I'm a member for sure. Like, I just don't go to the meetings. But like, my ex, like, I've only, and not to make this all about me, like, I've only had one girlfriend in my life, and my ex was that one, and then I got married after that to somebody else for a lot of reasons. That was more spiritual than anything else. But that was our thing. Like, Jay and Beyonce was our thing. That's the kind of the way, we were. If had not we didn't break up, we would have been like them in that regard, not intentionally. But that's why that self-titled album speaks the most to me, because I feel like at a point of our relationship, when that album dropped, it meant so much to us. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what made that dope. So when I listen to that album, it kind of just helps me reflect on those good times that we had, in that moment. But Drake is going to be the artist for me.
That was my second one.
Yeah, so
Drake is going to be the artist for me, and
he made so
here's what I'm
many
saying.
should have already known this one.
No, like here's why I say it. Here's why I say it. The consistency,
Yeah.
the
It
consistency,
is.
the innovation. When you look at what he dropped 10 years ago to the music he's dropping now, it sounds the same, like sonically in regards to production value, but the wording, what he's doing with flows is completely different. Even though
you can see the growth.
you can see the growth. Because I'm a day one Drake fan, I have knocks. I've noticed, like, okay, he took that from this. Like, I can get into all that, but you still cannot argue the consistency. Him and the Meek battle, like, that was crazy. You know what I mean? Like, the shots he took at Hove, you know what I mean? Like, just he's establishing a dominance, working with other artists, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think he is the artist of the decade. The number one singles. That was the statistic that was like,
You can't
wow,
argue with
you
that.
can't argue that. Having the most number one singles in the last decade, and they said with the exception of 1 week, he was the number one artist for the last decade every single week, which is crazy. And the only reason he missed that 1 week was because it was a song that he was on that he was not featured, like credited, but he was on it. So if he had been credited on it, he would have been on the top one for 10 years straight. Unheard of.
That's crazy.
And he's still number one right now. And we're entering into a new decade. So the question
He's
everybody
like the
wants
new
to know
MJ.
is...
As far as hits go.
Well, yeah. Like, the question now is, like, who's going to be next? And I'm like, I don't know if that is going to happen. But those are two that I would say. But the real one, in my opinion, is not so much even a person. And this goes back to my thought, what I've said when I first started. Atlanta has culturally impacted the entire world because all music sounds like Atlanta. And when you think about Atlanta's run in regards to, like, studying music of, like, who helms the music or whatever,
You're
like that,
saying for the decade,
for
right?
the decade,
Yeah.
because they
I think-
started
think
the
it-
decade before.
Yeah, I was going to say it started
but
before that.
It started late 90s, early 2000s.
like Whisper
Right.
Twins and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
And then from there,
Yin
it's
Yang
gotten
Twins.
even stronger.
You know, I think that's an interesting perspective, right? Because, like, you know, you can talk about different artists and stuff, but the regional sound for sure, because there was a time where everything was West Coast,
Everything was
or
West Coast.
it was
Everything
East
was
Coast.
New
It
York.
was New York, right?
Or everybody
Exactly.
sounded like them, but now
Right.
everybody sounds like Atlanta, even down to
Yeah.
the lingo, the
Yep.
production value. It
No,
all
I agree,
sounds
yeah.
like that, and it stems from the last 20, 25 years. And what my epiphany was, like, I'm a huge 90s guy, huge 90s
Oh,
hip hop
yeah.
guy, and that's strictly a New York run, strictly East Coast run. And the
Yeah.
argument that we were having,
I think the majority
Yeah.
of mine is New York too.
the
Like,
argument that we were
music that I
having
like.
last time,
Queens,
we were,
Brooklyn.
yeah, like argument
Yeah.
we were having last time was Atlanta's run is not the same because
Except for I've been jocking Outkast this entire time. I've been on Atlanta for a long time.
But even with that,
Yeah, but that doesn't exist anymore.
even with that,
I buy every album Big Boy puts out.
oh wait,
Yeah,
remind me to
but-
come back to Outkast.
But that's only 40%
Yeah,
Outcast.
right. I know.
That's 50%. We're gonna give Big
I'll
Boy
give
his
Big Boy
due.
his
Well
credit.
We're not gonna do that.
Actually,
That's 50%.
I'll give him his credit. Actually, like it is funny because, like, I listened to an interview with him too, but there's some songs of just purely Big Boy that I've gone back and listened to, or even just some verses purely where I think that he is on equal footing sometimes with Andre. It's just his subject matter and his style is different.
Very.
Andre has a style that you can really, like, he's way
3000.
more musically, like the way he composes and the way his verses are way.
I think he's
it's
more
hard.
experimental.
But what made
Oh,
Andre
for sure.
3
And I told you before
Yeah, you
in one of Big Boy's last albums, I was like, dude, he's totally doing what Andre did like 2 albums ago. So, like, to see, like, that growth, but I still think that, like, I don't know, I'm a
I think the way that Andre 3000 was so legendary is he retired on top, number one. And two, he had no idea how good he was, so he never got caught up in his own ego. Like,
Which
Andre
never
3000,
happens.
in my mind, is one of the top 5 rappers of all time.
I can't give him that.
And you know what? But it just has
I
to do with
understand
his
what you're
thing.
saying.
Like, and
I understand what you're saying.
And I know that, like, probably like 50-50. Like, if people really want to say it, like,
So I
let's
already
say
know
that,
who
but-
Delano's top is. So
No, it's not, my argument or my thought has nothing to do with
Right.
that. Just
Yeah.
when you talk about top 5 artists, unfortunately, because he was in a group, I never got a solo album from him.
Right.
The Love Below is a solo project,
Yeah,
to an extent.
in a
But
bit.
that's why I went
But
with
it
him in
was,
the top
but
five
that
for
also
record.
was so experimental.
It was, but
'Cause
that's
everything was so crazy
my
on that,
only
yeah.
like if I put him in the top five, it's like there's an asterisk by there, and
Right.
then
I guess that makes sense. I'm cool with that.
yeah, that's my
that
thing.
theory,
Because
yeah.
like if I take away 50% of the raps, you only you what do I have? Four bar hooks, 16 bar verses. You know what I mean? Like, do I compare that
To someone else's
somebody's
whole
catalog
body of work, right?
You know what I'm saying? And then I love Outkast, but impact. Like I love Outkast, but
Yeah.
what impact do they have on impact? Hip hop.
Yo.
They've had Andre 3000's creativity has had an
I
impact.
think he had most of the impact
Yeah.
on the evolution
I would agree.
of rap because it changed the way people thought about stuff and
Yeah.
and got
I-
less out of the braggadocio
I
and
would
more
I
into
would
something
I would
fun.
take it a step further than that and say that some of the music that came out of Outkast and out of the Dungeon family as a whole was way more experimental than you were hearing at the time.
I agree.
And
But I think that's a
we're- and we're-
collective. That's not just
but that,
Outkast,
right.
though.
It's not just Outkast, no. But we're starting to see more of that, and that that can lend towards what you were saying with Atlanta being like
Yeah.
that huge impact.
Going to people wearing
I
blouses
think-
and
but I
dresses.
think that
even though Prince started all that, let's be very clear
right.
here.
I think that grouping though, we're ahead of the curve.
Well, him and like the stuffed animal pants and the football pads and stuff like that. Like,
Look,
dude,
when I saw Outkast in live,
I remember one of the
Andre
things
was
that
in he was literally in a dress.
Yeah.
I was so
The whole-
proud one time to have. I had this Benjamin
Kelly, you
Bixby
look
shirt
so
for a
lost.
little bit.
I'm just taking it all in.
Do you remember Benjamin Bixby?
No.
Like that was Andre 3000's clothing brand, and I was so proud.
You know
man.
what? Now that you say that, I do.
It was
I
all
do.
like 1920s.
I do. I
kinda-
remember
Oh,
that
wait, I
because it
remember
was
he-
him and Diddy's butler. That
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah,
They had
these
the little
God, what's
hot
his
air
name?
balloon.
Peach-colored
Yeah.
overalls, I
Yeah,
remember.
had the hot air balloon on it, and I
Yeah.
was like, I
Whatever
remember
the
when that
fuck
was coming
happened
out.
to that
I
guy?
could say-
I think he started after.
God, what was his fucking name?
Oh Jesus!
I
It's
can't
Mr.
remember.
something, Mr. Bentley.
Yeah, that's it. That
And
is
the only
it.
reason I remember that is because Kanye put it in a verse.
Yeah,
Well, a lot of people put it in a verse.
a
you
couple
know?
people, yeah.
But like, yeah, but the Atlanta thing I feel like is it's unquestionable. Like, but that goes back to again the New York thing and classic. They have classic albums, but what the South and Atlanta has mastered is singles.
Do you
Which is-
think Atlanta, part of Atlanta's success in the last 10 years is gentrification? Because so many people had to leave Brooklyn and Queens because of the price of stuff and California?
I say no, and the reason I said it is because that has nothing to do with the sound.
Well, yeah, you're right with the sound, but I'm just talking about the amount of talent moving into Atlanta.
I still say no because most of the people that are from, like, I claim Atlanta, were birthed and raised there. So that's and that
Versus
that,
transplants.
versus
Yeah.
transplant, and I think that has nothing to do. I think you see a lot more people that are transferring to Atlanta. I don't think that has anything to do with
Because I know
gentrification. I think
probably
that has
3 or 4 different people that were trying to make it, like up and coming rappers that went to Atlanta to try to.
But I think it's like when you look at the spotlight that music kind of shines on different places. Everybody that like if once somebody has a spotlight, everybody quote unquote gets signed from there because they have the spotlight right now. Keep in mind when Nelly had his run in the early 2000s,
Yeah,
you saw the
St.
St.
Louis-
Louis,
yeah,
you
St.
saw
Louis,
Chingy.
like, that whole
What's the
area
other
right there
guy?
was on the
There was another guy that came out of there that was from St. Louis. I can't think of what his name is.
Shit,
but-
what was the dude that was in St. Lunatics that was
Murphy Lee?
Yeah, I mean he was like the next big thing he was
Yeah.
going to be. And
But that spotlight was there,
Yeah.
and then the spotlight left. You know, remember when the West Coast had a spotlight? Everybody was coming from there at the time.
Everybody disappeared on that whole Nelly group stuff.
Yeah, but that's what I think it was that I think people moved there because I think it's a twofold thing. I think because statistically, and somebody that is watching this a comment and quote me if I'm wrong. I think as far as black wealth, African American people being wealthy, Atlanta has that
Right.
like statistically more
Yeah,
people
ton
there,
of people.
Yeah.
and I think that's what draws people there. And
They
then
have a
two,
ton of wealth.
the music industry is there pretty much for the most part. The hottest producers are there, most of the hottest rappers are there, so
Yeah.
it's easier for me to get on there. And Atlanta is so small, people are more accessible.
Right.
Like I can walk down the street or go to Lenox Mall and see such and such, and like it's
Right.
easier in regards to. I mean, social media makes it easier, which we talked about before, but that makes
But
it
it-
even
but it's not the
easier.
same thing.
So
Social media
I
is
don't
not
think
the
it's,
same
It's
part
not,
thing.
but I don't think it's gentrification. I do
I was
think
just
gentrification
wondering,
is a thing though. But
so before we get to
I
Kelly,
feel like that's thinning stuff out in Brooklyn and
Yeah.
Queens a lot.
before we get to bring Kelly back into the conversation,
Yeah.
and get her take on artists. I do have one issue with Beyonce.
Okay,
and
I'm here for
actually,
it. Let's go.
I have this issue with multiple people.
okay.
And I'll put Jennifer Lopez out there too on it.
I'm so upset that you put Beyonce and Jennifer Lopez in the same cities, but I understand.
But it's for almost the same reason.
Okay.
the issue I had with Beyonce, and this is an issue I have with artists in general, just because I personally want artists to be genuine and their material be reflective of who they really are, is Beyonce had that one song that was like, God, I can't remember.
Single ladies?
No. I can't remember what the name of it was,
about
but basically talking about
drinking in the
robbing
club?
someone. Like, I put the mask on, and this is after she hooked up with Jay-Z. But basically, because she was with Jay-Z, put out a song that was like
kind of a gangster type.
Gangster,
I don't really
right.
remember
And that's the same thing with Jennifer Lopez when she was dating Diddy, when she threw the N-word in one of her songs. And
Well, that's a waste of time because there's nobody less gangster than Diddy.
But what I'm saying is,
I'm gonna shoot Diddy some bail. I don't believe that.
But what I'm saying is like is that in disingenuous music, because like I'm this by association. Like obviously the life that Jay-Z lived and where he grew up and the stuff that he went through, that he's chronicled through his music, but others have chronicled him, you know what I mean? There's record of that. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever seen any record of Beyonce living that.
She grew up in luxury.
God,
has she? Where's she from?
Well, it was her
dad. Her dad put together all
that
that
bit
shit.
of money and
But
put it all together.
where was she from? Think about it.
I don't know, but she's always had money.
That's not true.
I'm not gonna say she always had money. I'm not gonna make that conversation. But all I'm saying is
I get what you're saying, but I think that is just to shoot bail is. I don't think people are really familiar with where she's from. That's why,
and that could be because of what's been portrayed, right? Without being able to dig farther.
Going back to how her father portrayed her image earlier on,
right? He was very controlling.
And he was very controlling and very controlling of how her image was. When she broke free from that, to a lot of regards, I felt like I got more genuine music when she broke free of her father.
And I would agree. That's
where you see that, because
most likely.
Because again, being a part of the Beehive, not going to the meetings, I've heard that knock before, and not even just about that. I heard that knock about her music not being as genuine as it should have been and not as authentic.
That was the one time that I was like,
middle class.
That was the one time that I was like,
no,
from the image that you've portrayed, and granted, a lot of that in the earlier years, that was her father and her mother. Her mother was a big part too.
Her mother's still a part,
But like, once she was with Jay-Z, that was the one song that to me,
I don't really remember that song.
I can't remember the name of it.
But to answer the question,
she's talking about putting on the mask and robbing someone at gunpoint, and it's like,
sure it did.
And that one struck me just because I was like, really.
But
really,
again, I understand.
All of a sudden, you're
dating
Jay-Z, and now this kind of song is coming out. Like, if that would have been a part of the narrative from the beginning, like, hey,
but think about this and giving.
But it wasn't her type of music at that.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, she was making music as a kid. I think they got signed when she was 15. They put out their first album when she was 16.
She did basically like talent shows her whole.
You see what I'm saying? Like, so 16, I'm putting on my first album. Look at the first single. No, 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 no. Then Wyclef gets on a remix, and then, you know what I'm saying? Then that's the second album, you know what I'm saying? We get Bills, Bills, Bills. We get what's the
Say
other
My
one?
Name.
Say My Name, which is phenomenal. This is 98 here, 98. So like, I'm still a kid, you know what I'm saying? Like, to an extent, and I'm trying to portray this image, because you got to think about girls groups were a thing. She came out in the late 90s, so I don't have.
And was trying to follow Destiny's Child.
Well, not just
you
that,
see what I'm saying?
But that was the entirety
Destiny's
of
Child
that.
was a little more rough and tumble.
But that was the entirety of that whole generation. I mean, that was.
So I say you don't have time to
say
that
was the last great generation of groups, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's pretty much faded since then.
Late 90s?
Late 90s.
No, late 90s.
Early 2000s.
That was the last generation of groups, because that was when you had Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Destiny's Child, 90 Degrees,
702.
Oh my gosh,
all that.
Black.
Black, Boom Like a
Yep.
Look, they had a fucking MTV show, a reality show that turned into a group, that O-Town or whatever.
Kane.
Making a band.
Yeah, making a band. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right. Pete did.
So that was
I think there
like
was actually good groups in there too. Like none of those I would consider good groups. They were made for teenagers. Like, there was some talent in there.
Whoa.
Like, you would consider, like, Backstreet and everybody good groups?
No, that's not my jam. That's not my kind of music. However, I can't disregard their impact and what their music,
right?
Like that impact and those words.
Like, it was, if you would have went to that concert at any time, there wouldn't have been anybody that had a set of balls that wasn't wearing pink, and then they wouldn't.
Tough guys wear pink.
Like,
okay.
there wouldn't be, and there wouldn't be, and it'd just be like,
So
there'd be
because
some dads and shit,
but so
Delano, we missed your canceled thing right there.
but,
oh, I'm
Don't
sorry.
cancel
Yeah,
us.
don't
just-
cancel us. These are jokes. These are just
well, I'm
jokes.
just saying, like in
All cameras,
R&B,
yeah.
there was good bands, there was really talented, crazy. I mean, you
But those
had,
that's pop music as a whole, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Christina
that was
Aguilera
that,
was
that
pop
was
at
that
the time.
period,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
I wouldn't consider boy bands like something historically valuable. Like the people that came out.
I can't let you get that off.
I
Justin.
beg- I
I
beg to
can't
differ.
can't let you get that
I would
off.
beg
Oh,
to differ.
no.
You think
There was a
classic
lot of
rock in
influence
40
there.
years is going to be playing Backstreet?
Yes.
Yes.
So wait.
100%.
Hold on.
They went from Harry Como, now they're playing Led Zeppelin.
Literally,
It's just gonna go. It's gonna keep
someone
going.
just posted this. Someone just posted
My
this,
head
and
would
it made
explode
me
if
laugh.
somebody went
Ready?
Led Zeppelin to Backstreet.
Someone just posted
There's some more segue in between
That
there.
I-
Add in Nirvana.
that I
and Hall and
personally
Oates.
know. Someone just posted that on 104.3, which is traditionally like a classic rock,
Love that station.
whatever, played Hey Ya.
Okay.
Hey Ya has made it to 104.3.
Well, Hey Ya was
Yeah, but
from like
that's a good
01,
classic song.
wasn't it?
But
Yeah,
it's
something like
still
that.
a classic
But-
song.
But is it? Is it old enough to be considered?
No.
Like, would you consider it? You know,
How
like
old is it
classic
right now? I
rock.
I think that's 2002.
Yeah, I think
I
you're right.
think anything
2002
more-
or
Was that?
2003 because
Yeah,
when that when that-
2003. It's
because
2003.
when
My
that album
personal
came out, it
opinion
was
is
like
20
right before my
years,
son
so
was
it's pretty
born.
close. Like I would say anything more than 20 years goes on classic.
So Backstreet Boys is 98, 97.
Yeah. That's when they started.
Look,
yeah,
look,
but
look,
then
I know, but I
Millennium
can't-
came out.
so
I
album
can't
number
agree in
2.
any way that Backstreet 98 Degrees or
NSYNC.
But see,
is
but-
anything but passable garbage.
No, and I agree with that.
Are you
but,
hearing?
But his, but his
Barry
argument.
Gordy had something to do with NSYNC and
but your
Backstreet
argument-
starting. Like that
Yeah,
should
and
tell
Barry
you something.
Gordy did The Last Dragon, which was awesome, but it's not going to win an Oscar.
Okay, hey, real quick.
But why is it not going to win the Oscar? Going back to our Oscar
Yeah.
conversation. Come on, be consistent here.
So real quick though, like the argument was any groups, right? And that was I think where Delano took point, and I'll take point
Whereas,
too,
like, Boys to
because
Men or
I'll say
something,
Boys
that
to Men,
belongs-
and I'll say
100%,
Jackson 5
yes.
are
And no,
two.
they started out as boys bands.
Right,
New
those are
Edition.
boy
New
groups.
Edition
to-
started as a boys band.
New
Yes.
Edition.
Yes.
New Edition.
Menudo.
Everybody came out of New Edition and was successful. Like the talent in New Edition was awesome. The talent Menudo, there was like one.
Thank you
person
for
who came
providing
out
an
of it.
awkward moment for me.
But like
Anytime.
New Edition, every single person came out and could throw a solo out, except
Yeah.
well, BBD.
But
Or-
wait,
or
wait,
look
wait,
at
wait,
that-
wait,
but
wait,
that
wait,
wasn't
that's
even
not
the
that's not
argument.
what you said. That's not the argument. You said it's garbage because the content was meant for teens. When's the last time you listened to Telephone Man?
well, fuck yeah, like that. My dad loved that song.
But that's what I'm saying. It was made for kids. Telephone
But
Man.
then you're
wasn't made
thinking. But
as
then you're
much for
thinking
little
groups.
girls.
What about Digital
How was it
Underground?
not? That was a complete. That was a total. Just come on, you reach it.
So,
you reach it.
so
You reach
I
it.
will say that Boys
I
to
respect your
Men-
opinion. I respect you so much, and you know that, but you reach it.
There's one song that I will say that Boys to Men
Yeah.
wasn't
Me
made
reaching,
for
I'm
a
just
teen
saying,
audience.
like, I don't believe that
was,
it's memorable.
I understand, but
Yeah,
I just
well,
think.
Personal
look at-
opinion.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I,
respect
just
it.
don't think like, and Justin Timberlake, trust me, like I think he's. When you talk about Christina Aguilera, like I think with staying power and everything, like Justin Timberlake exceeds all those
he
people.
definitely was able to
Like, he
but
came
I
out of
would
there
still
and
say
I
pure
think he still
talent wise
exceeds
Christina
everybody.
was above Justin.
I think
Talent
her
wise,
ego
got better.
singing ability.
The reason I don't agree on that is because
Welcome to
Justin,
the show, Kelly.
right? Justin also has the acting ability and the comedy ability. If you've ever
Christina's
seen
acted, but maybe not as good as Justin.
Exactly.
We're not gonna subscribe to Justin Timberlake being a great actor. We're not gonna.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's not that he's
Wait.
not that he's a great actor.
I'm gonna stop
don't
the
say
Justin
that.
Timberlake acting with one movie, The Love Guru. Done.
I've not seen that.
No, I'm
It's
not jacking
probably
it.
Mike
No, I'm
Myers'
saying
worst
like,
movie. So
like
I'll
that was
never
like one of the
watch
worst
it.
movies I've
Oh,
ever
I
seen.
thought you were saying it was
no,
good.
No,
I'm sorry.
No. I'm saying I'm settling the Justin Timberlake acting with that
Yeah,
movie was
no,
garbage.
Terrible.
Well, no, I'm thinking more of like when
That's
he
one of
goes
the few
on when he
movies
goes
that
on
I've gotten rid
SNL.
of.
you
He's
know?
hilarious on SNL. I'll give him that.
Yes.
No, he has comedy chops to
Dick
do
in a box?
skits
Are you
and
kidding me?
stuff
Come
like
on.
that.
That was classic.
I mean, it also might be biased because half the people in SNL suck. And then when you're on a stage
Yeah, they're
with a
definitely
bunch
in a
of
different
stuff.
plane than they were 20 years
Yeah.
ago.
But that's
but
because.
that's going to be the same argument 20 years from now.
Exactly.
There's been
You're
some
going to
good-
look at Bill Hader and stuff and be like, oh man, they used to be
I mean,
so
you don't
funny
know, like,
compared to now.
There's
I mean,
been times in SNL's history where they had a
Well,
really great setup. It's just
Yes.
not right now.
Yeah.
And that's I feel like that's the beauty of that show, and it speaks to the longevity because everybody goes through there at some point in time.
Yep.
Like even to which I learned recently, I didn't know about Eddie Murphy when his original cast was there. Everybody got fired except for him and another guy. And the only reason they kept him was because he ate what they thought was dog food live on air.
Oh my god!
And one of his bits. That was his first bit. I didn't
And
never know
that's
that.
why they kept
and
it.
that's why they
That's
kept him because
awful.
they thought it was funny.
Wow.
It was like it's somewhat funny. We'll keep you because
degrading.
there's petition. I agree.
Yeah, because they
But, like,
redid everything. He was also a kid when he got on there. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
He was like 17 years old.
Yeah.
So I got another topic, but artist of the decade.
She said
for
Lady
you.
Gaga.
Did
I
you say
started
that?
it.
Yeah, she
Yeah, she started.
Sorry.
Gaga.
I mean, I don't really listen to today's music.
me neither.
From just,
And-
just
and
a
I think that
vast
puts me out of
standpoint.
touch, like when you
With
were
the
talking about
exception
earlier.
of like certain maybe bands
it
like
puts me-
21
it
Pilots,
puts me
things
out of
like
touch
that.
now.
But other than that,
21 Pilots.
I'm like
When,
But why?
when I,
What's
I
your
like
why?
when I
I
DJ,
like old music.
And
like,
you DJ. I'm surprised.
No,
Like
I
today's-
used to DJ.
You don't DJ no more?
And that's where I think where my lack of current day knowledge comes from is that I'm not actively DJing enough that I need to acquire nowadays
That's fair.
music. So nowadays, the only music I pay attention to is the artist that I'm fans of, is
That's
the
fair.
music that I like.
Yes.
So there's
That's
a lot of
exactly-
stuff like when you
yes,
guys
that's
were
where I'm
bringing up
at.
Griselda, right? Never fucking heard
No
of
idea.
Griselda. But again, because I've removed myself from that.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that I listen to is the music that resonated with me, and I don't have my ear to the street as much
You know
like
what's
I
crazy
used
about
to.
that? I don't
I feel
to
like
an
that
extent.
boxes me
Yeah.
out when I
Yeah.
try to listen to everything.
Yeah,
and
so do
that's
I.
the fun thing about having a son who's 19 years old too. Cause,
Yeah.
Like he texts me stuff all the time. He's like, "You gotta listen to this."
See,
You gotta listen to
see,
this."
we're
your
not there
taste
yet with me and
relevant.
Dylan.
Yeah.
What's funny is I went on a field trip with Dylan and his school. We had to go to the DIA, right? So I had to do a field trip, and I had to ride on the bus with all the kids and shit.
Oh boy.
And I'm listening to Dylan talk to this other kid about what's on their phone with music. And all Dylan's stuff is Nas, Outkast.
I remember you telling me that story.
like
yeah.
like stuff that I love because I've had that
That's the
much of an
influence,
impact on
yeah.
him, you know? Like he wants his first concert to be Big Boy. He's like,
Wow.
I want to go see Big Boy for my first concert. So like, it was funny. I was like, no, but like to me, I mean, if he was maybe a little older, but
Oh, you
like
should
to
take
me,
him.
but to me, like it's a sense of like, kind of like pride.
Pride,
Like I
yeah.
feel like I've instilled some good taste in music on him, right? And that's one of the reasons why I pulled away from music so much, is that like I like the mumble rap stuff killed me, and we've had this talk too. Like I appreciate the skill behind the lyricism, right? Like to be able to tell a story or to convey a message with rhymes, but that also like the complex rhyme patterns, stuff like that are the things that I really look for, and actually saying something in having a message. Like one of my favorite quotes from a song is from Mos Def, and it's from a Black Star song. But like he says, like my narrative rose to explain its existence. Like I'm telling what I'm seeing. This is the reason I do this is because I have to share what I'm seeing and what I'm living through. And that's what I like. I know it's being still said, but I can't get with it. Like the beats, like I'll always appreciate good beats, and won't necessarily appreciate the lyricism behind it. I think
Yeah.
there's a total lack of, in some artists nowadays have come out and said it, like Biggie Who, right? Like that, like the lack of appreciation to what came before and what
Yeah.
set up where you're at now, that irks me to a degree that makes me not want to listen.
Yes.
There are some artists like that I'll appreciate, right? Like Kendrick Lamar, like listening to like Kendrick, like there's a few people that seem like they're still trying to keep that alive, whereas the majority of everything else is trying to just capitalize on what's popular at the moment,
Yeah.
instead of taking time to really hone that craft. Like you were saying, Delano, like if you encounter someone that's like, yo, check out my tape, and you're like, so spit some bars,
Yeah.
and it's garbage, you're gonna call them on as garbage. Well, I feel like a lot of what's on the radio right now is garbage. So, and I don't have the time or don't want to put forth the time
Yeah.
to find the stuff that's
That's good.
new, that's good. Right.
I think that's why I wanted to know what kind of music that you. But I know what kind of music you like.
Yeah.
But to Kelly, what kind of music do you like? Because I think where, like me and Justin was saying, like it puts you in outside of a bubble when you're not connected. And for me, I was just telling my
Yeah.
wife, like,
Yeah.
because our last 2 years or 2.5 years with our kid and her being sick, I've been so contained. I've been in the house. I have not been outside. I haven't been to a restaurant. I haven't really done nothing in 2.5 years. Truthfully, I've been really on.
Right.
What's the word when it? coordinating, like you know what, like when they like
Quarantine?
Yeah, I can't think of the word.
I was like,
Yeah,
all
so
right,
like
You're a
I'm
homebody.
yeah, I am a homebody, but I've been so detached. Like I know what's out. Like I'm listening to so much because Tidal, I pump Tidal everywhere I go with music lovers because the way that the platform is set up is designed for you to hear the stuff. It's designed for you to hear new music, but it also is designed to hear what you like.
Yeah.
So like what they do, like Apple, when you set up Apple, they say what artist do you like, and they'll play things from that artist, and they'll try to play similar music, but the shuffle never really does it for me. Tidal, on the other hand, what they do is they listen to songs that you like, and they put songs in the shuffle that sounds like those songs.
Okay.
So like if I'm listening to a Summer Walker, it'll play a Kiara Lenar right after that, you know, or Lenar, how you pronounce her last name, right after that. Then it'll play a Mahogany right after that. Then
Okay.
it'll play things
So,
that are in
so
a
their
similar vein.
algorithm or however they're
Yes.
doing it is way better.
It's way better.
That's how Spotify is, too.
I'm
hits
gonna
it
shit
home.
on fucking Spotify.
Oh, God.
It hits home for me. And
Wow,
then
okay.
even with they highlight every new singles come out daily, albums come out weekly. They highlight the way to the user platform. I can see what is out, and they also have a separate platform or a separate part of the app that shows me underground artists that are new and are putting out different content. So I'm able to see
that's cool.
so much. But the thing about it is that I feel like I'm not as attached. I'm not sure what's working. In other words, I don't know what's really hot.
Right.
I know what's hot to me. I don't know what's
and
really hot.
unfortunately,
I
Like
like
that.
seeing new stuff because
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel dead if I'm not really
Yeah.
doing that, like, not to make it more important than it is, but it's part of me staying alive.
No,
Like,
I understand
it's,
that.
it's
I understand.
youth. Like,
Yeah.
it's youth and excitement, like, to have new music, to have new fashion, to understand new things that are going on.
Absolutely.
Because you see that, like, you see growing up, you got that one guy in a leisure suit still busting around town. You know what I mean? And it was like 1977, and somebody
Right.
said, "You look great." And he's like, "Cool, I'm going to stick with this for the next 40 years."
Right.
And never asks questions, never learns anything new. Like, everything's the same.
Stuck in that bubble.
Like,
Right.
he's still in the bubble. He's still got, like, the
Set in
ABBA
his
Saturday
ways.
Night Fever album on every single day on his way to work. And it's just like,
Don't
Are
touch
you
the
following
hair.
me?
what keeps you... I feel like what keeps you young
At least
is...
someone got that joke. I know if I do stand up, Kelly's my audience.
Just me.
But what keeps you young is, like, caring about the world.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
you shut down. Once you shut down, like, it's really hard to get back up again.
It's not that, like, for me, it's not that I don't care. It's just that.
I'm not personally insulting you.
No, I know. I'm not taking it personal. Look, I let a lot of shit run right off the shoulder, right? No, for me, it's just it's hard for me to relate, and I look for something more. Like, I'm looking for more substance, and so, like, that's part of the thing with, like, new music that will drive me crazy. Is just like I can't
Listen to Griselda, man.
I can't get behind it. So,
Just
like,
listen to Griselda.
But the thing is like,
well,
depending on what you're listening
I played
to...
a little bit before we started recording.
But
I was
I
listening to my
wouldn't even-
headphones,
I
and
would
like
say-
the sound, like you guys are
Yeah.
saying, automatically, like that grimy sound
Yes.
sounds like New
I
York,
hear
Wu-Tang,
totally,
for sure.
totally. Again, where this is, don't cancel us. I totally hear Griselda music and really want to go post up again. Like, I remember, I want to go outside, like, and just be on the block, like how I used to be when I was a kid. Like, yo, what's up? What we doing? You know what I mean? Like, it just makes you want to get active. Not saying that you should commit crimes or
makes you
anything
young.
like that, but it just puts me into a spot. It's like,
Right.
yo, like, and even that's how I feel about like some of the newer acts. Like, oh man, one of my favorite songs right now is an artist from New York, which I love what Brooklyn is doing, like the resurgence. I'm not sure if you remember Pop Smoke. I love
I
Pop.
haven't listened to that yet.
Listen, you haven't heard a new song? It's called Christopher Walken. I love it. And
Yes.
the whole thing he's talking, it's actually a subliminal diss record to another Brooklyn artist he's beefing with, Casanova, which I love Casanova. Casanova has this saying where
Casanova
he's like,
2 times?
yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, y'all ain't outside. Y'all ain't outside. Y'all ain't outside. Like he that's his like thing, like as a running
Because
joke.
Casanova almost, like, he just kind of says
What's
the
it
same
called?
shit, like,
Pop
all the
Smoke
time.
What?
It's called Christopher Walken. That's the name of the song. And so Pop Smokes makes this record, and he's like, "Yo, y'all saying they outside? Send the attic. We gonna slide." And I just love that.
So-
I love that
and-
grimy
so-
kind of music. Like, yo,
I just want to say
I'll
that I
give you- I'll
love
give you, like,
that I
40
love that
bucks.
it's not Christopher Walken, it's Christopher Walking.
yeah,
Yes.
My favorite thing is, like, all right, you find some more 46-year-old white guys that are going to talk to you about this.
I'm here for it.
I'll give you money for everyone.
Goofy.
Like, it's crazy, but I love that kind of stuff because it just push you into space. Like, yo,
But
go
that's
come
like
outside.
the thing, like,
yeah, come outside.
It keeps you so happy. I remember the only thing I really, really miss about my second marriage
Yeah.
is
Say it
that
outside.
she had a godfather who was so cool, and he was like this 80-year-old guy who was a professor at Wayne State. And I used to go
So
over
much
there, and he
wisdom.
would play me like all the new rap tracks that he had because he was obsessed with it.
yeah.
And he'd smoke blunts and play all this stuff. And he was like 83,
That's awesome.
and he was the coolest guy.
He knew what he liked.
So like one of the things that always drove me nuts about the music business was that what was hot was what was being fed to you. And I do appreciate that nowadays you're able to find what's hot for
Don't give them too
you.
much. You want you to take it
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
it's
just
gonna
wanted to give
take
it a little
down.
taste.
Yeah. Boy, that's hard.
So
That's hard.
So like to me, like that was one of the things that always bugged me was that you get fed what the machine wants you to eat. And I appreciate like when you can find
Well,
those
that's like the
artists,
payola thing.
and
That's
that was
like
like
radio.
what I always liked when I used to DJ was that like I would do shows with these people that had this voice that wasn't on the radio, that were trying to tell their story and trying to make it, and you could hear all these unique things. For me, I never used to go post up,
Yeah.
but MOP,
MOP.
yo,
Oh my god.
MOP
man.
want to make me like
Just all that
Look.
kind of me. Wu-Tang, MOP, Mob Deep, like it just puts you into space. Like yo,
look. I ran with people
do
like
some
that,
hood rap
but
shit.
like exactly. Like yo,
sure.
like
for
I-
sure. Look, Annie Up had one of my like that whole.
Oh, Annie
one of my
Up.
favorite messages. Like I love, like you see that man shining, get up on them
on the
goddamn
goddamn
diamonds. Like
Remy's verse on
yo,
the Annie Up. I kept you backstage, giving the keys to the Escalade.
Yo.
You think you cute hoe? Take off them Gucci shades. What? Like take them off.
But see,
Like run it.
and, like, what kills me? What kills me is that like that's lost, right? Like you can tell, be like MOP. No one knows what the fuck that is nowadays. Like and that, so like,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
think there's
funny.
a lot of people who listen to
No,
MOP.
there is a lot of people that are old that would know MOP.
no.
My
Yes.
son would, but,
But
I've
like,
also
but
taught
like,
him.
but is
Yeah.
that
Yes.
because you've influenced them?
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
like the reason my son knows Nas and knows how the whole song "Rewind" is a story told backwards. Like those kind of things. Like that's something I've passed down to him. But like someone that hasn't had someone to pass that down,
Yeah.
doesn't know those things.
I'll play devil's advocate for a second, just to shoot the younger artists.
Unless
Not even that.
unless they are a true student of music or a true student of that craft and wants and has the initiative to go back and learn those things.
I would
I
say-
think there's a very real difference between a person that is just trying to be a musician now and put their stuff out, or someone that really loves it and really wants to learn as much as they can.
And it's coming from the
So
heart.
for someone for someone to say like I'm a rapper now, fuck Biggie and Pac and any of the guys that came before me,
But wait, that's why I'll
Go
say
ahead.
shoot the bell. It's
to
not
me that kills me.
and I understand it. But is that a matter of them really not appreciating history or appreciating your history? And what I mean by that is because they have legends too. Because those same
Sure.
artists will
Might
say
not be
like
the same,
it might
though.
not be the same. They're not gonna say
They're not going to have the same.
they're not gonna say
legends,
Biggie is
No.
top 5, but you can't tell them that
I'm
Gucci
not
Man is
saying
not.
I'm not saying
It's the
that
same.
Biggie's
They
have a
top
different
5.
age.
But I'm
Like,
just
they
saying
grew up
like
with
But
it.
it's an
Yeah.
age
Different
thing.
generations, yeah.
It's an age thing.
I would say
I feel
more
like
just-
you, when you're an artist, you should know the history of
Right.
it. And I'm like that with film. I'm like
yeah,
that.
but
with
how
art.
far does it go? Like that's the thing. Like when I talk to people, you get to a line and they're just like, okay, I'm done. I don't know anything past this line.
Right.
So how far does it need to go when you're 20 years old? Like 20 years old, that's only 2000.
But to me, I'm sorry to cut
No,
you
go
off.
ahead.
I would
Go ahead.
say it depends on what your why is. That's going to business. I always ask people what their why is. Why do you want to do this? Some artists, and that's fine. You just want to be in it to make money. That's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Get your money, make your flip, do what you need to do. I'm not knocking it. Feed your family. There are those other artists who are passionate about the music, and I feel like that's where you get those artists at. But you got to know the difference. And I feel like as a consumer, you know,
Right.
like this guy's
They're
probably not going to be
different.
here for 10 years. If he's hot, let me just like what it
Because
is,
to
and
be
just like what
honest,
it is.
like let's be 100% honest. Like if you just came in and you're used to the music now, like 80% of Pac's catalog is going to be a little bit boring to you.
I would agree.
Like because
Yeah,
of
there's a lot
because
more
of the
flavor and just
speed
sound
and how
Yeah.
it
in
went.
general.
Yeah.
Like I
the
mean,
sampling.
it's not all California love. A lot of it is kind of slow.
And then,
it's just like,
even further, I've heard this argument, and I'm not mad at it, to where the younger rappers or the younger generation feel like we're more authentic than the 90s artists because they were lying. They were lying about all the things that they were doing because it was who's tougher, and we're really doing it. And you see that.
which is the problem.
Which is the problem. It's a problem
That's
because
the
they took that mindset and it's like, here's my point.
No, go
here's my
ahead.
point.
Go ahead.
That's how they ended up causing the West Coast East Coast war.
Yeah.
Case in point, Pac is an exception to the rule, right? But when you look at a lot of these people, yes, it stemmed from, I heard this, not saying it's true, but I've heard this. NWA, influential group. You look at it, you know what I'm saying? Like, all of them are killers, or not killers, but like,
A handful.
Right.
they were
Yeah.
they were
Very
about that
small
life. Let's say
group.
that.
Like,
But let's
the
say
only
this.
two gang members in that were Eric and Ice Cube.
Ice Cube was never a gangster in real life, and Ice Cube's in my top 5. But let me say this: I
He
heard
grew up in a rough.
he grew up.
He
He
wasn't
wasn't
an actual
active.
Crip or anything.
He wasn't active.
Yeah.
But to him, I started
Where
the
Eric
gangster
Wright
stuff.
was.
Eric, they all say it. Eric was the one that was about
Right.
it. He was
Yeah, yeah,
outside.
he was.
We were not, but we rapped about it. I'm just using this as an example.
Right.
Because Dre certainly wasn't.
Yeah, we rapped about it.
certainly
So
wasn't in
listen.
his fucking fancy
Yeah.
shiny suits.
But look at that.
Definitely
NWA,
not.
their whole thing is we're gangster rappers. We're West Coast
Right.
out, all this stuff like that. We're gangbanging, right? But these kids are really doing it.
Right.
Pop Smoke is really a crip.
So-
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
so, like,
not that I'm glorifying,
right,
but I'm
or
just
like
saying
Blueface, too. Yeah,
Blueface.
yep.
I'm not saying that, but it's to them. It's like, why would I honor what's fake?
I mean, Snoop was really a Crip.
So-
Snoop was.
so-
I remember the Snoop murder trial.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like-
I think.
and I think that's
But
some of what the
thing,
difference.
and that's what causes the problem is it's hard separating that after you get some success.
yeah, I agree.
and I think part of that is like, so with NWA, they brought that situation to the forefront, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not all of them were living it. Clearly, Dre's taking some knocks for his.
Do you think
shiny-
it was
shiny
mostly
suit.
NWA or it was Tipper Gore?
I think it was a combination. I would love to think that it was more NWA.
Well, I mean, they
But
owed a
then,
lot
like-
to that sticker on the front of the album.
but I can tell you this, like, I think personally that there's a lot of that. There's a lot of I do, or well, I'm saying stuff that I don't really do, and I think there are those rare cases where it is someone living that life that's telling those stories, that's getting that message out there, that actually finds fame. But I think there's a lot of people. There's been a
Then you
lot
end
of
up with like Tekashi 6ix9ine.
There's been a lot of artists.
We're gonna totally bypass
There's
that.
been
That
a-
guy is
there's-
dope.
Like that's a fake right there that
Yeah, but
tried
we
to be real.
we're not even gonna get that no
There's been
shine.
a
No shine.
lot of
We're gonna
artists
bypass that.
that I've listened to in my lifetime, specifically to hip hop and rap, that has been like, it's hard for me to picture you doing any of this stuff, right? And like that's so that like already to me in my mind, I lose a little credibility, right? Like to me, like that, I've always tried to look for the real story, and I can get behind music or the story they're telling if it's something that's going on in that you know what I mean, like in that culture or in that world that I may not be privy to, that I've not seen. But it to me, like, perfect example, and this is one that's driven me nuts my whole life since I met them. So when I used to DJ, there was this group, I can't remember what the fuck they were called, but they're from Clinton Township, and it was a group of white guys from Clinton Township. Okay, and if you know Clinton Township, Michigan, sure, there's maybe some sketchy areas, but overall, it's predominantly white. It's predominantly like it's not
No,
that bad of an area.
You're trying to
okay?
pretend.
Right? Exactly. And these motherfuckers got a song, Bodies in My Trunk. And they're talking about how you fuck with them, you'll be a body in their trunk. They're not bodying anybody. No one's in their fucking trunks. And, but that is
Maybe they were just going around picking up roadkill.
Sure.
Or they were trying to remake the classic Nori and Nas song "Body in the Trunk," which is a phenomenal Nori record. If
Yeah.
you've never heard that, and if you haven't, you
Noriega?
should pause this and listen to "Body in the Trunk."
But so what I'm saying, but to me, like that, like right then and there, no matter what they did, I could not take them seriously because that's not really you.
Yeah.
And for me, when I'm listening to an artist, I want to hear like them, right?
Well, what do you think about like going in the same thing? Like
Or-
maybe you had a rough existence, but you're somebody like Esham or something like that, or not.
So
where,
again, like being able to.
Are you really gonna like sacrifice bodies and shit like that? Like,
no, but what I'm saying, like, if you're so like in the NWA case, if you're telling the stories of the area that you grew up in, I can respect that also. But when you're telling stories or the message of your song or the meat of your composition is fucking totally fantastical, and it has nothing to do with, especially within, and I would say this is specifically to the hip hop and rap community, just because that's what it rose from. It rose from talking about our situation, not mine.
Have you seen the trend of people talking about their murders and their songs and now getting convicted for it?
That's
straight up fucking stupid.
There's,
but it goes
let's
back
be
to,
reasonable, right?
But that goes back to, I feel like the message.
That's happened a lot.
It's people. It's not. It's like it's their. I would say it's their way of interpreting history. Instead of saying Biggie is top 5 or Biggie is phenomenal, I'm going to actually go live what I rap about, because that's what rap was or is. Because that YNW Melly kid detailing the song, killing his best friend, and he actually being, I don't even know if he got fully convicted yet, but
it's
that's
pretty much one out of like
that's one of the examples, you know what I'm saying? But it's like these people, kids are really doing that.
And I know, like you said, let's not talk about it, but even like with the Tekashi situation,
I really don't want to give him any platform, but I understand.
But you know what I'm saying? Like if his defense was true,
he was 100% a faker, but got with everybody around him.
But how often does that happen? How often does someone that is trying to create this persona and this image falls victim to that and ends up in that for real because of the people they're associating with? So like, to me, like that's a, I don't even know how to describe like how that makes me feel, because it's like, one, it feels like a slap in the face to the people that have really lived through those things and have shared their stories and been able to convert, right? Like being like Jay-Z being the GOAT for you, right?
Oh,
but literally, besides, you know, the beef that him and Nas had and some things that he may have said that questioned Jay-Z's history.
I searched in your first take on True Large Professor. Then I heard y'all much of tech.
He can quote every Jay-Z line ever. Like,
I mean, that
ridiculous.
really happened.
But
there's people that corroborated that story.
Right,
I get you.
But what I'm saying is, like, for that, like, that's someone that, I mean, that's someone that should be inspiring everyone above that stuff. Like, what kills me is when, like, someone really is coming from that bad area. They're really trapping. They're rapping about it. And they're starting to get that notoriety, and they're still doing that stuff that they're trying to, like. There's some artists, Jay-Z is the biggest one you could say, that have been able to rise above and lay out that blueprint for people to follow.
That's the fool's game. Like the fool's game, and that happens all the time with athletes too. And you see that fall down. True. Is where
that's their way out.
Like you get out of the game. You get out of the game and you get out of the neighborhood and everything else, but you can't help go back. And then it brings you down. Like you end up getting crushed.
Anybody ever watch Ballers?
I do all the time.
HBO
I love Ballers.
No.
Same
Delano,
thing.
that'd be up your alley.
Yeah, last season with the shooting.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's basically Aaron Hernandez too,
it's
right? Like if you watch the Netflix.
Well, Aaron Hernandez.
I still
have
to watch that. Yeah.
But you.
I can't speak on that.
But you get it too, right? Like that was the same. I mean, that was probably Ballers commenting clearly on that whole situation, but it was just someone that like got wrapped up in what they were trying to portray versus what. Well,
Hernandez was more trying to portray it than actually grew up.
Right, exactly.
Whereas a lot of people grow up in it, and it's
or they can't leave it behind. Right.
Like,
I read an article about Blueface.
For the people who grew up in it than the people who try to pretend.
So like that was one of the things I read about Blueface. Right. Like he's a Crip, and he makes no qualms about letting everybody know it. But he's also talented, and he's gaining a lot of heat, like a lot of buzz. And it was funny because the article was, he's at the point where he needs to make that decision. Does he stick with the gang and with the people that he's associated with so far? Or does he make that decision that's better for him and get away from all that stuff and grow his content? And I think that's a situation that a lot of people find themselves in, especially when you may come from a time in an area where you don't have that support but your boys. They were the ones that were ride or die, right? They were the ones that were there for you the whole time. And now that you're starting to make it, you can't really leave them behind. I think sometimes some people's loyalty can be a downfall,
I agree.
right?
I agree with
because like you need to know, like you need to be able to learn when you're at this level, and if you still support this, or if they're not willing to move to that next level with you and forgo all that
I don't think
childish
people know
bullshit.
how. It's
Right.
That's the difference. Is
you don't know how.
You've
You're
been
conditioned.
institutionalized.
Yeah,
You've been
It's the
institutionalized into
PTSD
fear.
thing. You
Yeah.
don't even know how. Like, you don't even have the capacity to even think any other way than what you've been taught and what you've been taught to survive these kind of
Right.
situations. You know what I mean? Like, everybody wasn't like, when I say post up, I'm not saying I was outside doing
No,
anything.
no,
I'm
no.
I feel like I'm more Nas, where I'm just observing.
Right.
Like, I'm outside because my friends are out there doing this stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel like the thing that God saved me, even before I was even aware, to like, I've always was cognitive of my story. I always wanted to be in a place to where I can make it and say, I did it without that.
Right.
Like, my friends were out there doing, I have stories, it's an Instagram meme where it's like, I be this close to selling drugs. I have stories like that where like, literally I'm this close and then something happens and it just
And it
doesn't
took you
work.
the opposite
It took me
direction,
a
right.
different direction in the most literal sense. And that's what I mean by that. Like, you don't know how. Like, and Jay-Z has a song called The Allure, where people be
The
in
Allure.
love with the life. Like, when I went to college, I had to
I don't
do
have it right now.
Well, that's the option. Like, it's either people think that that's the only option.
yeah, but again, if you don't know how, like, if this is the lifestyle I
you've been-
have.
But it's not the.
And
It's
I'm
not
not,
that it's
I'm
the
not
only
trying to put
option.
words in your mouth, but
Yeah.
like if you've been told your whole life that that's the only option, and that there's no way for you to rise above,
But
like
You're going to be a bit brainwashed.
then you're going to just go that option. 'Cause
I
you're like,
agree,
it's
but
good
what
for-
he's saying
But
though
what I'm
too
saying
is
once
the,
you get the other option, like,
Once
you
you-
start
and you
getting the
see
money
it.
or you start getting successful, you don't know how to let go of that because it's engraved into your
Yeah.
DNA
Right.
as who you are.
Well, it's all
So,
about like putting
and
a
that's-
hand
and
out to
that's-
try to pick people to pull
That
them
too,
up.
but
Like,
at the
pull
same
your boys
time, it's
up,
like-
but your boys might
I
not
get
want
what
to
you're
come.
saying.
exactly, but then it's also like, I'm a fraud if I turn back on it.
Right.
I'm not
That's
me.
exactly it,
I'm not you.
But that's what I
Yeah.
said, you don't know how to do it. And even when you look at Jay-Z's career, since you use him as the example, there have been some stumbles along the way
Sure.
with him. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It's
man.
just that's just what
Not
it is.
recently,
You have
but in the past.
yeah, you have to learn that. And I think surrounding yourself with different people allow you to do that. But you don't know how to surround yourself with different people because
Right.
we don't know how to socialize because we're institutionalized. It's the PTSD thing, and this is a completely different conversation for another day, really. You know what I mean? But you don't even know
I'm game
how.
for that discussion. That's
Like
cool.
you don't know how. Like I promise you, I didn't even. I'll use myself for example. I didn't even know how emotionally immature I was until I got into college, like deep into college, hanging around different characters, or not different characters, different people, different cultures. And I'm just like, I wasn't even aware because
until you experience that stuff
Yeah.
that's beyond what you grew.
because everybody in the hood, we all speak and sound and look the same. We're having the same thing. We handle our situations the same way. Like there's certain responses that are elicited because disrespect. It's just that's what you
Right.
were taught and
Yep.
instilled. And then being in a single parent household takes that even a step further because the single mother is trying to do the best in raising men and not really having the adequacy to do that. So they're telling you this is how you respond to something. This is how you do this. So you go outside. It's like that's how you have to respond. To the point now where my mother still texts me and my brothers every day, every morning almost 4 or 5 times a week. If something happens, just walk away. But you spent 14, 15 years of my life telling me like if something happens, you go
better-
fight.
yeah,
you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So now
Now it's a
because
change.
man up.
it's a
Right.
change, and it's like how I mean we talk about all the time. Me and my brother's like, yo, you don't even have that mindset now to, and again, just God for me, like that's where kind of my boundaries kind of come into play at, and even still you go over those because sometimes you just are in a situation where
Right.
you have to react, and that's where I say you don't know how. Nobody's there is telling you how to do this, and when people do, it's like you don't want to receive the message because sometimes you have to bump your head a little bit, and unfortunately what we're seeing with artists or younger artists is they're bumping their head, but that bump in the head is sending them it's either
Yeah.
to the grave or to like jail for life. You know
Because
what I mean?
I'll
And that's
admit,
the-
like I grew up, and I definitely got a different life experience than you. But
Yeah.
I grew up going to city schools where I was at a school where I was, it was definitely mixed. Let me say that. So I was not like the majority at the school.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely was a rough situation. I ended up hanging out with different people for different reasons because of my life situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up hanging out with the wrong people. I had to move all the way across country when I was 20 to get out.
Right.
Like I left.
I don't know
went
if I
all
said this
the
to
way
you
across.
before, but like, let me just have you read a book before?
Have I read a book?
I'm being serious. Like, I really think you should be, and I'm not trying
It's
to.
just I just like having an interesting life because one of my beliefs, one of my real,
I've
And
lived
you're
this
only
life.
halfway there.
I've lived this life by choice.
well, it's just
just
a
like
lot of
having
stuff.
it
Like
interesting.
you can't stay in the same hole for your entire life because then you're just a dead rabbit, man. Like forget that. Like you got to get out of your hole. So
but
it's
I was
just one of
asking
those.
that question because I think again I just go back to what I told you before earlier. I think your story can help somebody. So I just something
No,
to
it's
think
one of
about.
those things, and that's why I talk to a lot of people on my own, and
Yeah.
like I try to have like some constructive talks with, especially younger guys,
Yeah.
like because we all have a lot to learn. Like I'll admit my mistakes. Like that's what I do as a father. Like I try to admit my mistakes in life, because we all know. Like if we would have listened to everything that people told us, we would have avoided so much problems.
I'd
And
be
a lot
a
of times,
millionaire.
we have to. A lot of times we have to learn it on
If
our
I had
own.
a dime for every time.
But my dad, my dad, he wasn't around a ton when I was a kid. Like he's not really a kid type person. So like when I'm just
In a nutshell.
That's funny.
I'm just trying to be legit.
Yeah.
Like I love him dearly, but I remember when I had my kid, he's just like, and okay, like he just hand him over. But
this
like my parents
these
got
kids
divorced.
are really not my thing.
My parents got divorced when I was 14, and then he was just like, shit, I'm gonna hang out with this kid now, because legally I'm obligated to hang out with this kid. So, and I love the guy, and he's probably would have a heart attack if he heard this, but it's just it, and I love our relationship because for me it's like we're friends. So my dad does this amazing thing. Like I don't ask my mom for advice ever because she's one of those people that gives you advice, and if you don't take it, she'll rap on you for like the next 6 months about why you didn't do that. My dad wraps it up in a clean little package, drops it on the porch, and walks away. Like he's just like, and here you go. And if you don't take it and all shit goes wrong, he doesn't say nothing about it whatsoever. He understands, like, he knows, like, he probably should have took it, and he just walks away. And so that's what I do with my son, and that's what I do with the people that I talk to and stuff like that. Like, I just do the little, here's your gift, and I'm out. And if you like it, that's cool. If not, I'm not going to be like, see, you should have took it.
Right.
And so that's one thing that
I
he's
told you
taught me,
so.
like, as being more of, like, a good friend than a traditional father.
Right.
You
But
know
I
what
feel
mean?
like the book in that instance
but
would
in-
be that. It'll
Yeah.
be here's the information on the porch. And
Yeah,
it's not even,
here's the
it's
thing.
more, I think it'll be more so autobiographical for you, in my opinion. Just hearing what you say.
Oh,
about it.
I've been through fucking hell in a handbasket,
And
man.
and
I'll
that-
tell you
and
that.
that's
But it's
the
been
point.
super fun. Like,
But you can.
in a bad way. Like, my life is
But it's the lesson though.
my life
it's
has
the
fucking
message.
taught me things throughout the entire thing. Like, if you look at everything self-critically, then you're never going to learn anything from it. You know
So,
what I mean?
to Delano's point, what is cool about what's happened recently within the last decade, right? To keep it on topic a little
Yeah,
bit.
and I'm gonna tell
Well,
you
I had
here in a
something on
second.
topic, but then I lost what I was saying.
we're at over 3 hours now.
Really?
Yeah, people stopped listening a couple
Well,
minutes ago.
totally. Since I started recording maybe like 20 minutes before we actually got going. But
we're
is
just
that
having
is
fun.
that the
Yeah.
another really good thing that's come out of the way things are now, with like people being able to put their music out there on their own, and really cutting out the middleman, is self-publishing too. Like the same thing. Like you're able to.
Not trying to force you to do anything. I
No,
just think it'd be
Well,
but
good.
think
now-
about
but
how many
nowadays-
people have come out and put their material out there and become big because
but
of it.
but,
Like,
but
that's amazing.
nowadays, like it's never been easier. Before, there was always these hoops and these middlemen you had to go through to get anything done, and there's a lot of time now where you're able to bypass.
Do you
all
think
that.
it's easier, or do you think it's harder to separate the wheat from the chaff?
No, it's both.
Easier.
It's easier, but it's also harder, right? So like, whereas it's easier for you to get your material out there on your own, you now have to do most of the work to promote it.
Which is
whereas
why it's
whereas
easier to
before
separate the wheat from the tare.
before it was harder to get your material out there, but once it did, you didn't have to do that work. That was behind the distributor. Whoever was doing that work for you, they did all that work, right? Because now they were invested in it, so they were the ones putting out the money to promote it, to get it out there. So it is a kind of like the double-edged sword, right? Like there's never been a more creative time where you're able to get your shit out there, but also you have to do the work. And I think that's where maybe you see the separation between the people that really want it versus the people that just want it and talk about it. Because to really make it, to really get it out there, you have to do the work. Like for instance, this show, right? Like doing this is, I'm not making any money. It's purely for fun at this point. Like if I make some extra money that's like supplemental income, cool. But if not, no big deal, right?
Well, I think it takes a while.
It does take a while, but it's not like a priority. Like I never started doing this with the intention of, oh, dude, I'm gonna make.
You gotta get some blood on your hands first. You gotta crack some knuckles
for sure. Yeah. But like, there's other podcasts that like I follow on Instagram and stuff where they are every day 10 posts at least. They're posting memes, they're posting stuff about their episodes, all that. My digital footprint's pretty small. You know, I just recently put in my phone like calendar reminders every other day to put 3 posts out around 8 o'clock. 3 things just to increase my content, because I hate the social media aspect of it, and I hate that part of trying to push it, but I understand that it's for this to reach more people and to have a bigger impact and to attract more guests and to help me find people that want to, you know, come and share their stories, that I need to reach a wider audience. So it's what I have to do, and I think this time has been able to do that, has been able to allow people to create that stuff. But maybe that's where we've talked about before, that barrier to entry. Maybe that's the new barrier, is the work.
The work.
Right? Like that's the new barrier, because anybody can put out some garbage, but for that garbage to really reach everyone, they got to put in the work to get that garbage out there.
I think that's an answer for anything for the most part. Like nobody walks into shit.
No, but I think it was.
I mean,
before there were times,
of some kind, you know, like
there were times where you were able to just get that lucky strike, and all the rest of the work was done for you. Yeah, we're at 3 hours.
I think
it's a rock and roll fantasy.
Yeah, like you said, the work is what separates everything now, and I think the mindset is that it looks easy because social media makes it look so easy. Because everybody posts their final product on social media. Nobody posts their process.
That is the definite hard part, because you know you don't see prior to cuts or discussion or
you don't
everything,
see
or all
the failed
bloopers.
edits. You don't see. That's what I enjoy about what JP does with this show, because it's like I'm showing the growth. I'm big on the process because again, it's your testimony, it's your story. It shows how you did what you did, which is why I was saying with you, I think your story is an interesting one that can help someone. And that's the thing we don't see. And everybody has a platform for a reason. Use your platform responsibly. Again, don't cancel us. This is a joke. These are jokes. If you heard something here that offended you,
I love how he keeps looking at the cameras. It's great.
Just have a conversation. Don't
Pleading
kill
with the
people
audience.
for their opinion. You'll be surprised, man. People are offended.
Be surprised at how excited you
Yes.
get when you actually listen to opinion outside of your own.
Yes, and I feel like that's the thing. I feel like that's what I try to do. Now, some stuff is just far-fetched and just like I'm not entertaining that, but I know I'm not going to entertain it, so I don't even...
I try to research what I don't understand.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, this is what I believe and
Right.
fuck everybody else.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, one last question for everyone: what do you see the next 10 years bringing?
Bringing me or bringing the world?
Just bringing the world, because for us individually, I mean, it could be so many things, especially depending on what our goals are and what we're trying to accomplish, right? But for the general world, and if you want to even narrow it down to the United States, just because like we're in such a period of turmoil and where everything is so bipartisan, and it is that true us against them mentality, it feels like in my lifetime, from when I've been paying attention, that we've never been so divided, and it's a really big frustration for me, because it's how can progress be made, how can anything get done if we're so worried with just battling the other person because they're the other person versus what's better for everyone. So what do you guys think is the next 10 years looks like?
Terrible.
I'll be happy if the rest of what hasn't already happened doesn't continue to happen in the movie Idiocracy, because we're already there. We're already there.
President Comanche.
Comancho's president.
Comancho.
I mean,
yeah.
Stupid people continue to breed. I mean, and continue to put their opinion out there and brainwash everyone. And I'll be happy if we don't end up there with the piles of trash too.
I think again everything is going to be terrible.
Wally.
Exactly.
I think it's going to get worse. Even from a political standpoint, I think that gets worse. I think you see more devastating deaths. I think you see more devastating like fires, like the war with the wildfires. We're seeing earthquakes because the earth is giving out on itself for various reasons. I think you see a lot more of that. I think you see a lot more.
We're ready for another disaster.
Yeah, I think you see a lot more what we're seeing with the suicide rate going up. I just don't see this next decade being as great as we think it should be, and I think it's because nobody has found a solution to the problems that we have right now. You know what? Let me not say that. I'm not gonna say that. Let me not dive that deep into it. I say the next 5 years look like that. I think after that we'll maybe see some light, but for the next 5 years, I think it gets worse. Personally,
I think there's a long-term win in it, and I only say that because I don't believe in what I'm seeing, because of course the squeaky wheel is always squeaking. Like,
God damn, this guy his analogies.
What is always out there, what you see on a daily basis,
I'm surprised you weren't writing all these down.
I remember.
Is the worst of the worst. And I believe that there's people that are using this time to analyze, to think, to get better, to become a greater version of themselves. They're just not the ones that are in the forefront right now.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, there's definitely going to have to be a changing of the guard for sure.
As the time moves on,
to say the least.
like as he's talking about like 5 years, like I think at the end of 10 years, there will be like a crash and a turn. Like it is one of those things where this negativity has a point where it has to run its course at one time. And it's not negativity on one side, it's negativity with everyone.
Yeah.
Like it's negativity with communication, with discussion, with debate, with anything that can be. There is no innocence and there is no guilty in this. It is 100% across the board.
What's that quote where it's like there's no facts, they're just merely opinions? Who said that?
I don't know.
That's a great quote.
That's a good quote.
I don't know, but opinions are like assholes. Everyone has them and they all stink.
I'm going to say you said it so far.
Yeah. It's up there with street. It's up there with the streets. It's digital.
I'm definitely posting this.
Yeah, the streets is digital. Like, but I really believe that it isn't as negative as it wants to be, and the people that try to rise above the negativity will be the ones that win in the long term.
And that's what I agree. And I know we kind of cutting off, but I just want to piggyback on that right quick, because that's what I'm trying to. You did a very better job of articulating what I was trying to say, like much better. You know, which is the wisdom of why you need to write your book. But anyway, like that is exactly what I'm trying to say. And going again, this is not a spiritual podcast, but I'm going to make spiritual references here. I think God is utilizing all of the negativity, which is why I said the negativity needs to run its course, to put those people in true place. Because a lot of the times, if feathers doesn't get ruffled or things don't happen, some people don't have the courage to step up because the necessity is not there. And I think out of this negativity, you're going to see a lot of generational wealth birth once this tide turns, and you're going to see a lot of things change for the better after this tide turns, and we're going to experience peace on another level that I think we haven't seen in some time. And I think we're going to ride that for a period of time, probably 20 years, I would say, after this initial 4 to 5. I think 4 to 5, that 5 year mark is we're going to see that turn start to slowly happen, and we'll slowly see things retiring.
We're dying.
That could be that too.
Yeah, the next couple years are still going to be a shit show for sure.
But I have a lot of belief in my son's generation.
I just want to say I enjoy coming to the Get Up podcast every time I come. I always get to meet interesting people every time, have interesting conversations. I appreciate JP for this. Am I closing the show out? That is so awesome that I get to close the show
so.
out.
You have the voice.
There's something else playing in the background too. I was trying to, oh shit. Yeah.
But I just enjoy myself every time I come. I appreciate it. Again, if you need anything business related, talk to me. I'm here. Let's chat. Let's build. I'm interested in all
Well,
those
Delano, how do they get a hold of you?
You can actually follow the Instagram page. It's Building the Bridges for You, all lowercase letters, the number 4 and you at the end. That is how you reach out to me. If you want to email, it's the same thing. Building the Bridges for You, 4 and you, the number 4 and you at Gmail. I'm here for all of those kind of things, and I'm interested to see that. Again, I'm interested to see where things go. I'm interested to see where you go.
Thank you,
and
sir.
Interested to see what happens with this podcast, the stand-up. One of the things I always admire about you is your ability to do new things and your hustle towards it. I think you are more brave than you give yourself credit for. I think what's holding you back is you're so hard on yourself, and I've been telling you that since I've met you.
Like, dude, my ambition. I tell my girlfriend all the time. I'm like, I feel like fucking stressed out because there's so many things I want to do.
But ambition costs. Ambition and cost, and I don't think going back success is rented. Ambition costs, and people don't understand that you have to sacrifice in order to be ambitious. And I think that's the thing we're missing. Going back to the whole decade thing, we see the success on Instagram, we don't realize what it costs. Yeah. It costs something. Everything costs something, and that's what I enjoy about watching you. Everything that you do, sir. I feel like it's success. Even the book, like, it's successful because of your ambition, and it's just you're biding your time. I look at you like how Elton John was. I took him like that 4 or 5 year mark to get the success he wanted to see, but it just was successful, and he didn't really change anything for the most part except for his appearance. And it's like fine tuning, and once you fine tune correctly, you're gonna find this groove that you kind of get in where everything is just gonna work.
Good. I hope so.
I'm end that on a high note. Love you guys.
Delano, again, appreciate you coming on the podcast. Kelly, do you have any final words?
I can't follow that.
Well, Kelly, thank you for being a guest in the podcast for your first
anytime.
time. Justin, thank you for being a guest in the podcast.
Thank you for having me on here.
For the
totally
second time.
appreciate it.
Oh, dude, all the time.
You know I'm in for the third anytime you want.
Excellent. Again, thanks everyone for listening. That is The Get Up. Thanks for listening to The Get Up. Make sure to check out thegetupshow.com for more information on this episode's guests. While you're there, check out other episodes, leave a comment, or if you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, shoot an email to contact@thegetupshow.com. Don't forget to follow, like, and share on Facebook at The Get Up Show Podcast. Follow on Instagram and Twitter at The Get Up Show, and subscribe to The Get Up YouTube channel. The Get Up is available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, YouTube, and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts.